Hello everyone, if you're new to my channel, consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do that. Thanks. By the way, I also have another Naruto and Luffy fanfiction channel. If you are interested, link is in the description. Koby's Choice, Paradise by Sword of the Gods Axe Hand. Morgan single-handedly shattered Koby's faith in the Marines, breaking his dreams. If a pirate is the first one to ever show you kindness in a world run by a corrupt justice, who do you follow? Well, the future king of the pirates, of course, luffyxharem. I don't own anything. Adios. I am really sorry for neglecting his channel. From now, I will be constant in this channel also.
Wealth, fame, power. Gold D. Roger, the king of the pirates, obtained this and everything else the world had to offer, and his dying words sent countless souls to the seas. You want my treasure? You can have it. I left everything I gathered together in one place. Now you just have to find it. These words lured men to the Grand Line in pursuit of dreams greater than they'd ever dared to imagine. This is the time known as the Great Pirate Era. For a guy with so many muscles, that captain person was really weak. A pirate laughed through a mouthful of food. He sat at a table in a restaurant in Shell's Town, a small city on an island in the East Blue. With him sat his newest crew member, the famous bounty hunter, pirate hunter, Roronoa Zoro, whom he had recently rescued from a marine base with the help of the table's third occupant. That was Coby, a young boy of 16 years who looked no older than 12. Monkey D. Luffy was a wiry 17-year-old with black eyes, a mop of black hair, and a small scar under his left eye. The teen's wardrobe consisted of a pair of open-toed sandals, jean shorts, and a red vest. Finally, atop his head was his greatest treasure, the hat for which his pirate crew was named. His only other crewmate was the infamous Roronoa Zoro, a man with short green hair and black eyes. Covering the swordsman's form were a plain white, dust-covered shirt and dark green pants with the bottoms stuffed into black boots. A bandana the same color as his pants was tied around his left bicep, and around his waist was a light green haramaki with 3 swords stuck in the loop placed on the man's right side. The boy in question, Coby, was short and pudgy with large round glasses, blue eyes, pink hair, and a white and blue shirt with blue shorts. He sat, staring at the older teens as they ate without stopping to breathe. Zoro he could understand considering he'd just gone 9 days without food, but Luffy was so scrawny, Coby couldn't understand where all that food was going. Luffy, Coby stuttered, raising his hands across the table as if to stop the pirate. Slow down. We can't eat all of the food here. Not. Luffy blinked, cheeks puffed like a chipmunk. Eyes all free, ain't it? Then Sholm, we eat a lot while can? That's taking advantage of their hospitality. They have to buy all the food even if we aren't. Calm down, shrimp, Zoro waved off, pushing his empty plate away. I don't get how he's eating more than me, but they offered. Okay, fine, Coby sighed, setting aside his feeling on the matter since their strongest people here disagreed with him. He had gotten good at that, ignoring, pretending, accepting, but he still didn't like it. He took a breath before shifting his focus to more immediate concerns. Then what's your plan from here? Our plan? Luffy asked, swallowing. You sound like you aren't coming along, Coby. Did you already forget why we came here? Coby demanded, aghast. I said I wanted to be a marine. Marines are the heroes of the world. Is that what you think? Zoro asked, one eyebrow raised. You just helped take down a corrupt marine, and you're still saying they're the good guys? Well, Coby floundered, his words dying on his lips. He wasn't wrong. Axe Hand, Morgan was only a captain, a small rank in the grand scheme of the Navy, and yet he'd let that modicum of power go to his head and went unchecked. Was that what the Marines stood for? That doesn't change the fact that you don't have a plan, for one. I know Luffy doesn't have any navigational training. Nope. Luffy smiled. She. Do you have any navigational skills, Zoro? Who needs them? Zoro replied with a wave. I just let the wind take me where it wants. It hasn't killed me yet. See, Coby? Luffy smiled. It works. Besides, I hear navigation doesn't work in the Grand Line. Coby blinked, his brain resetting. Great idea, Zoro nodded. We'll fight a lot of strong people there. You want to go to the Grand Line? That's the craziest sea in the world. It's called the Pirate Graveyard because so many people die. If you two go without any help or someone to guide you, you'll die. No question. That's impossible. You can't become the Pirate King if you're dead. That's just impossible. Totally I am. You done yet? Luffy asked, raising his hand from Coby's head where the boy could feel a knot forming. Coby nodded. A couple tears in his eyes as his hands came up to cradle his abused scalp. She. Thanks for worrying, but we'll be fine. All motion within the restaurant paused, shadows filling the doorway. All attention shifted as a platoon of Marines filed inside, led by a man with a deep tan, a black mustache, beard combo, and a green ascot on his uniform. He stood at attention, facing the pirates and Coby who had grown tense. "We thank you for your help in freeing Shell's Town from Morgan," the Marine began, looking over the pirates' heads rather than in the eyes. "We are in your debt, but that does not change the fact that you are self-proclaimed pirates. In consideration of your actions, we will turn a blind eye to your status and ask you to leave quickly and quietly." "But sir," Coby all but yelled, "you can't even give them the evening to rest?" "I cannot. Pirates are pirates, so we must ask you to leave at the very least." "Yeah, okay," Luffy shrugged, polishing off his plate before rising from the table and collecting a bag of food as thanks from the bar's owner. Zoro followed his lead, the two passing the Marine on their way to the door. Coby watched with a tumult of emotions inside him, not knowing how to feel. "Hey, you," the Marine called as he turned to look at Coby. "Aren't you part of the crew as well?" As Coby froze, racking his brain for a response, the people around the room remained focused on him. The two official members of the Straw Hat Pirates, as well as the Marines that had come to kick them out of Shell's Town, paused. Behind the bar's counter were the female owner of the establishment and her daughter, Rika. The little girl, who could be no more than 7, was like a miniature version of her mother. Both had brown hair, a fair complexion, and big brown eyes. And both were waiting for Coby's answer just like everyone else in the building. "Well, he stammered. Should he deny even knowing Luffy, the man who had rescued him from the torment that the pirate Alvida had put him through for more than 2 years? Or would he say yes? Doing so could brand him as a criminal, a wanted man, someone who could never work for the Marines unless he obtained the title of warlord. By the door, Luffy turned away to exit, a bag of food resting over his shoulder offered by the owner. He was quiet, waiting to see if the boy's answer would happen before he left. "Hold it," the Marine man ordered, turning to the young captain. Luffy stopped. "Is he with you or what?" "What I can tell you is what he's been busy doing up to this point," the teen pirate responded in a happy tone. Coby turned with a shocked look on his face. "Yeah? There was this fantastically fat pirate lady. I think her name was Al." "Stop," Coby yelled, coming to one conclusion. If Luffy was going to tell them about his past, about Alvida, then there was no way he would ever be allowed to join the Marines. But would that be such a bad thing? Everyone looked at the pink-haired boy as he steeled himself before continuing, memories coming to him of his life before running into Alvida. It has been a tough few days for young Coby after the last pirate raid. The horror of the ashes and rubble of Moan Island's outlying district a sign that the next few months would be a struggle. That meant little to the boy, however, as he sat on the grass, staring at a pair of simple stones. He'd been evacuated with the rest of the children, but... "Why?" Coby sniffed, whispers of the village's people pitying him on the edge of his hearing. "Why did you stay? Why did you have to fight? Mom? Dad?" Coby could feel his tears flowing freely now, born from the pang of loss. He wasn't OL, but he knew no one would take him in. His parents' friends had too many kids of their own and his godmother had left on a ship not long ago. He had no one. But rather than blame the world, something his father had once said echoed in the young orphan's mind. "Don't hate the sea when no fish bite, for that means there are more to catch tomorrow. The world is the same way. Don't lament your loss, but celebrate your chances." His father had always been an optimist. Even so, Coby wiped his tears away and stood, making a choice there. "Mom. Dad. I've decided. When I grow up, I'm going to make sure no one else feels this. I'm going to be a hero." Coby kept that ideal for 4 years, fighting for survival until he ended up on Alvida's ship and got a taste of what real pirates could be like. "Mom. Dad. Would you support my decision here?" Coby wondered, his memory and thoughts coming in the blink of an eye. "I'll do it. I'll do the impossible. The Grand Line is a place where I can get strong enough to fulfill my dream, assuming I don't die." He sucked in a breath. I am part of their crew." Zoro blinked in surprise while Rika and her mother gasped in shock. This boy had been talking about joining the Marines not 5 minutes ago and now he was claiming to be a pirate? What had changed? The Marine raised an eyebrow. "So you admit to being a member of this man's pirate crew?" "Yes," Coby nodded, trying to ignore his shaking legs. "I had always wanted to be a Marine to fulfill my dream, but after seeing what Morgan did using his authority as a Marine captain, I don't want any part in that, not anymore. So instead of being a Marine, I'll follow Luffy to see him become the king of the pirates." Luffy smiled. She. That's assuming I want you on my crew." "You don't want me," Coby whimpered, tears starting to form in his glasses-covered eyes. He'd risked his future. Was it over for him already? She. "I'm just joking, Coby. No need to cry. I'd love to have you on my crew." Luffy smiled again, but the Marine spoke once more. "Then I'm afraid I must ask you all to leave. We will not report you because of what you've done for our town, but we cannot have you stay." Luffy and Coby took their cue to exit and joined Zoro at the door before making their way through the streets. The people of Shell's Town thanked them as they passed, showing their happiness over the defeat of the wretched axe hand, Morgan. Luffy smiled and waved, laughing at the people's exuberance. Zoro stayed passive while Coby considered what he had just done to himself. He had only known Luffy for a day at most and he'd already pledged his life to the energetic, hat-wearing teen. Though he'd still known him longer than Zoro, for whatever that comfort was worth. "Hey, Captain Luffy," Coby asked, getting the rubber man's attention. "Where are we going next?" "To the docks. And after that?" "I don't know," the captain answered, causing Coby to trip in surprise. They talked about not having a plan, but Coby didn't think it would bite them this soon. "You don't know?" the boy yelled as he rose and caught up to both the devil fruit user and the swordsman. "How can you not know? You're our captain, aren't you?" Coby stumbled, Luffy's fist punching the top of his head. "Ow, why did you hit me?" "Felt like it. Plus you were asking too many questions. It was giving me a headache." By then, the three-man crew had reached the docks where the tiny sailed lifeboat that Luffy and Coby had taken from Alvida's crew sat bobbing in the water. Zoro stepped in as Luffy undid the rope holding the craft to the shore and threw it into the dinghy. They set off without fanfare. The boat was making its way out to sea, the slow waves bobbing the craft up and down. Behind them, the Marines had lined up on the dock and were saluting the three. In front of them were Rika and her mother waving at the group and telling them to return someday. "Men," the man with the green ascot yelled, "because our salute is in clear violation of Marine protocol, we will not be allowed to eat for 3 days, understood?" "Yes, sir," Luffy and Coby waved to the men and women until the island was out of sight. "Alright," Zoro yawned. "Now that we've set off, we've got some important things to do." "Like finding out where we're going," Coby agreed. "And finding a musician," Luffy nodded. "We don't need a musician," Zoro and Coby yelled in unison. She. "Isn't this fun?" Luffy asked, smiling out into the distance. "This is our first voyage as a pirate crew." "It does look like it's shaping up to be one hell of an adventure," Zoro commented, leaning back. "And I'm going to become the Pirate King." "You keep saying that. Any reason why you want to?" "Nope, but I made a friend a promise." Luffy reached up to hold his hat. "I promised to gather an amazing crew and to return this hat to him once I become the Pirate King, so that's what I'm going to do." "Hey, it's funny, Coby. I meant to rile you up so you'd slug me and be allowed to join the Marines, not become a pirate, too." "Really?" Coby questioned. "Either way," Zoro sighed, "it seems we'll all need to become stronger if we want a place on your crew. Isn't that right, Coby?" That's right. I'll become strong. I'll help Captain Luffy achieve his dream. That or we'll all die trying. I don't know about you two, but I don't plan on dying anytime soon. I need to become the world's greatest swordsman." "The world's greatest swordsman?" Coby cried out in shock. "Then you would have to defeat Hawkeye Mihawk. That's impose." "Any reason for your dream?" Luffy asked. "Same as yours," Zoro shrugged, ignoring the small Rosset. "Made a promise, now I've got to keep it." "We still need to gather a crew first," Luffy pointed out, turning to the horizon. "Just wait. Grand Line, here we come." "I'm hungry," Luffy whined for the 15th time in as many minutes, much to the ire of the boat's other awake occupant. They had been traveling for nearly 2 hours and their captain had eaten all the food they'd had from the village within half of that time. It only took that long because he was rationing. Coby glanced at his compass and adjusted the sail's angle. The young boy was the only one of the three of them with any skill at navigating, reaffirming their talk in Shell's town. Luffy had never bothered to learn while Zoro was completely stupid when it came to directions. This was proven when he claimed that they needed to move away from the sun because it was 5 o'clock and the sun rises forward and sets behind. Luffy then tried to argue that the S on the compass stood for sun, so the sun was always in that direction. Their squabbling had lasted for a good 10 minutes before Zoro decided to take a nap and Luffy started to whine about boredom. The conversation started to sound a little something like this. "Coby, where's the food? You ate it, Captain Luffy." "Ate it? When did I? An hour ago, Captain. But now I'm hungry again." "Coby, do you know how to cook?" "Not really. I can cook fish, but that's about it." "If I caught a fish, could you cook it?" "Not here." "Why not? We're in a boat. So, boats are made of wood. So, wood burns. The boat would catch fire and we'd either drown or burn to death." "That doesn't sound fun." "No, it do? Hey look. A bird. Come here you." Luffy stretched his arm, latching onto the large, pink bird flying over the boat in an attempt to bring it down and eat it. What Luffy didn't anticipate was the size of the bird. It was larger than their dinghy and barely registered Luffy grabbing on. The captain in question was lifted from the boat. "Crap, help me." "Captain Luffy," Coby cried out. Zoro, who had been woken by Luffy's initial call to the feathered animal, could only stare as the man that claimed he was going to become the Pirate King was carried away. "Should we do something about that?" Zoro yawned. "Yes, alright. Geez, calm down, shrimp. Grab an oar." As Zoro said this, Luffy lost sight of the boat. Not that he was aware of the fact was riding a bird, for Roger's sake. Thoughts of both his tiny crew in a tiny boat and eating his transportation were overridden by the excitement of the wind whistling through his hair. There was a moment of panic where Luffy nearly lost his hat, but it was rectified by a single stretch of his arm. Back on the boat, Zoro and Coby were rowing as hard as they could. And they weren't going anywhere. Logically, when two people row together at the same time, a boat moves forward, but this is with the assumption that both are about the same size and with the same strength. Coby and Zoro were about as far apart in that regard as Reverse Mountain is from Fishman Island. The large strength gap caused them to move in one big circle. Damn it, Zoro cursed. We lost him. I'm sorry, Coby whined, tears once more beginning to leak from his eyes. It's all my fault. I knew I was just going to hold Captain Luffy back and now we've lost him because I'm so weak. I should just throw myself overboard. Ow. Why did you hit me? You were being too loud. Now calm down and give me that oar. Zoro grabbed the outstretched paddle and moved to the front of the ship. Which way did he go? If I remember correctly, the bird was moving northwest, so that way. Coby pointed over the port side. The swordsman began rowing at a speed Coby had thought impossible. The boy took hold of the mast in order to keep his footing and not fly off the speeding ship. They stayed that way for a few minutes. Directly in their path were three men. The first was a ginger with hair that looked like a flattened afro. The second was a muscular, dark-skinned man. The third, who seemed to be the leader, had multiple ear piercings and was missing a couple of teeth. He also wore a black bandana with a skull and crossbones that had a large red nose and a flashy hat. You in the boat, the man with the bandana called. Help us. I'm not stopping, Zoro called back. If you want in, grab on when I pass. The men screamed as Zoro rowed past, grabbing the side of the boat lest they be swept up in the boat's wake and left behind in the middle of the ocean. They pulled themselves up and into the boat and came to rest on the deck, breathing heavily and dripping seawater. As soon as they had caught their breath, they pulled their swords from the sheaths on their belts. Hey, thanks for the save, the bandana-wearing man chuckled, but we are taking this ship now. You see, we're with Buggy the Clown. B-B Buggy the Clown? Coby screeched. One of the most feared pirates in all of the East Blue? The very same, the man chuckled. He and his cronies advanced on the terrified boy and the impassive swordsman. Who's this Buggy the Clown guy? Zoro asked. You don't know who Buggy the Clown is? Coby gasped. Zoro remained unmoved with the exception of his arms which were still rowing at his ungodly, for the East Blue, speed. No I don't. Is that a problem? It might be for your health, the man sneered, if you don't give us the boat. I'd like to see you try. Zoro shot back. Zoro, maybe we should give them the boat. Better to live and find Captain Luffy later than to die here. Not a chance, shrimp. Did he say, Zoro, as in Roronoa Zoro? The ginger man stuttered. The infamous pirate hunter? The other man muttered fearfully. Oh, so you've heard of me? Shut up, you fools, their leader hissed. This can't be Roronoa Zoro. Why would he be out here looking for this Captain Luffy guy? Plus any real pirate hunter would have heard of Captain Buggy. You're starting to piss me off, Zoro growled. He stopped rowing and prepped his swords. The men advanced. One short not really a fight later, we're sorry, Mr. Zowo, the bandana-wearing man apologized through a busted lip. Beside him, his partners had taken up rowing the boat. Luckily they could still use a paddle when both of their eyes were swollen shut. We didn't twink it with you. Yeah, Zoro waved off. He was disappointed in the fight and was itching to cut something. Just listen to the shrimp's directions and you won't find yourselves stranded at sea again. Yet there. Are we headed the right way, shrimp? Coby, who was hung up on seeing such threatening men beaten with so little effort, snapped out of his thoughts. Oh, why yes. I'm not sure how far it is to land, but we are moving in the direction we saw that bird take Captain Luffy. Good. I'm going to take a nap. Shrimp, if any of these morons make any suspicious moves, wake me up. I'll cut first and ask questions later. With that, Zoro sat on the deck and leaned against the wall, his arm wrapped around his swords protectively. Zoro gave the men one last glare before he closed his eyes and was soon snoring softly, leaving a scared Coby with the three terrified Buggy pirates. Is this strength? Coby wondered as he watched Zoro nap. He's strong enough for men to fear him even when he's asleep. If I could be that strong. Meanwhile, Luffy screamed. One moment he was flying high, the next an explosion caused his ride to plummet. He landed in a street in the middle of four people, kicking up an impressive cloud of dust. All four looked at him, expecting to see his mangled and broken body. What they did not expect was for him to stand and pat the dust off himself as if he fell from the sky every other day. Aw man, Luffy whined childishly, I was having so much fun on that bird. Captain, one of the figures exclaimed. She was an orange-haired girl dressed in a blue and white striped shirt, an orange skirt, and heeled sandals. She grabbed Luffy's arm, batting her eyelashes at him. I'm so glad I found you. These men were trying to kill me. Could you take care of them? Huh? Luffy questioned. Thanks, Captain. The woman scampered away, fully expecting the men to kill the dim pirate. So this is the captain of the bitch who stole our map? One of the men wondered aloud. Doesn't look like much to me, another muttered. They advanced on the pirate with a straw hat. And the first man was promptly thrown away by his extended fist. He collided with a building and slumped to the ground, unconscious. Luffy looked around, wondering where he was. What is this guy? Who cares? Kill him. The remaining two advanced with swords raised, only to be stopped short with a call of, "Gum gum pistol." They fell like sacks of potatoes. I don't know who these guys were, but they're weak. Luffy laughed, standing alone in the street. Hey, you, Nami called from a rooftop where she had climbed to watch the fight she had been expecting. Thanks. You're really strong. My name's Nami, by the way. Do you want to team up? No thanks, lady, Luffy waved off in a bored tone. I think I'll pass. He turned and started to walk off. Hey wait, Nami called as Luffy's stomach growled, giving the orange-haired thief an idea. She smiled. Can I invite you for a meal? Luffy paused, giving the woman the time she needed to make a few hops down to the street where she linked her arm with Luffy's. Nice to meet ya. I'm Nami, I'm sure we'll be the best of friends. Also meanwhile, Captain, a random pirate in a circus outfit shouted. The bird has been shot down. We are sending men to retrieve the corpse to use it as part of our feast just as you ordered. Good, Buggy the clown smiled menacingly. It should have known what was going to happen, trying to be flashier than me with all those pink feathers. Biwahahaha, now men let's. Captain Buggy, you think you are, flashily cutting me off. That's punishable by flashy death by Buggy Ball. I'm sorry, Captain, the man cried out, but I just received word that our map of the Grand Line has been stolen by a woman with orange hair. Buggy's hand shot away from his wrist and locked around the crew member's neck. What did you say? Buggy questioned in an eerily calm voice. The man was gasping for air, his legs kicking the air uselessly. A woman, W with orange hair. She stole our map. Buggy dropped the pirate who took great heaving breaths. Men, the clown pirate roared. Find that woman in the map, and bring me the fools who lost it in a cage. We'll have a flashy execution. Yes sir. Monkey D. Luffy sat at a table in an abandoned house in Orange Town, an empty plate sitting before him. Across from the rubber man was Nami, the orange-haired thief he was trying to recruit to be his crew's navigator. Join my crew. I told you, I am not a pirate, I hate pirates, and I will never be a pirate. Come on, it'll be fun. No listen here, I want you on my crew, so you're on my crew. That's not how it works, come on, I said, no. Fine, Luffy huffed, sitting down and crossing his arms as he pouted. Your loss. Nami walked over to the window. Outside, some men were arguing about finding a thief. A plan started forming in her head, one that just might rid her of this idiot pirate and get her away from Buggy along with all of his treasure. How about this? She began slowly, turning from the window. I'll agree to be your navigator if you agree to certain conditions. Half an hour later. What have we here? Buggy the clown questioned. Before him stood the woman who had stolen his stolen map of the Grand Line, said map clutched in her hand, and a black-haired boy tied up with rope and wearing the familiar straw hat. What are you doing? I'm tired of working for this guy, the girl answered, giving the boy a hard shove that caused him to fall on his face. He's childish, immature, and treats the world like it's a game. I want to work for you instead. Really now? Buggy's facial expression was unreadable. What do you call yourself? I'm Nami. Well, I guess this calls for a celebration to welcome our new member Nami. The next few minutes flashed by far too quickly for Nami to follow. Music was played with off-key singing, food and booze were passed around, and the teen in the straw hat was thrown into a cage. The party stayed that way for a good 10 minutes more, Nami still reeling, before something truly interesting happened. Let's get this party amped up, Buggy called, a flagon of alcohol raised and a blush on his cheeks to match his nose. Bring out the cannon. The pirates cheered as a trio of them wheeled out a larger-than-average cannon from one of the crew's tents. They aimed it out over the town and loaded a red ball with Buggy's symbol on it into the weapon. Now bring out the idiots. Next, the three men Nami had knocked unconscious when she'd taken the map were pulled out in a cage not unlike the one Luffy was currently in. They were placed in front of the cannon, their pleas for mercy unheeded by Buggy or his men. Nami waited as one of the crew lit the fuse with a match. They backed away and covered their ears as the cannon fired with a massive boom. The girl from Kokoyashi village could only watch in absolute horror at the destruction caused by the Buggy ball. 1 second there were 3 caged men and a row of houses, the next nothing but rubble remained. What was that? She cried out. One of my special Buggy balls, Buggy the clown explained with a cruel smile. With these and my devil fruit powers, I will flashily conquer the Grand Line. No way. Luffy whined from his cage. I'm the one who's gonna conquer the Grand Line. What? And then I'm gonna become the king of the pirates. Bawahahaha. Buggy laughed. Not if you're dead, Straw Hat Boy. Now, Nami, fire the next one at your ex-captain. Kill him to prove your loyalty to me. The terrified thief was handed a box of matches as the oversized weapon was reloaded and repositioned, now pointing at Luffy. Fire, 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 the crowd chanted. What are you waiting for? Buggy prodded. Go on, Luffy ordered, startling the shaking teen. Do you have the pirate's resolve? To do what? She demanded. To kill without giving it a second thought? No, to put your life on the line for your dreams and your morals. There was a tense silence between the two while Nami debated with herself internally. A greasy-looking pirate snatched the matches out of her hand, his patience for waiting gone. Here, little girl. The pirate smiled suggestively. Let me show you how to have fun. He lit the match and time seemed to slow down for the navigator. In an instant, she made her decision, pulled out her personal weapon, a bow staff, snapped all three pieces together, and slammed it into the top of the man's head. He went down, stars clouding his vision. So you chose your old captain after all, Buggy growled, not surprised but disappointed all the same. Fine then. I'll just kill you both. Or, I'll just kill you. Your captain is done for anyway. Wahahaha. True to his word, the pirate had lit the fuse before Nami's surprise attack. Are you going to save me then? Luffy perked up. Don't be stupid, the girl replied, glancing over her shoulder at the teen. I'm not doing this for you. I just won't lower myself to the level of these inhuman pirates. Pirates took the life of someone I cared for. I'll never forgive them and never join them. Get out of the way, a gruff voice ordered. Nami chose not to question it and dove away from the lit cannon. A second later, a slash of air cut through the fuse, leaving it to burn out on the ground harmlessly. The pirates and thief turned to the origin of the attack to see a man with short green hair and 3 swords, one of which was out, and a boy with short pink hair and a white and blue shirt standing on the edge of the building. See? The man questioned, showing that he had given the order. I told you we would make it in time. You started out going the wrong way, the younger of the two shouted back. Zoro, Luffy called, the name causing whispers in the crowd. Coby, you made it. Did he say, Zoro, the pirate hunter? Is he here for the captain's head? It can't be that. He'd never win against the captain's devil fruit power. Girl, are you hurt? Zoro asked. And no, Nami responded. Good. Luffy, what did you do? I thought you were smarter than to get stuffed into a cage. Of course, you did get carried off by a bird first. He began walking over to Luffy's cage before the voice of a clown stopped him. So you're the infamous pirate hunter, Zoro. If you're here for my head, you have quite a struggle before you. No thanks, Zoro waved off. Not interested. Oh, but I am. Killing you would boost my reputation. Let's just grab Captain Luffy and get out of here, the pink-haired boy stuttered. Shrimp, Zoro ordered. Grab Luffy and pull him through the bars. Buggy the clown, I'm warning you. Back away now or I will kill you. Funny. I was going to say that last part. The two men prepped themselves for combat. Be careful, Zoro, Coby warned. It said that Buggy the clown has a power that makes him immune to swords. Good to know, Shrimp. Zoro placed his favorite sword, Wado Ichimonji, in his mouth and put himself in a loose, offensive stance. Buggy sprung forward with a cry of, Die, and Zoro lunged. They were frozen for a second before the pirate captain split, his right arm and leg separating at the joints and his body cut horizontally. He fell. Well, that was boring, Luffy commented. Coby ran over and began yanking on the rubber man, pulling his head out easy enough. He was really weak. I don't think it's over yet, Zoro started, keeping his guard up. Shrimp seems to know more about these pirate captains than I do. He recognized Buggy's name when I didn't. Zoro turned on a dime, blocking the knife with the sound of metal on metal contact filling the air for half a second. The knife spun away, taking with it the floating hand of Buggy the clown. What the? Zoro questioned before coming to a realization. Oh, I get it. You ate a devil fruit, didn't you? How very observant of you, Roronoa Zoro, Buggy commented, his body fusing back together. You're correct. I ate the chop devil fruit, so now I am a chop man. Since I can separate parts of my body, I cannot be bested by the sword. We'll see collided in a flurry of blades. It was obvious that Zoro was better with weapons and had the longest reach, but the clown's ability nullified both of his advantages. They separated when Buggy actually managed to get a hit on Zoro, a shallow but rather painful gash on his left side. Zoro, Luffy called. The swordsman glanced at his captain to see that their other crew member had pulled most of his body out of the cage and was yanking on his shoulders to get his pelvis to bend, the cannon. Aye, Captain. The green-haired man ran at Buggy who swung, but the man ducked under his attack and kicked him in the back. Buggy was thrown into the crowd as his opponent was propelled past the cannon. The former bounty hunter made his way underneath its barrel and began lifting, making his wound worse, but not life-threatening. Nami, matches, Straw Hat called as he was finally pulled out of the cage by Coby, ending both tumbling to the floor. The girl grabbed the box the other pirate had dropped when she attacked him and made her way around as Zoro flipped the cannon with a burst of strength. She struck a match and lit the fuse, which had been shortened considerably when Zoro had cut it. No, wait, Buggy cried. That still has one of my special Buggy balls in it. Boom. Luffy, still with his arms tied, Zoro, Nami, and Coby being dragged by Zoro ran as if their lives depended on it. Behind them, parts of the rooftop crumbled, falling into the street below. Luffy was laughing his head off, Zoro was silent, and Nami was staring at the hat-wearing pirate thinking he was insane. After all, he has just ordered her to shoot the infamous Buggy the Clown with his own cannon. And she realized she'd done it, too. She had just shot one of the most wanted men in all of the East Blue on the whim of an energetic teen in a cage. She was just as crazy as he was. Buggy shoved the now dead pirate's charred corpse away from him, glad that he had shielded himself in time for the blast. Beside him, his two most devoted followers did the same. Well, that sucked, the one with long dark green hair commented. He moved to retrieve his unicycle from a pile of moaning survivors and unresponsive casualties. Afterward, he tsked at the layer of soot on it. They almost broke my unicycle. Screw your unicycle, the other man, who wore a fluffy white hat that looked like a pair of bear ears, spat. They almost killed Richie. He walked over to a large, white lion with various bright colors dyed into its mane where it was cowering behind its own blackened meat shield. He began whispering consoling words to the giant feline. Moji, Buggy called, catching the man's attention. As soon as Richie is better, I want both of you to track down those insolent fools that dared to try to flashily blow us up and kill them painfully. Kabaji, find out how many survived and can be healed. I have no need for a crippled pirate. Captain Buggy. Eventually, the group stopped by a pet food store where Zoro cut Luffy free from the ropes that still had him pinned. The store had no name as far as they could tell, but the sign clearly said pet food. In front of the store sat a white dog, still as a statue. It eyed the newcomers, but otherwise did not move. That was, until Luffy ran up to the dog. Doggy! Luffy cried like a little child, kneeling before the immobile mammal and reaching out to pet it. The swordsman, thief, and boy's sweat dropped when the dog bit his hand. As Luffy ran around trying to shake the dog off, the green-haired man turned to the orange-haired girl. So I guess you're Nami, then? You know me? There was a waver in her voice. If Roronoa Zoro knew her name, did that mean she was wanted? Was there a bounty on her head? Don't worry, Miss Nami, Coby soothed, recognizing the scared quiver he'd heard in his own voice far too often. Captain Luffy called out your name earlier when he told you to fire that cannon. Oh, okay. So what was Luffy doing in a cage? Zoro asked, tearing a strip of cloth from his shirt and having Coby wrap his wound. He agreed to help me steal Buggy's treasure and in return, I'd be the crew's navigator for a little bit. It's only a temporary thing, but Buggy thought it would be a good idea to have me shoot my former captain, Nami answered, using air quotes. Does that mean we're going to need a bigger boat? Coby questioned. Nah, we can take the one I commandeered from some lovely fellows. Let me guess, Zoro grunted, wincing as Coby finished tightening the makeshift bandage. 3 pirates you left at sea in a storm. You met them, picked them up, beat them up, then forced them to row. Huh, neat. Wait, how did you get Luffy out of that CA? Get away from Shoo, you filthy pirates, an old man yelled, running up to the group where Luffy had still not stopped trying to shake the dog off his hand. The man was dressed in old armor that might withstand one swing of a decent sword, 2 at the first hit just right. His hair was white and his skin tan. He had a short spear on his back. Who are you calling a pirate? Nami cried the same time as Zoro growled, who you calling filthy? You blasted Buggy pirates. The man shouted angrily, pulling the spear off his back to appear menacing. It wasn't enough to run us out of town and take all our money, so now you're stealing from dogs, too? Just how low will you pirates stoop? Wait, mister. Coby exclaimed. We're not with the Buggy pirates, we were actually fighting them a few minutes ago. Didn't you see the big explosion? I saw a row of houses I'd helped build get blown to rubble. The irate old man roared. He swung his spear. Listen, old guy, Luffy said, holding Shoo out where the dog was chewing on his hand like a hanging chew toy while catching the sear with his free hand. We don't like the clown guy any more than you do. That's why we shot him with his own cannon. Why you did what? It was pretty fun, too, she. Well, the man hesitated, taking his spear back as Luffy let go. I guess if you're an enemy of Buggy, then you're a friend to this town. I'm Mayor Boodle. Luffy snickered at the name. And the dog there is Shoo. We're the only 2 left in this town since those pirates came. Everyone else is hiding in the forest. That was a quick turnaround, Nami commented. Why are you still here? Coby asked. I come back once or twice a day to feed Shoo, who refuses to leave the food store his owner ran. He was a good friend of mine, but he died of a disease a few months ago. Poor Shoo. I'm sure he knows his master's gone, but he won't leave his treasure. Treasure? Nami questioned excitedly, her body practically vibrating with greed. The store, Boodle elaborated, much to Nami's disappointment. Off in the distance, the quiet sound of approaching footfalls made itself known. Oh no, the mayor panicked. It's Beast Tamer, Moji. Run! He bolted faster than the younger generation would have thought possible for such an old guy. Down the road came Richie the lion, his master Moji riding atop. The lion caught the smell of the food and began eyeing the store, obviously wanting to tear the place apart and devour its contents. Moji, on the other hand, eyed the group of 4 humans and 1 dog that stood in front of the store. Of them, only 2 seemed afraid. A pink-haired boy he remembered seeing with the swordsman and the thief that had stolen their map. The other 3, a teen, Roronoa Zoro, and a dog, remained still. Finally, Moji smiled darkly. I found you. Are you ready to die, Straw Hat? Roronoa? Nami? The large feline made a growling sound that almost sounded like a question. Oh, I suppose, Richie. If you finish them off quickly, attack. The lion pounced with gusto, causing the 4 humans to scatter. Boodle poked his head out from around a corner to watch just as the fight began, while Shu Shu would remain neutral until his treasure was threatened. Moji turned Richie toward Coby, deeming him the lowest level threat. The preteen panicked and he could get his hands on, the majority of which was small debris from the houses that had been destroyed 2 streets away by the first buggy ball. The small chunks of rock bounced off of the lion with little to no effect until Coby managed a lucky hit. Richie roared as a piece of stone nailed him in the eye. He shook off the pain, nearly shaking Moji off as well, and charged the ex-marine wannabe. Help me, Coby cried, finding his voice. That was all the other 2 official members needed to come to his aid. Moji found himself flying forward when his mount's momentum was halted by a fist and a sheathed blade. The beast tamer landed roughly between 2 pissed, adult pirates and a scared teen who looked like a child. Never touch my nakama, Luffy muttered darkly, or I'll make you regret it. Next to him, Zoro stood silent like a demon ready to reap souls. Moji did the most sensible thing. He tried to run. Unfortunately for him, Luffy could stretch himself. The captain's extended arm lashed onto the beast tamer's shirt collar and dragged him back, much to Nami's surprise. We aren't done with you, Luffy grinned, his fist connecting with the beast tamer's nose shortly afterward. The force threw the man away from the younger pirate and right into the waiting arms of the so-called pirate hunter. Moji audibly gulped. She, Luffy laughed at the sounds of Moji whimpering and screaming, alternating as Zoro used him as a punching bag. His laughter stopped, however, as the orange-haired girl grabbed him by the shirt. What the hell was that? She demanded, shaking the raven-haired teen. People aren't supposed to stretch. I'm a rub, beer, son. Luffy got out through the shaking. I ate the gum, fruit. What's that supposed to mean? Despite her question and the expectation of an answer, Nami did not stop shaking the team captain. Ah, Coby tried, tapping the woman on the arm. She turned her glare on him, leaving Luffy dizzy in her grip. Devil fruit. The boy squeaked, trying to shrink himself. What the shrimp means, Zoro began, throwing a black and blue Moji over his shoulder without a care to his pained moaning, is that our idiot captain ate some weird fruit when he was younger that turned his body into rubber. You people really expect me to believe that? Nami demanded. Course we do. Luffy laughed, grabbing the inside of his mouth and pulling. Look, see, I'm a rubber man. But devil fruits are just a myth, the girl tried to protest. Well, here's your proof, Zoro grunted, punching Luffy over the head. The hit did nothing. Thank you, Mayor Boodle cried, running over from where he'd been whacking Moji with a piece of wood. Thank you so much. We aren't done yet, Luffy smirked. I still have to kick that clown jerk's ass. No, I can't ask that of you, Boodle denied with a shake of his head. Buggy is this town's problem, and even if I'm the only one to fight, this town must resist him. So thank you for everything. After thanking the quartet, Mayor Boodle took off toward the bar where Buggy had set up his base, filled with courage, red stupidity, at the strength shown by Luffy and Zoro. The others had followed after tying up Moji and Richie, knowing that the old man would die if he tried to take on the Buggy pirates alone. Has Moji not returned yet? Buggy asked, annoyance filling his voice. No, sir, the lookout responded. Gah. Fine. Load the cannon again. I want to flashily blow this town to smithereens as soon as he returns. Yes, sir, Buggy, someone shouted, alerting the pirates to a Fingor running up the road toward them. Boodle kept shouting as he approached his destination, attracting the attention of the people on the scorched roof of the bar. I cannot stand around and watch you destroy this village anymore. Come out and fight me. Bawahahaha. Buggy laughed. The chop man's right hand shot out, latching onto the mayor's throat and lifting him up from the ground. Look at this. An old man thinks he can take me on. The surviving crew laughed at the old man's futile struggles until their captain cried out in shock. Now standing between them and Boodle was Luffy with Buggy's hand in his grip. Sorry, Big Nose, but I like this guy, so I'm not going to let you kill him, Luffy muttered. What? Buggy asked. I can't hear you, I said, Luffy yelled. Sorry, Big Nose, but I like this guy, so I'm not going to let you kill him. Who you calling Big Nose? You, Luffy stated as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. That's so rude, Buggy exclaimed, yanking his hand free from Luffy's grip. Wait, where's Moji? I sent him to kill you all. And you were just complaining about our manners? Zoro sassed as he, Nami, and Coby caught up to the captain. I'm pretty sure that's ironic coming from you. We're hypocritical, Coby offered. We left him and his lion tied up where they attacked us, Nami answered, acting like she had done more than just watch. And now we're here to kick your ass, Luffy declared. Buggy looked at them in disbelief. They thought 5 people including an old man and a child could have a prayer in hell of defeating him and his crew. He'd show them. No, Boodle shouted. This fight is mine. In response to this, Luffy punched Mayor Boodle in the back of the head, knocking him into a wall and causing him to lose consciousness. What the hell did you do that for? Nami screamed. Actually, Zoro grunted, that's for the best. If he fought, he'd probably die. It won't matter, Buggy butted in, because all of you will die anyway. Men, fire the buggy ball. There was the now familiar sound of a cannon firing as a red ball of death raced toward the small group. I've got this, Luffy declared as the bomb drew closer. Gum Gum Balloon. The teen's body expanded and would have scared Nami had she not forced an explanation out of him after the fight with Moji. His inflated stomach caught the cannonball, slowing it to a stop before launching it back at the rooftop. Pirates screamed, 2 of them diving off the side of the building to avoid the subsequent explosion. These 2 were Buggy the Clown and Koby the Acrobat. You straw hat bastard, Buggy roared. Look at what you've done to my crew. Look at what you've done to the old man's town, Luffy retorted. Wait, why does that straw hat look familiar? Buggy asked himself, squinting as his hand reattached. He reminds me of that red hair bastard. Red hair? Oh, you mean Shanks? Yeah, he gave me his hat. I hate him and anyone associated with him, prepared to die, Straw Hat, Koby, get Roronoa. But Captain, Koby protested with some measure of hesitation. Wouldn't it be better if I took on Straw Hat and you took Roronoa? Shut up and do as I say. I will kill this little brat personally. Koby silently accepted his orders and hopped on his unicycle, pulling the sword from his mouth in the process. Roronoa Zoro. Prepared to die. A fellow swordsman, Let's go. The acrobat sped forward on his unicycle, a very fearsome way to charge into battle indeed. Despite this, Zoro was unfazed, placing his white-hilted sword into his mouth. The 2 clashed as their swords sparked. Zoro's black eyes met Koby's, both refusing to waver or give an inch. They were locked in this stalemate until Koby called out his next attack. Take this. Fire breath. He blew a plume of fire from his mouth, giving Zoro some light burns and searing away parts of his ruined shirt. That's a coward's trick. Koby disengaged and pedaled away as Zoro recollected himself, the buggy pirate speeding up the side of a building before taking to the air. Festival of 1,000 Deadly Tops. From his jacket, the dark-haired man released a multitude of spinning tops that flew toward Zoro. Streaming wolf swords. The pirate hunter countered, his blades flashing up to cut the first several tops down with an almost bored expression. If he had been injured, stabbed for example, it may have been much harder. How many damn tops do yod? Cutting though another top as he leaned out of the way of a trio that were aimed at his head. There was a steadily growing pile of tops building up behind him. Even so, Koby continued to fling the spinning projectiles at the green-haired man, even past the point of what he should have been able to hide in his clothing. Like I tell you, Koby retorted, throwing one last top before landing and pedaling forward. Bringing his sword up as he approached, the acrobat swung downward to cleave the former bounty hunter in 2. Not good enough, Zoro taunted through his sword, catching the downward strike with Wado Ichimonji. Koby pulled back to attack from a different angle, but Zoro deflected each of his opponent's slashes with ease. You can't beat me. We'll see about that. Angered, the long-haired man sped up his attacks, his sword seeming to blur. Zoro smirked, his own weapon speeding up in response. Koby grit his teeth, both swordsmen locking their swords in a show of strength before separating, the one on a unicycle flying comfortably through the air. Is that the best you've got? Zoro remarked, enjoying the look of rage that covered his foe's face at the jab. I thought I was fighting a swordsman, not some 2-bit sideshow. Koby landed with an ease that spoke of years of practice and charged the green-haired man with a battle call. Zoro took a stance, placing 2 of his swords perpendicular to his third and held behind it. Demon Slash. The cyclist fell off his one-wheeled mode of transportation behind the infamous pirate hunter, a look of complete shock on his face and 3 deep cuts in his chest. I can't believe the buggy pirates were defeated by such trash. We're not trash, Zoro told him firmly, we're pirates. Meanwhile, now, while Koby takes care of Roronoa, I'll have fun killing you slowly. You're annoying, Luffy stated. Shut up. Don't you talk down on me. Using a sleight of hand, Buggy produced 4 knives in each hand. Chop chop cannon. His hands shot forward, blades aimed to kill. Coby cried out for his captain, only for the team to roundhouse kick both hands as they drew closer. His opponent flinched, the pain transferred to him considering the separation didn't prevent his nerves from feeling pain. Seeing all the pirates either unconscious or preoccupied, Nami grabbed Coby and snuck off to look for Buggy's treasure. Neither of the dueling captains or swordsmen seemed to notice their disappearance. The clown-themed pirate separated his torso from his legs and launched his upper body forward, reconnecting his hands in the process. "Die, Straw Hat," Buggy roared, bringing fists full of knives down on the younger pirate. "You say that a lot," Luffy responded, sidestepping the attack. He threw out his hand, grabbing Buggy's face. While the man was surprised, Luffy wrapped his other arm around his first and lashed onto a handful of the man's blue hair. Gum gum hammer. Buggy's head came off, spinning faster than Kabaji's tops due to the unwinding of the rubber man's arms before coming to a sudden stop a few inches below where the road had been before. Luffy took a moment to see what he'd done. "Oh no, I killed him," Luffy wailed. "I'm not dead, you straw hat bastard," Buggy's head yelled, floating up from the small crater Luffy had made with it. His headless body connected to his lower half and started moving, slashing at the stretchy human while his floating head watched. The two duked it out with hand-to-hand combat until Buggy threw an uppercut. Luffy shifted backwards, but his hat was cut with the blade and fell off his head, shocking the younger man. Buggy froze as he realized what he did. He just cut the hat, the one that had been passed down to Shanks first. If the boy's story was true, what would his captain have said? "My hat," Luffy muttered in a much too calm voice, bending down to lift the headwear. "You cut my hat. I'm going to kill you, bastard." Gum gum Gatling. His arms shot out quickly, hitting Buggy hard enough to send whatever part of his body they came in contact with flying. Finally, one fist hit Buggy's face, causing it to tumble into the pile of parts several dozen feet away. The only things spared were the clown's feet. The clown captain put himself back together while sporting multiple bruises, including a very prominent one on the right side of his face. Buggy pulled out 8 more knives and flung his upper body at his foe, all thoughts of his former captain forgotten. Luffy responded like he had at the start of the fight, kicking him as he passed. Buggy's upper half rose into the air again, but his eyes locked onto something behind Luffy. With a cry of, "Give me back my treasure, you bitch," Buggy forgot about the annoyingly strong devil fruit user he was fighting and charged Nami and Coby, who were sneaking toward the port. "Crap, he saw us," Nami breathed, the larger of 2 bags on her back. Coby was more vocal, dropping his smaller bag in fear. "He's going to kill us." Suddenly, Buggy froze, a look of excruciating pain on his face. Behind him, Luffy had taken the chance to kick Buggy between the legs for getting distracted. Luffy threw Buggy's lower body at his upper parts where he reconnected out of instinct. "Hey Buggy," Luffy yelled, stretching both of his arms behind him. "This is for the old guy and his treasure, Gum Gum Bazooka." 1 second Buggy was there, the next the clown's screams were echoing through the air as body faded from sight. "That was awesome, Captain Luffy," Coby called as he ran over to the teen, a barely winded Zoro wandering over. The 3 laughed together before leaving, Nami following behind and awed by their display of power. Despite this, she was still sure to have Coby grab the other bag of loot as they made their exit. Unbeknownst to them, the townspeople had seen most of the fight and were now praising their courage. Reaching the docks, the quartet found their respective boats tied up next to each other, the 3 men that Nami had conned and that Zoro had beaten up lying unconscious on the ground. Nami's boat, the one she had taken from the unconscious men, was slightly bigger than the one Zoro and Coby had arrived in. It had an additional 1-person cabin and a black flag emblazoned with the symbol of the Buggy Pirates. The girl ordered the 3 men to tie the boats together while she loaded the gold they had taken from Buggy into the cabin. "Thank you," someone shouted, causing the 3 males to turn their heads. A group of the younger townspeople were running towards them with a bag hefted between them. "Thank you for saving our town." "What's in the bag?" Luffy asked, purposely ignoring the thanks he was receiving. He didn't want to be a hero. Heroes shared their meat. "Food for your trip," Boodle answered, staggering over with the help of some middle-aged men. It appeared Luffy's punch had done a little more than just knock him out. "Please, take it." "Don't mind if I do," Luffy smiled, taking the bag. Zoro and Coby snatched it from him before he could stuff the whole thing in his mouth, something he was likely to do if the look in his eye was any indicator. Pouting slightly at being denied his snack, the 3 men and 1 woman pushed off from the dock and began sailing away toward their group's next adventure. It was a calm day on the ocean of the East Blue. There was not a cloud in the sky to be seen and the wind at their backs was smooth and strong, easily enough to push 2 boats strapped together thanks to both having their own sail. On these ships were the small crew of 4 or 3 and 1 temporary companion if one wanted to get too technical with the semantics. The bigger of the 2 boats, which held Nami, Coby, and their meager food stores, had a small cabin and a black sail with the emblem of the Buggy Pirates. The other held Luffy, Zoro, and the treasure under its plain white sail. They had started out with the treasure and the food places swapped to better protect the glittering jewels they had stolen from Buggy the Clown, but that was soon changed when Nami learned of the full threat Luffy posed to any food source within his ever-changing arm's length. With that danger mitigated for the time being, Nami set about navigating the ships while showing Coby a few tips and tricks to tie the crew over when she left them like she planned. They were on their way toward a small island a little over a day's sailing where they should be able to get supplies and one bigger boat. Eventually they reached a point where Nami could sail both boats without help, leaving Coby to his thoughts. Seeing that the woman was no longer entangling the mysteries of navigation to the youngest crew member of their group, Luffy saddled up next to the girl with a wide smile. "So, Nami," he smiled, missing or ignoring the annoyed look she leveled at him out of the corner of her eye. "Why are you all the way out here? Where's home for you? What's it like being a girl? Do you poop?" "Excuse me," the navigator roared, punching the dim-witted teen in the face as hard as she could. Luffy's neck stretched as the force sent his head backwards, ruining his balance in the unsteady boat, causing him to topple over the side. "You should never ask anyone that question to anyone, much less a woman." "Geblabloob," Luffy cried, his arms flailing on the surface of the water. "Get back up here, I'm not done beating you for that." Despite Nami's order, Luffy started to sink, his visible arms disappearing under the water until only his hand remained, even that slipping away. Realization dawned on Nami as he disappeared. "Don't tell me you can't swim." "Captain Luffy," Coby yelled as he remembered a part of the myth of devil fruits. He turned to the navigator. "People with devil fruit powers can't swim because the ocean hates them." "What?" Nami gasped, suddenly worried. She didn't like pirates, but that didn't mean she was willing to kill one. Without a second thought, she dove off the boat, blinking her eyes as the familiar pain of salt water settled so she could see. Luffy continued to sink in her line of sight, his body still as he reached for the sunlight above. She kicked, reaching him in a matter of moments to wrap one arm around his waist and throw one of his over her shoulders. Having secured him against herself, the woman kicked her legs as hard as she could, the two of them breaking the surface. Both took a deep, thankful breath. She, Luffy chuckled. "I thought I was gonna die." "You moron," Nami yelled. "Captain Luffy," Coby called from the ships, a fair distance from them now. He was waving a fishing net they had found in the cabin earlier. "Nami, come closer so I can pull you in." Nami groaned considering Luffy was still limp against her. She started paddling, the two coming close enough for Coby to toss the net with a surprising amount of accuracy. Nami snagged it with her free hand as the boy struggled to drag them in. Zoro, growing tired of watching the spectacle, stepped forward after a couple minutes and yanked both captain and navigator out of the sea with one mighty tug. She, Luffy laughed. "Thanks, everyone, it's not funny, you idiot." Nami shouted, grabbing him by the collar, and she straddled his waist so she could shake him more effectively. "I could have killed you. Why didn't you say anything, you rubber-brained moron? Do you know what it would have done to my conscience if you died from that? How could I have looked my sister in the eye if I killed someone like you just because you can't swim? What sort of pirate can't swim? Anyway, the whole ocean is a death trap for you and you choose to sail? Answer me." Nami stopped shaking the pirate, Luffy's head still rolling with swirls in his eyes. "So you have a sister," he muttered. "That's what you got out of that?" "Meh, I didn't die, so it's all good." "No it's not." While Nami showed herself to be the scariest person out of the four of them, Coby had slunk against the side of the boat, the adrenaline of almost losing his captain taking a toll on him. What did he have to offer this crew? Luffy was the captain and an excellent fighter. Zoro was like the personification of brute strength, and Nami's navigational skills were a must for any sailing group, but he contributed nothing. If he wanted a place on this crew, if he wanted a chance at his dream of being able to right any wrong and protect the innocent, he needed to get stronger. Building his resolve with Nami still yelling at Luffy in the background, he spoke up. "So, Zoro, what is it, shrimp? I was wondering?" "Don't stutter. Speak up." "I was wondering," Coby said again, louder, "could you teach me swordsmanship?" There was silence for a moment. Both Luffy and Nami were now watching the discussion with interest. The question was so spontaneous to them that it made them stop, frozen with Nami's hands still holding Luffy's cardigan. "You want to learn how to use a sword?" Zoro questioned. "Actually, I want to use 2 swords. You want to learn 2 sword style from me?" Zoro asked. Coby nodded in response. "Why?" "Because I did nothing to help last time," the Rosset responded. "I want to be able to do something in our next fight. Even just now, I couldn't do anything to help. You and Captain Luffy are so strong, but I'm not. I can't really learn to fight from Captain Luffy since I can't stretch, but I can learn from you. I'll warn you right now that I've never taught anyone before, so if I do teach you, it would be the way I learned and taught myself. It will probably be harsh and make you want to quit. Still interested?" Coby was visibly shaking, but he still nodded his head. "Why yes." "You don't sound certain." Coby gulped, fisting his hands at his side as he raised his voice. "Yes, I'm certain. I want to learn." "Good. We can start right now." Zoro threw Coby one of his swords with the sheath still on. The boy was unable to catch it, something that did not shock the green-haired man, but he managed to keep it in the boat. "Lift it," the swordsman ordered. The pink-haired pirate grasped the handle with both hands and raised the sword. He pointed it away from the viewers, not trusting himself to not accidentally hurt one of them, even with the sheath still on the blade. The sword shook and rattled in his unsure hold. "That's a good start," Zoro commented, "but you've got a lot of problems. For one thing, that's a one-handed sword. Use it that way." "What?" Coby asked. He was only holding it because he had two hands on it. He'd known he was weak physically, but that weak? "Take your weaker hand off." Coby hesitated, but did as told. He removed his left hand. Almost immediately, the tip of the blade hit the deck. With visible strain, Coby tried to lift the sword with only one hand, but the tip only rose about 7 inches. "Right," Zoro sighed. "That's not going to work." Coby was put out. "I'll never learn to use a sword, even with Zoro's help. I'm just too weak. I should throw myself overboard like Alvida always told me to so I don't burden." "Shrimp, drop and give me 50 push-ups." Coby jumped. But I can't do that many." "Then do as many as you can," Zoro ordered. "Until you can lift one of these blades with each hand. I can't teach you the way of the sword. We'll see if I can get some Bakken on the next island to start earlier since they aerial then. We'll just have to whip you into shape." Coby was speechless. In the other boat, Nami realized the position she and the rubber teen were in, jumping off and throwing him away from her. "Well?" Yes, Zoro-sensei." The boy dropped to the deck and started exercising. "Zoro-sensei," the swordsman mused. "I like the sound of that." "Damn it, Luffy," Nami yelled, breaking Zoro out of his thoughts. "Stay away from the food." Zoro gave a hearty laugh as Coby continued to pump his arms up and down, a light sheen of sweat already starting to appear across his brow. 4 people spied on the ships that had just landed on the northernmost cape of Gecko Island. As they watched, 3 people, 2 men and a woman, exited the ships, leaving behind a panting boy who was lying in a puddle of sweat. The first male, a teen with a mop of black hair under a straw hat, yawned as he stepped onto the white sand. He wore a red vest and blue jean shorts with sandals. This teen also had a scar under his left eye. "So this is the island you were talking about?" he asked, directing the question at the woman. "It's pretty small. I hope we can get enough meat." "You never have enough meat," the second man remarked. He was dressed in long black pants with matching boots, a white t-shirt, and had short green hair with a sash the same color around his waist. He held 3 sheathed swords in his right hand and had a dark green bandana tied around his left arm. "I'm more worried about Coby," the woman commented before rounding on the swordsman. "I can't believe you did that to him." The female of the group had short orange hair, a horizontally striped blue and white shirt, and an orange skirt with raised sandals. "You pushed him way too hard," she gestured the boy in the smaller boat. The boy in question was short. He was dressed in a shirt that was reminiscent of Marine uniforms, had shorts similar to the first man, tennis shoes, and blue glasses. Straight pink hair stuck to his head and his skin shone like he had just gone swimming. "He asked for it," the man shrugged. "How else am I going to train him? Plus, I warned him." He froze, gripping his swords before turning to the hiding place of the 4 eavesdropping people. "We've got company." "That's right," a man's voice called, its owner rising bravely out of a bush to point down on the travelers with pride. He looked to be in his upper teens and stood on a cliff facing the intruders, his arms crossed and a look of superiority on his darker, tanned face. The teen was dressed in brown overalls with a white sash around his waist and brown shoes. His curly, black hair was held back by a green bandana and a pair of goggles, and a large circular satchel hung from his neck to bounce by his hip. A long nose stuck out from his head and was as plain as the nose on his. Never mind. Now that he had the attention of the 3 on the beach, the teen pulled a green slingshot from his satchel and loaded it with a pellet, taking aim at the intruders. "Don't you dare take another step or else my crew of 80 million men will attack." Behind the man, pirate flags rose from the bushes and trees in groups of 3 until the entire coastline was filled with them. The symbol on the flags was a skull with a long nose and a slingshot. "I am the brave Captain Usopp of the Usopp Pirates, and the town of this island is under my protection." "Usopp," Straw Hat muttered, bringing up a hand to cup his chin as he stared into space. "I've heard that name before." "You have?" the teen gaped, stumbling. He quickly found his balance again, pointing to the sky in what he probably thought was a cool pose. "I mean, of course you have. I'm famous across the world. After all, now be gone, pirates." 80 million followers? The woman scoffed. "Yeah, right. I bet the real number is 3. "Crap," 3 voices cried out. "She knows." 6 flags that had been moving dropped to the ground and 3 boys ran away toward the center of the island, leaving the oldest behind. "Wait, don't leave me here alone," Usopp yelled, turning back to the people on the beach like a rusty machine. He was visibly shaken, but the teen still pretended to have confidence. The boy in the boat hoisted himself up with difficulty and drug himself onto the beach to see what all the commotion was. "So 80 million was a bit of an overstatement," Usopp conceded, "but they don't call me Usopp the Brave for nothing. I can rival anyone with a gun." "Do it then," the other teen ordered in a serious tone, his hat shadowing his eyes. The woman and boy stared at him in surprise. Guns were made for action, not threats. So did. Pull the trigger. Usopp stood there, shaking nearly as bad as Coby had been when trying to raise Zoro's sword. Said swordsman smirked and prepped his favorite weapon, egging the sniper on. 30 seconds passed before Usopp gave in, falling to the dirt. I'm pathetic, he whimpered, refusing to meet the eyes of the beheaded teen. I can't even protect my town. She. Luffy laughed, his heavy countenance disappearing. I stole that from Shanks. Don't worry about it, Usopp. Oh, now I know where I heard that name. You're Yasopp's son, aren't you? Usopp jerked and fell off the cliff, surprised. He tumbled, rolling down the cliff face until he face-planted into the sandy beach, but he recovered quickly. Leaping to his feet, Usopp shuffled over to Luffy. You know my father? He asked, grabbing Luffy by the shoulders. How? What can you tell me about him? I'll talk about it later, Luffy responded as his stomach growled. Right now, I need some meat. Well, come with me. I know a place. Usopp replied, shoving his slingshot back into his pack. Gesturing to the crew that had landed just earlier that day, the local walked over to a bush and shoved it to the side, revealing it to be a convincing fake. The group of four stepped onto the path revealed, Usopp replacing the false flora behind them before taking the lead. Trust me. Lucky's is the best bar on the island. Well, it's also the only bar on the island, but the guy who owns it is a good guy. He doesn't chase me with a broom. That's your label for what counts as nice? Nami questioned as the group exited the underbrush. Well, I'm not too liked at the moment, Usopp admitted, knowing he couldn't get away from the stares and side glances the others were sure to see when they reached the town. People don't seem to like when someone says they want to be a pirate. I know what that feels like, Luffy agreed with a grin, wrapping an arm around the long-nosed native. In fact, your dad was part of the reason I wanted to become a pirate in the first place. You mentioned my dad before, Usopp nodded, ignoring the looks the group attracted from the closest villagers as they drew closer to the border. Alongside the hostile stares he'd grown used to, there was also confusion at a visitor with an arm wrapped around the village lyre. He left when I was young, so I don't know too much about him. He doesn't look too much like you, Luffy began. His nose is different and his hair is lighter, but he's got eyes way better than anyone else. Really? Usopp grinned. Mom always said dad was a marksman and I want to be like him. That's why I picked up a slingshot. Yeah, I bet you're just as good as Usopp. He's part of a crew that docked at Fuchsia village for a few months when I was little. I once watched him shoot the wings off a fly while looking in a mirror. Whoa! Usopp's eyes widened as he and the pirates walked into their destination, Lucky's Bar in Syrup Village. The group took a booth, ordering enough food for the group. Not enough for Luffy, but Nami punched him over the head when he tried to order more than they needed. Zoro was content with beer. The group sat there for nearly an hour, Luffy telling every story about Usopp he could remember, much to Usopp's delight. Nami listened with wide eyes. Hearing stories of pirates told in such a positive light challenged what she thought she knew, the girl quickly shaking the thought away and labeling the storyteller as on the crew of red-haired Shanks. Usopp inquired after the most recent story. The red-haired Shanks? More than just on the crew, Luffy answered, reaffirming what he'd said before. He's their best sniper. And he's one of Shanks' best friends on the crew. These words got Usopp riled up, spouting about becoming a pirate like his father. Nami cut him off. Actually, we're here on a mission, the girl stated. Is there anyone you know here that can help us get a boat? The self-proclaimed captain got shifty, suddenly refusing to make eye contact with any of them. Nope, no one here. Not a single person. What about the people in that big mansion on the hill? Zoro asked. They seem wealthy enough to spare a boat. Don't you go anywhere near that mansion, Usopp shouted, standing and slamming his hands into the tabletop before he could catch himself. He reeled. Oh, would you look at the time? I've got to go do something very important, so don't follow or wait for him by. The teen bolted out the door, leaving 4 confused pirates in his wake. That wasn't suspicious at all, Nami snarked. Maybe he had some chores he had to do, Coby offered, trying to give the lying teen the benefit of the doubt. He turned, expecting a response from his captain, but he found Luffy with a bulging stomach and an empty table, plates and all just gone. Luffy breathed out a satisfied sigh, patting his swollen belly. Zoro and Nami looked traumatized at whatever they had just witnessed. I just blinked, Zoro muttered, glancing at his booze as if wondering if that was the cause of his apparent hallucination. He shrugged, downing the rest of the mug. It clunked back to the table, empty, as 3 boys forced their way into the bar, screaming bloody murder. Where's our captain, you dirty pirates? The 3 children yelled. Their eyes landed on Luffy and his unnatural proportions. Ah, that meat was good, Luffy sighed, much to the horror of the children. Your captain, Zoro smirked, amused with Luffy's choice of words, was delicious. Yes, Coby agreed, wanting to play along just to feel included. Tasty, if a little. Stringy? Ah, the 3 screamed as they turned to the lone female. Which? Why'd you turn to me? She yelled back. Their act came to an end when Coby broke into a fit of laughter. He was soon followed by his teacher and captain. Why are you laughing, you cannibals? The three cried. She, Luffy chuckled. Usopp isn't dead. He ran off a minute ago. He seemed to get really defensive about that mansion on the hill, Coby explained. Do you three know anything about it? Yeah, I guess that makes sense, one of the boys muttered. It is that time of the day. We can lead you there. I'm Onion, by the way. I'm Carrot, and I'm Pepper, and together, we are the Usopp Pirates. Nami groaned, face in her hands. This was exactly what she needed, children thinking that playing pirate was a game. Well, lettuce, Zoro prompted as he stood, the rest of the crew following the children out of the bar. Usopp had said he had a tab going, so the meal was on him. It's right around 3 o'clock, Pepper noted as the group started walking up a trail. Captain Usopp always goes to the mansion around this time. Not that he lives there. His house is on the outskirts of town. Why would he be at the mansion then? Coby questioned, hiking along despite his weariness from the killer workout Zoro had put him through that morning. He told us to avoid it. He goes there to lie, Carrot responded. What? Nami demanded. That asshole goes there to lie to people? The woman who lives there, Kaya, has had a severe case of depression ever since her parents died in an accident a year ago, Carrot elaborated, shrinking away from the scary woman. Captain Usopp goes there every day to tell her stories to cheer her up. Well, then I guess that's okay, Nami amended, still miffed at the thought of lying to an innocent person. It's better than just lying for no reason. Let's go ask her to give us a ship, Luffy reasoned. She sounds real nice and she's a friend of Usopp, so she can be our friend, too. Despite the size, the group made their way to the large house. Its grounds were separated from the outside by a tall concrete wall, a wrought iron gate now standing between the group and the mansion. Zoro rattled the gate, showing it was locked. How are we going to get in? Coby wondered aloud. Like this. The rubber man jumped up and grabbed the top of the fence, letting his weight stretch his arms, much to the horror of the Usopp pirates. Gum. No wait, Nami, Zoro, and Coby cried, grabbing Luffy in an attempt to stop him. The three children also grabbed on, not knowing what else to do. Pardon the intrusion. All seven were launched into the air as Luffy's arms snapped back to normal length. Usopp sat on the branch of a tall oak tree, a proud grin on his face as he listened to Kaya's musical laughter. I'm telling you, Kaya, that goldfish was huge. I'd been watching the map while studying its shape in the distance, when I bumped into something in the monster's wake. And I said to myself, there shouldn't be an island here. There isn't one on the map, but there was something there since I'd just run into it, big enough to be an island. The goldfish was getting away, but it was too far gone for me to catch that day. Being the brave warrior of the sea that I am, I had to investigate what I could. So I docked my ship and jumped onto the weird island. And it stunk to high heaven. It smelled terrible. It turns out I just landed on that monster's poop, which just goes to show you how big that goldfish really was. Ahahaha. Kaya laughed, bringing herself down to giggles. Kaya was a very pale, blonde-haired woman dressed in a baby blue dress. Her big, light brown eyes shone with a life that her sickly frame did not have, a light dusting of red over her cheeks as she listened to the long-nosed boy weaving tales for her. And you said you were 5 years old? Of course. Usopp replied. If I'd done it at 6, I could have caught that goldfish. Pardon us. A voice yelled from the sky, attracting the attentions of the two teens. Something hit the ground hard, kicking up a very impressive dust cloud. That was so much fun. Luffy cheered as the cloud settled, jumping to his feet. No it wasn't, everyone else shouted, punching him in the back of the head. Goodness, Kaya cried, looking at the group worriedly. Are you all okay? Don't worry about them, Usopp tried to wave off. They're just some fans that wanted to join the Usopp Pirates. Nope, Luffy denied, knocking the wind out of Usopp's sails. Not me. I actually wanted to talk to you. You're, Kaya, Coby whispered to him. You're Kaya, right? Yes I am, the woman answered. And you? I'm Monkey D. Luffy, captain of the Straw Hat Pirates, and these three are Zoro, my first mate and swordsman, Coby, swordsman in training, and Nami, our navigator. Temporary navigator, Nami interjected. It's nice to meet you, Kaya smiled, but why are you here? You sounded like a really cool person and we wanted to ask for a favor. We need a boat. Who are you and what are you doing here? A new voice demanded. Everyone turned to find a black-haired man wearing a suit. His hair was slicked back and a pair of round glasses rested on his face while black and gray striped shoes adorned his feet. He did not even try to hide his look of disgust when his eyes land on the form of Usopp sitting in the tree by Kaya's window. On second thought, I don't care. Get out. You are all trespassing illegally. But Klahadore, Kaya tried to argue, these people were. I don't care what these people were doing. The man adjusted his glasses using the palm of his hand. Their presence here is very detrimental to your health. You, 8 must leave immediately. Actually Klahadore, not now, Miss Kaya, the butler interrupted. When your parents died, Your care was entrusted you associating with ruffians like this son of sea trash. Don't you dare badmouth my father, Usopp ordered, jumping to his feet. He is a brave warrior of the sea on one of the world's most famous crews. My father is a lieutenant of a Yonko. Your father is nothing but a no-name outlaw. Even when not here, pirates still influence their children. Klahadore tutted. It just goes to show that it is in their DNA to be lowlifes. I will say it once more, leave immediately. Cease this at once, Klahadore, Kaya shouted angrily, apologize. Calm down, Kaya, Usopp placated, going from 100 to 0 real quick. This is my argument. I have no obligation to apologize to the son of such filthy trash like this ruffian. Don't insult my father ever again, Usopp ordered, forgetting his own advice and losing his own temper as he slid down the tree. Usopp, wait, Coby tried, but the sniper ignored him. He stomped toward Klahadore and, without warning, punched him in the face. Case in point, Klahadore muttered, sitting up with a bruise forming on his face. He resorts to violence when words fail him. I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, does it? Usopp reached out, grabbing a fistful of Klahadore's shirt and prepared to punch him again. Usopp, Kaya cried. Stop, please. Stop, I can't take any more violence. Please, Klahadore isn't a bad person. He's just misguided. Fine, Usopp growled, releasing the man roughly. I'm leaving. Happy now? You'll never see me here again. Usopp stomped away, not reacting to Kaya's apologies. That was very rude of you, Klahadore, Kaya stated after he'd gone, tears in her eyes. You're such a buzzkill. Buzzkill is a title I will gladly bear if it keeps you safe, Miss Kaya, Klahadore responded, straightening out his uniform. Now you all, please make your way off the premises as well. The three children that would follow Usopp like lost puppies began shouting at the butler, calling him every name they could think of, but Koby's voice cut through theirs. Yes, sir. It was nice speaking to you, Miss Kaya. I hope we see you again. Come on, guys. The crew, plus 3 boys being dragged, exited the estate, startling the guards that had been unaware of their entry. Well, that didn't work, Luffy commented, still with a smile on his face, but it fell with his next statement. That butler guy was a jerk, though. He didn't even let us talk and insulted Usopp. Rude. I mean, we weren't supposed to be there anyway, Coby pointed out. Pirates or not, we were trespassing. Well, he still shouldn't have said those things to Usopp. Luffy paused, causing the rest of the group to walk ahead of him. They turned to see Luffy with a thoughtful look. I'm gonna find him. Who? Usopp, Nami asked. Yeah, I know what it's like to be alone when people don't believe in you. I want to check on him. Well, Captain Usopp usually goes to the cliff on the south side when he's sad, Pepper offered as the 3 local boys free themselves from Zoro's grip. We'd go with you, but we had to get home. We still have chores to do today. If you wait right here by the road, then we'll find you when we're done. That works for us, Coby agreed as Nami pointed Luffy toward the south. He thanked her quickly before jogging off. Zoro dropped his swords on the side of the road with a yawn, sitting next to them and leaning against a fence. Shrimp, start exercising. Wake me up later. The moment Usopp ran by the group sitting by the side of the road without even glancing their way, much less saying anything, they knew something was wrong. His faithful trio saying that he was wearing a very distraught expression just made it worse. They followed his trail back the way he had come to his special spot, the place Pepper said he went when he was sad or angry. They found Luffy at the bottom of the cliff, his hat on the ground next to him. His head was stuck underneath his body at a very unnatural angle and he wasn't moving. Did he fall all the way from the top of the cliff? Onion asked in worry. No doubt about it, Pepper sighed with a shake of his head. He's a goner. Captain Luffy, Coby cried dramatically, tears falling from his eyes. No. Z's. What? Nami wondered aloud. Hey, Zoro smirked, walking up to his captain's body. He poked Luffy with one of his swords. Z's. Luffy shifted, letting out a yawn as he righted himself and stretched, in the normal way. What a great nap. You're alive, Usopp's followers yelled. Captain Luffy, Coby shouted, running forward and hugging the team. We thought you were dead. I can't imagine if you were dead. I don't know if… Luffy cut him off, punching Coby in the head. Ow, why'd you hit me? Felt like it, Luffy answered with a shrug. Oh, by the way, pirates are going to be attacking the town tomorrow. What? That's not something you casually say, Nami cried. Yeah. That butler guy is their captain and he was talking to this really weird guy with sunglasses. He said that he wants them to kill Kaya so he can inherit her money. I don't remember anything after that, though I think I yelled at them. Well, it looks like we've got only one course of action, Carrot nodded sagely. We've got warn the village and run. Yeah, Onion and Pepper agreed. The trio then ran away screaming like the sea devil itself was chasing them. We had to hurry, Luffy said, quickly jumping to his feet. We need to get all the meat we can before the meat store guy leaves. You mean the butcher, Coby corrected. That's not important, you idiot, Zoro chastised. We need to get booze first. That's just as stupid, Nami yelled. Why don't we find Usopp and get his help? He lives here after all, Coby suggested. Thank you, Coby, Nami agreed. That's the first good idea we've had. Usopp seems to know the island pretty well. Yeah, Luffy turned, beginning to march toward the town so that could look for Usopp, but said teen stumbled onto the beach from the foliage. He was in a bad state, multiple bruises and welts across his body and arms. His nose looked to be broken, bent at an awkward angle, and his left arm freely bled from a bullet hole. I tried to warn them, Usopp whispered, falling to his knees. Tears grew at the corners of his eyes. I told them about Klahadore, about Kuro, but they didn't believe me. I've told so many lies. They think I'm lying again. I couldn't take it. I know Kai is in danger. I couldn't just leave her there, sigh. Usopp choked up, the tears falling. I told her what was happening and told her to come with me, but she didn't believe me, either. I just want to protect her. And I want to protect this island. They beat me with brooms, but it's still my home. Help me, please. I want to save this town, too, Coby stated. Those people don't deserve to be overrun by pirates. I want all their treasure, Nami agreed, still greedy even if she was moved by Usopp's speech. I just want to cut something, Zoro answered, always up for a battle. I just want to fight, Luffy nodded, punching his palm. These guys are messing with my new friends, they're going down. So, what is everyone good at? Usopp asked, growing hopeful. Stretching, cutting, stealing, getting beaten up. And hiding, Usopp finished dejectedly. We're screwed, aren't we? Don't worry, Luffy told him, putting a hand on Usopp's uninjured shoulder. We can do this. Alright, Shrimp, Zoro grinned, staring down on Coby. Luffy, Nami, and Usopp were out finding oil for part of the traps Usopp had devised, which left Zoro to do his best to get his new student combat ready before the next day. Time to learn. I can't teach you everything I know, like my 3-sword style. You'll need to find something just for you when the time comes, but until then, you will follow my lead. Yes, sensei, Coby straightened at his teacher's words, the two sitting in a clearing in the woods that Zoro had deemed suitable for training. In front of Coby was a bakken, a wooden sword a little wider than a normost, a little more than half of one of Zoro's weapons, but it was the best Coby could manage at the moment. Zoro had acquired two, but there was no point in starting with both. There is one rule I'm giving you, and it's a belief I carry very close to me. Scars on the back are the shame of a swordsman. I don't understand, sensei. What's different between a scar on your chest and a scar on your back? A true swordsman will never turn his back to an opponent, Zoro explained. Scars on your front are the signs of fighting a strong opponent, and there's no shame in that. In fact, therein pride in those wounds, but in a fight, turning your back is the same thing as running away. No real swordsman would attack a man whose back is turned, but there are plenty of pirates out there who will. Retreating and running away are different, but you must finish what you start. When you give up, when you give in, when you fail to protect your principles, those are the times when your back is scarred, and that shame lasts forever. Coby swallowed, speechless. This was what he wanted, to have the confidence and conviction Zoro showed. I understand, Zoro-sensei. Good, Zoro nodded. Every time you fight, every time you train, remember what you do it to protect and what goal you're reaching for, and you will grow stronger. Now stand up and watch my movements. You got a lot to learn and not a lot of time to learn it. Well, get up. Yes, sensei. The sun rose over the southernmost coast of Gecko Island the following morning, shining down on 5 people, 3 of whom were ready to fight. The narrow path before them shone, the slippery oil coating it reflecting the morning sunlight. Luffy stood at the top with his arms crossed and face shadowed by his hat, thinking he looked like Shanks just before fighting the mountain bandits all those years ago. Zoro stood to his left with his bandana tied around his head, Wado Ichimonji unsheathed and resting on his left shoulder. On Zoro's other side was his student, his new bakken prepped for battle. Zoro had made sure it was good enough to withstand at least one battle with real swords before buying it. Nami stood on Luffy's right, her bow out and held behind her, and on her other side was Usopp, who was trying to weasel his way out of battle. Hey, are you sure you need me? I mean, you all seem way stronger than me. If I'm fighting, Coby argued, then you're fighting too. But shouldn't they be here by now? Zoro questioned, gazing out at the open ocean. He did say they would be here in the morning, right? Kuro ordered them to land on the shore at sunrise, Usopp affirmed before he seemed to come to a realization, eyes widening. Crap, he must have meant the north shore on the other side of the island. You moron, Nami yelled, our boats are docked there. Everyone, Luffy ordered. Get there as fast as you can. Luffy turned, a flailing arm hitting Zoro in the gut by accident. The swordsman grunted as he tried to move away from the arm, only for his back foot to step on the oil trap. He let out surprised gasp as his footing failed, dragging him down the cliff. Zoro-sensei, Coby called. Go on, Shrimp, I'll catch up. No you don't, Luffy stated. He didn't need one of his nakama to endanger himself before they were ready. Coby, stay with Zoro and find a way to the other side. Luffy left, running after Nami and Usopp. Koby called an affirmative as his captain disappeared into the trees. Koby let out a breath, trying to shake away or ignore the negative thoughts he'd grown so used to hearing. Those same thoughts now trying to tell him that Luffy didn't want him because he was weak and useless. Luffy wasn't like that, and there was something he could do. He could be of use. Zoro-sensei, we can get there by following the beach around the island, Koby offered as he turned downhill. He stepped forward to try to slide down the path covered in oil, losing his footing in the process but avoiding any injuries. Got it. Zoro picked him up and threw Koby over his shoulder, starting to walk. Zoro-sensei, Koby questioned after 30 seconds, why are you headed for the cliffs? Obviously the forest is a shortcut, but you don't have any sense of direction, you get lost in a heartbeat. Says who? Everyone, Koby deadpanned. Here. The boy wiggled out of his master's grip and grabbed his wrist. Let's go. With no imminent danger in sight, the pink-haired boy quickly led the wayward samurai around the island's sandy circumference. The beach had an excellent view of the ocean, but the swordsman and student didn't have time for that, their speed getting them to their goal about 7 minutes later. The battle had already begun. Their captain fought on the front line on the slope to the beach, beating back waves of pirates with assistance from Usopp's long-ranged attacks. Nami was nowhere to be seen, but if her obsession was anything to go by, she was probably somewhere on the cat-themed pirate ship grounded on the beach next to their own ragtag ships. The shore looked the same on the north side as it did on the south, though the sunlight now came from the sky to their right. The swordsman jumped in without a second thought, blindsiding the advancing pirates from the left. 6 of them went down before the others could perceive the newest threat, blood coloring the sand from their slashed torsos. Hey Zoro, Luffy waved, punching a pirate with his other, stretched arm. What took you so long? Shrimp insisted on taking the long way around. Zoro answered through the sword in his mouth. The sight of blood set Koby into an automatic response, doing his best to hide by the cliff. Unluckily, 2 pirates saw Koby trying to hide and rushed toward him, not wanting to have to fight the 2 monsters instead. Koby very nearly panicked, but his limited sword training and the view of his teacher fighting a half-dozen or so pirates alone was enough to get him to pluck up his courage. He slowly moved from his hiding spot. Come here, brat. One of the thugs sneered, brandishing his sword. His companion carried a club half the size of the Rosset himself. He charged, swinging his club horizontally to splatter Koby's brains across the cliff. The young pirate's eyes widened, the pink-haired teen instinctively ducking under the wild swain. Using his limited knowledge of swordwork, Koby swung his bakken, impacting the club-wielding pirate's lead food. It wasn't enough to break the leg, but the force took the pirate's footing out from under him. Before Koby could capitalize on it, however, the other pirate drew closer. Koby's sudden burst of courage ended and his long-ingrained fear took hold. He fled, avoiding the sword swinging at him and trampling the fallen pirate in the process. He ran to his master, hiding behind him and forcing the green-haired man to block and hold back all of his opponents. Shrimp, what the hell are you doing? I can't do this, Zoro-sensei, I'm not strong enough. A pirate with a headband that looked like cat ears swiped at the child who jumped out of the way. In retaliation, Zoro pushed the enemies off of his left-hand sword and cut him down. Yes you can, Koby, the swordsman urged, blocking 3 men at once. Just stay close and remember what I showed you. Koby hesitantly shuffled out from behind the 19-year-old, but hurried back before joining the battle. No, I can't. You wanted to protect the town, didn't you? Zoro demanded. Then forget about yourself and think about the villagers. They can't save themselves, so will you help save them, or will you run away and scar your back? Zoro knew he was playing with Koby's beliefs, but they didn't have any time to waste at the moment. As per his intention, Zoro's words struck a chord. Koby wanted to protect the village. He couldn't stop now, not in the middle of the fight. He stepped out from behind his teacher with more confidence and charged the men attacking him. Scars on the back are the shame of a swordsman, Koby yelled. The pirates were caught off guard in determination and fell quickly from the combined efforts of Zoro and Koby. More so the former than the latter, but that was irrelevant. The two finished their last opponent and put away their weapons. Django the Hypnotist, a thin man with colorful clothing, an Egyptian-style beard, and red, heart-shaped glasses tsked at his downed men. Miaoban brothers, get out here. 2 men emerged from the bowls of the ship. One was thin and dressed in the top half of a suit with the sleeves cut off, jean shorts that did not match, high socks, hiking boots, and a maroon bow tie. He had light green hair swept to the right and a hunch in his back. Alongside this walking insult to fashion, his brother was a large, black-haired man with no shirt, red and black striped pants, a purple and pink striped cape, and a bell on a choker around his neck. Both had little cat ear decorations on their heads and clawed gloves on their hands. I'm Shiem, called the thin one, and I'm Muchi, the other called. And together we are the Miaoban brothers, at your service. The two jumped off the ship, landing before their captain, and bowed. You called, Captain Django? Yes, I did. I need you two to kill these morons in our way. What? Shiem yelled. But they're clearly too strong for us, Muchi whimpered. You better do it or Captain Kuro will kill us all, we're late enough as is. Alright, Shiem cried. Just stop yelling. The thin man started running towards Zoro and Coby, tears leaking from his eyes and his arms flailing. He had all of the Straw Hats fooled. All but one. Don't fall for it, Zoro-sensei, Coby shouted. That's Shiem of the Miaoban brothers. He and Muchi are known for acting cowardly to catch their opponents off guard. Plus they're the main cat burglars of the Black Cat Pirates. Suddenly, Shiem lunged, but Zoro caught his attack. Damn, the brother cursed, his clawed glove pressing against Zoro's Wado Ichimonji. That kid saved your life. Shiem leapt back, 2 sheaths tied to his back. But he didn't save your swords. He removed the weapon holders only to find them empty of their usual sharp contents. What? Looking for these? Zoro asked through his favorite sword, the other 2 in his hands. You might have gotten my swords if Coby hadn't given me that warning. Thanks, Shrimp. Just be careful, Zoro-sensei. If you died. I'm not gonna die, Shrimp. In the distance, Luffy and Usopp saw Nami sneaking out of the Black Cat's ship with a bag of treasure over her shoulder. Luffy wanted to call out to her, but Usopp slapped his hand over the other teen's mouth. Che, so you won't be that easy to beat. Shiem threw the sheaths aside and gestured to his brother who lumbered up to stand beside him. But can you take both of us on at the same time? The 2 charged. Die. Tiger, Zoro growled, positioning himself so his hand blades were parallel with each other and perpendicular to both Wado Ichimonji and the ground. He waited until his foes were in range before slicing. Trap. There was no movement for a moment before looks of shock sprouted on the faces of Zoro's enemies. Blood spurted from their chests and they went down. Blood pooled beneath Shiem at an alarming rate. Muchi, however, painfully pulled himself onto his hands and knees and tried to drag himself over to his captain. His path took him right past Coby, who whacked him in the head, knocking him unconscious. What the hell is going on here? Everyone able to turn to the slope where Klahadore, aka Captain Kuro, stood with his special gloves on. The man stared down at the battle. His army at the bottom with the exception of the dead and dying on the incline, and there were some dead on the hillside because of Zoro's sharp weapon. Their 4 adversaries, 3 on the slope and Usopp on higher ground, looked at the butler, pirate, with surprise. How have 4 brats halted you, Django? Captain K. Kuro, Django stuttered. Well. There was another, as well. Oh, I'm sorry, he sassed. 5 brats held you back. Listen well, you imbeciles. You have 5 minutes to end this fight. After that, I will kill everyone here. Oh, Django squeaked. Why yes, thank you. You're too generous, Captain. Men, look at me. He pulled out a small, circular disc on a cord, waving it back and forth. On the count of Django, you will all grow stronger and defeat those whelps. 1, 2. Luffy blinked, his eyes shifted from the swinging chakram to the Black Cat's ship where Nami appeared on the deck with a bag slung over her shoulder, their eyes meeting for a moment. Django! Ah! The living pirates yelled, their bodies getting bigger than they had been. The small horde of cat-themed buccaneers rushed at the band of misfits. Shrimp! Usopp! Zoro called and he lined up with Luffy. Cover our backs. Watch Kuro. The 2 most cowardly fighters did so, staring down Kuro who did nothing but stand there with his cat claws, sword gloves, hanging at his sides. I hope you aren't afraid of blood, Luffy, the green-haired swordsman commented as the pirates approached. Nope, Luffy frowned, tightening his fists. Do what you have to, gum pistol. Brave claws of the demon cow. As battle sounded behind them, neither Usopp nor Coby turned back for fear of what they would see. Kuro glanced at his watch every now and then without batting an eye at the bloodbath, and Luffy and Zoro fended off his former crew. Time's up, he said simply after 5 minutes. The ex-pirate hunched over, wobbling back and forth, head down and eyes shaded. The Black Cat pirates panicked, trampling each other to try to get away. Kuro suddenly vanished from sight with a burst of unexplainable purple smoke, out of the bag attack. Deep grooves of 5 parallel lines started appearing everywhere. The ground, the cliff walls, pirates, even the ship. Everywhere, Black Cats cried and ran for their lives, as unhelpful as that was. The Straw Hats tried to track the movements with less panic, though Coby and Usopp were on the verge of panic like their opponents. Zoro ran to his student, shoving one sword in front of the boy's face. There was the clang of metal on metal and Kuro became visible for a second, an expression of slight shock on his face before he blurred out of sight again. Please Captain Kuro, stop, one pirate cried before his throat opened. Why the pussyfoot technique? Another asked before he lost an arm. Why are you doing this? Yet another whimpered, curled in a ball on the sand. I don't want to die, that poor soul didn't get his wish. Stop it, you bastard, Luffy yelled, throwing his arm forward. 5 cuts appeared in a small burst of blood, but Luffy's arm weathered the blow. Kuro was moving so fast he couldn't perceive the new obstacle in his way until he'd run into it. Luffy clotheslined the other pirate captain. Kuro tumbling due to his extra momentum. Those are your friends you're killing. Friends? Kuro warbled, sitting up from where he'd crashed into the cliff head first. Blood oozed from a cut hidden by his black hair. They aren't my friends. They are simply a means to an end. Nothing but pawns in a captain's game. So distracted and dizzy was the pirate butler that he didn't notice that his 4 enemies had approached him. Luffy grabbed a hold of his left arm and both his legs. Coby claimed the right arm, yanking his glove off of that hand just for good measure. Zoro stood over them, a sword at the man's throat. Usopp, Zoro spoke in an emotionless tone. Would you like to do the honors? With pleasure. The long-nosed sniper lifted his slingshot and loaded a small orange pellet. This is for Kaya. Exploding star. As the name implied, there was a small explosion at the point of contact. Kuro slumped forward, breathing shallowly. He would survive if he received medical attention, probably. Zoro and Coby backed off, the latter going to gather his sword sheaths. Luffy picked up the man's limp form and chucked it at the band of pirates at the bottom of the ravine. Leave this island and never come back. Luffy yumbled onto their ship with their captain and pushed off, fading into the distance as quickly as their ship would allow. Usopp, Captain Usopp. The Straw Hats turned to see 4 figures, Kaya, Pepper, Carrot, and Onion, step out of the foliage. Kaya's white dress was stained with dirt and bits of bark, which suggested her trek through the woods was not as comfortable as it would have been for anyone else. They ran to their village's lair, only for Kaya to trip when nearly there. Usopp caught her gently and held her as she began to cry. I'm sorry, Usopp, she muttered as her tears soaked the teen's shirt. I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. You've always helped me so much this past year, but it wasn't until I found Mary bleeding that I realized. I'm so sorry. It's okay, Kaya, Usopp whispered, holding the frail blonde carefully. We had it handled. I kept the town safe. As long as I can help in, the words, pirate or invading, will always be a lie. It's fine. You're safe. Usopp's words, kind through they were, could not stop the rich young woman from weeping. Pepper, Carrot, and Onion surrounded the two, spouting about how they'd known he was lying about the attack being a lie. While this happened, Nami returned from stashing her stolen treasure and Coby collapsed from exhaustion, his adrenaline dropping rapidly. Please, never, again, Coby wheezed. I didn't miss that much, did I? Nami asked, her eyes scanning the battlefield and the bodies thereupon. Her eyes widened at the motionless Shiem and the red-stained sand below him. Don't worry, Nami, Luffy assured, either oblivious to or ignoring the body, as Zoro picked up his now sleeping student. We just kicked their asses. How was your haul? They only had 1,000,000 bears on their ship, Nami replied, hardening her heart. They were just pirates, she told herself. It wasn't totally boring, 4 guards easily overwhelmed. Great, now let's. Luffy was asleep before he finished his sentence, flopping to the ground. Nami glanced around, finding Zoro and Coby in similar states as their captain and Usopp and the rest of the locals gone. She sighed, sitting next to the rubbery teen and running one hand through her hair. Saving an island, huh? She whispered into the wind as the sun rose higher. This is the second time, too. You gullible idiots need to stop being heroic or I'll feel bad. The day and night passed quickly, most of the townspeople blissfully ignorant of the battle for their safety. Kaya invited the pirates and Nami to stay in her mansion for the night as thanks for saving her and the rest of the island, which the Straw Hats were thankful for. It had been a while since any of them had slept in an actual bed, so they woke the next day well rested and ready to depart. Usopp didn't show up either that night or in the morning, which seemed to make Kaya a little tense, but she tried to shake it off. Kaya led them to the shoreline after a quick but filling breakfast, insisting that there was one more thing she wanted to offer. Waiting for them was her other, now primary, butler, a man with sheep horn-like decorations in his puffy white hair named Mary. Bandages wrapped around his torso just poked out of his uniform, hinting to the remnants of Kuro's treachery within the mansion. This is the Going Mary, exclaimed Mary, gesturing the ship that bobbed in the water behind him. She's a caravel, a slightly older model, but one of the fastest types on the seas. I built her myself many years ago for Miss Kaya's parents, but I'm afraid she isn't going to get much use here. We're sure she'll be happier with you. We've taken the liberty to stock her with a full month's worth of food to get you started. Little did Mary know that his version of a month's worth and Luffy's version were very different. The small crew was too focused on their new ship to enlighten the butler, however. The Going Mary was beautiful, with a red and white striped cross sail and a sheep, ram figurehead, her brown horns a contrast to her white paint. The crow's nest was set at the top of the mast and the area over the crew's quarters was a wide upper deck that could be used for anything. A cannon pointed out under the sheep's head and another lay on the deck, kept from falling into the water by a white painted railing that surrounded the top of the ship. Mine! Luffy yelled, stretching himself onto the figurehead, much to Mary and Kaya's surprise. This is the captain's seat, mine only. Oh, what's that? It's amazing, Nami gasped as her temporary captain and their student swordsman inspected the vessel with excitement. How can we repay you? No payment is necessary. Kaya waved off as she chose to ignore how people's bodies should not stretch, stepping over to stand by her caretaker. We only ask that you take good care of her. I haven't been able to travel with my illness, so I can't exactly use her. We will, the navigator nodded. I can promise you that. Oh, Mary clapped. Mr. Zoro. I heard that you were teaching the boy Koby, so I added a dojo under the crew's quarters with a full set of weights. Everything is nailed down, so it shouldn't go anywhere during a storm. Thank you very much, Zoro smirked, a slightly sadistic, slightly evil look coming across his face. I'll be sure to train him well. On the ship, Koby shivered. Help me, a voice cried. It seemed to come from Usopp, who was literally rolling down the road due to the large and overstuffed backpack he was using. Stop him, Luffy ordered. He's heading right for the ship. The straw hat wearing teen jumped down before he and his first mate lifted their left and right legs respectively. Usopp stopped when his face met their souls. On the bright side, his nose was spared thanks to the space between Luffy's sandal and Zoro's boot. Thanks, the sniper grunted, standing up and wiping the dirt off of his face. Now it's time for me to set sail. I hope we meet again on the high seas. What are you talking about? Zoro questioned as he climbed onto the boat. Get on. We're friends, aren't we? Luffy elaborated, stretching up to grab the railing. Again, Mary goggled. You're on my crew, aren't you? Yes. Usopp cheered. I'm a pirate captain, like hell, I'm the captain. Usopp, Kaya whispered, grabbing the teen's arm before he could start a pointless argument with Luffy. I know I can't stop you from leaving. You've been saying your dream was to be a pirate like your father for as long as I've known you, but I'm still going to miss you. Don't worry, Kaya, the sniper replied, placing a hand over hers and turning to face the blonde. Just think, when I get back, I'll have true stories so outrageous they'll sound made up. As the old phrase goes, sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. I know, she sighed as she pulled out a piece of paper. Here's my den number, so remember to call. Just be safe, okay? Before Usopp could respond, Kaya leaned in and kissed him, freezing his world for a minute. She pulled back after a few seconds, leaving the long-nosed teen dumbstruck. He floundered, his eyes unfocused and his mouth flopping comically. The rich girl gave him a push to wake his brain up. Now get going, you. Start having those adventures. Alright, the sniper stuttered. Right, I'll travel the world before coming back to tell you about all my amazing adventures. He climbed on quickly, jumping into the nearly complete preparations for the going merry to leave. Set sail, Luffy cheered, to our next adventure. The ship departed, Luffy, Koby, and Usopp waving frantically as the island faded into the background. I'll be back, Kaya, Usopp yelled, his voice echoing over the sea. Wait for me. Now let's party, Luffy cheered, to adventure in our new nakama. Yeah. A puddle of sweat sunk into the floorboards of the Mary's weight room, a section of the storage hull that had been sectioned off with a new wall and furnished with a plethora of weights. Over that puddle was a bench-pressing bench currently being used by a certain Rosset. Sweat dripped from Koby's skin as he pushed another representative out of his burning arms, a whole 130 pounds threatening to crush him should he fail. Zoro stood over him, ready to move should something go wrong, but Koby could not see him through his closed eyes. T20, S7, the boy panted, his arms visibly shaking under the unfamiliar strain of training. T20, 8, 20, N, 9. Come on, shrimp, Zoro muttered. You can do it, one more for the round. Grr, his student growled, forcing his arms to move with the memory of the pirates they fought back on Gecko Island. The weights rose slowly, rattling with Koby's shaking arms as they reached the zenith. 30. Koby gasped as his arms gave out, the weights falling into the control of gravity. Zoro moved quickly, catching the bar with one hand as his student's arms flopped uselessly. He tossed the bar aside carefully before grabbing Koby by the scruff of the neck, hoisting the boy like one would a kitten and leaning him against the wall. Stand up when you're out of breath, Zoro told him, it's better for your lungs. Right, Zoro-sensei, Koby continued to pant, now pressing his back into the wall. The ship shook with the boom of a cannon, not the first to have come in the past few minutes from the deck above. Do you think Usopp is done yet? Yeah, I'd say so, there was a crash after that last shot. Koby blinked as the pain in his arms fell from a sharp spike to a dull ache, coming face to face with Zoro now lifting twice what Koby had been struggling with. The gap between them had always been obvious, but Zoro's actions also showed that his goal was attainable. Koby could become as strong as Zoro. He could. But he needed to rest first. Koby's eyes closed for only a moment to his concept of time, but the next thing he knew, there was a horrible crash from somewhere above. Come out, you filthy pirates, a voice shouted from the deck. I'll teach you to try to kill my partner. Stop wrecking our ship, Luffy yelled as Koby painfully pushed himself to his feet, Zoro setting aside the weights he was using. The Rosset fell in behind his teacher as they set themselves en route to the deck. Usopp jumped out of a room further down the hallway, bursting through the door to yell. Don't break the Mary, Luffy. What the hell is going on out here? Zoro demanded as he and Coby stepped into the sunlight, Coby poking his head out from behind the swordsman. The green-haired man looked down to see the intruder spread eagle on the deck. The man was of average height and well-tanned with short black hair and a kanji tattooed on his left cheek. He wore off-white khakis, dull green boots, and a purple shirt under a blue jacket. An average but well-made sword was held in his right hand and sunglasses sat perched on his nose. "What the hell are you doing here, Johnny?" Zoro asked. The man started at the sound of his name. There was a moment of hesitation during which he took in the form of the green-haired swordsman. "Big bro Zoro?" Johnny questioned, pushing himself into a sitting position. "What are you doing here? Why are you on a pirate ship?" He noticed Coby. "Who's the runt?" "Relax, I'll explain later, and the shrimp here is Coby, my student. Where's Yosaku?" He's..." Johnny started crying and rushed to the side of the ship where another, smaller boat was hooked to the Going Merry. Zoro and Coby followed at a slower rate. On the boat was a man whose skin was a sickly, unhealthy white. He had a shaved head covered with a red helmet and he was dressed in a black shirt under a green trench coat. The man also wore yellow and red plaid shorts and brown boots. A bloody bandage was wrapped around his waist and his head was bleeding slowly, a puddle already pooling below him. This was Yosaku, Johnny's bounty hunting partner. "He looks bad," Coby fretted, Luffy and Usopp gaping at his sides. "We were just minding our own business," Johnny explained, a tad hysterical. "Yosaku has been getting sick lately and old injuries started opening again for no reason. He collapsed last night and hasn't gotten any better since." Coby, Usopp, and Luffy jumped down, the three working together to lift Yosaku gently onto the Mary's deck. Attracted by the hubbub on the deck, Nami stepped out of the personal cabin she's claimed for mapmaking. "Give it to me straight, big bro," Johnny cried as he fell to his knees beside his friend. "Is Yosaku gonna die?" "Now don't think that," Zoro tried to reason. Nami made herself known to the rest of the group, walking up to and examining the injured man. "You're all a bunch of morons," she announced. "You three," she pointed at the youngest of the crew. "We've got a bunch of limes in the storage room. Ring some up. You, Johnny, right? Your partner has scurvy." "Scurvy?" Johnny blinked. "Will he be okay, big sis?" 1. He hasn't been eating right, so he doesn't have enough vitamin C in his bloodstream and should be fine if we get fruit into him soon enough. 2. Don't call me sis. "We're back," Nami, Luffy announced, himself and Usopp emerging from the storage room. Coby followed them slowly, limes falling from the basket in his hands on account of his shaking arms. Under Nami's guidance, Usopp and Luffy began squeezing juice from the limes into Yosaku's mouth. "How long will this take?" Coby asked as he finally arrived. "Scrubby could be a death sentence on a ship. I've had it before and was lucky to survive." Yosaku below him sprung to his feet, startling a scream out of Coby and Usopp, both of whom jumped behind Luffy. "Yosaku!" Johnny yelled. "Johnny!" Yosaku answered, the men locking arms. The two cheered, dancing together. "Hooray, hooray!" "You can't be that healthy instantly," Nami yelled, flabbergasted. "That's not how biology works." "Allow us to introduce ourselves," Johnny said, either ignoring or not hearing the orange-haired navigator. They bowed. "I'm Johnny." "And I'm Yosaku," his partner added, also bowing before they locked arms around each other's shoulders. "And together, we are the best bounty hunting duo in the universe. Big bro Zoro used to be one of us, too," Johnny continued after their announcement, him and Yosaku disentangling from each other. Johnny reached out, clasping hands with Zoro in an air of familiarity, both smiling. "Never thought we'd find you on a pirate ship, though." Yosaku went to join the brotherly showing, only to collapse again. "Mr. Yosaku," Coby yelled, scrambling to catch the sickly man. He was only fast enough in his post-workout state to keep Yosaku's head from bouncing off the deck. "Quick, take him inside," Luffy ordered, grabbing the fallen man's legs. Coby and Usopp each took an arm, the three shuffling toward the doctor's chambers, not that they had a doctor yet, awkwardly as Johnny watched with worry. "Come on," Nami urged, leading Zoro and Johnny toward the kitchen. "So, you picked up a student?" Johnny asked in wonder as the trio stepped into the dining room, the man also taking in the view of the beautiful ship. It wasn't exactly special, but it was better than anything he and Yosaku had sailed before. Coby, Usopp, and Luffy joined them before Zoro could answer, each grabbing a chair around the table. "Is Yosaku okay?" "He's resting right now," Coby explained. "Scurvy can be bad, but it's quickly reversed with enough fruit. I'm sure he'll be fine." "Thank you." Johnny turned back to Zoro as Nami pulled out what he assumed was the ship's logbook. "You'd always said you'd never take on a student." "It's a long story," Zoro waved off. "Shrimp, you've rested enough. Drop and give me 30. "But, do it." "Yes, sensei," Coby dropped to the floor. "Deeper, Shrimp. They won't help you if you only go halfway." "Yes, Zoro-sensei," Coby grunted as Nami finished writing K. She'd taken it upon herself to do so since Luffy's handwriting was terrible and he wouldn't take the time to do it anyway. "And let that be a lesson, Johnny," she muttered, shutting the book. "You and Yosaku need proper nutrition. I suggest one of you learn how to cook." "That's something we need," Luffy shouted, dropping a fist into his open hand. "We need a cook, right after we get a musician." "We don't need a musician," Zoro scolded, smacking Luffy in the back of the head. Predictably, Luffy didn't show any outward reaction to the blow. "A cook, huh?" Johnny chuckled. "In that case, I know the perfect place. It's a little hard to track down since it moves around on the sea, but it's said to be one of the best restaurants in the world. It's supposed to be near the Grand Line right now, and there have also been rumors that a certain hawk-eyed man is in the general area." Zoro's eyes widened. "Which way?" he demanded. "I'm the navigator here," Nami interrupted. "One of the best restaurants in the world? The only one I've heard about in the East Blue that moves is called the Baratier, right?" "That's it," Johnny nodded. "Yosaku and I have been there a few times and it's never disappointed. Last we heard it was anchored to the north of here." The Going Merry sailed north throughout the night, docking at an atoll for a few hours to give the crew time to rest and recuperate as well as check on Yosaku. The limes had begun their work, his skin looking healthier and his breathing easier, but he would need another few days at least until he was back into fighting shape, but he was able to get up and move like normal. The sky was clear and the waves were calm when Usopp finally caught sight of the Baratier, a large vessel with a fish motif and a coat of light blue paint. Its base was mostly circular and several stories tall, a small patio-like walkway ringing the walls of the ship for people to reach the entrance. Dozens of smaller ships were docked around it, ropes tied to the floating restaurant. "It's so big," Luffy gasped, jumping in excitement. "That's so cool." Luffy?" Usopp began, turning the heads of the captain and the rest of the crew to a white and blue ship a little bigger than the Mary pulling up on their starboard side. There was a man on the deck that was not taking part in the work of sailing like the rest of the crew. He was tall with tan skin and pink hair, and was dressed in a yellow suit. His knuckles were covered in an iron plating that looked like screws and he had a scar on his right cheek. His eyes drifted to the skull and crossbones flag the crew had painted yesterday before meeting Johnny and Yosaku. "First a Marine lieutenant, Iron Fist, full body." The man yelled from the Marine ship as both ships came to a stop. "But you can just call me, sir, who is the captain of your vessel. I don't recognize your flag." Coby felt his eye twitch as the image of another Marine he'd met overlaid itself on full body, the tone of his voice and the arrogance therein reminding him of Morgan. That full body, a mere lieutenant, could treat anyone with such disrespect without previous interaction did not bode well for his character. Was he also corrupt? How often does one come across two different, unrelated, corrupt Marines in 1 week? "I am," Luffy announced, stepping forward to answer the question. "I'm Luffy." "And I'm Usopp," the sniper piped up. "We just painted our flag yesterday," Luffy continued. "And I'm the one that painted it." "Shut up, Usopp," Zoro ordered, grabbing the long-nosed teen by the neck. The lieutenant scanned the boat, searching for familiar faces, until he saw Johnny and Yosaku trying to hide behind a door. "Aren't you two the bounty hunter duo that goes around catching small fry?" "Small fry?" Johnny yelled, clearly insulted. "Small fry? We've taken down pirates like Dark Arts, Dalahiv and the Centurion, Quo Vadis. Do you call these people small fry?" He threw a stack of wanted posters into the air, some of them like the poster of Dark Arts and the Centurion, having red X's on the photos. Coby picked out a couple other recognizable names from the posters, Nami grabbing one and stuffing it within her clothing in the corner of his vision. He hadn't gotten a good look, but there was only one pirate in the East Blue with blue skin. It was a poster for the infamous Fishman, Sawtooth, Arlong. Full Body didn't seem to care. "They're an eyesore," the Marine told his men as he and his lovely date, a blonde woman, disembarked. "Sink them." "Yes, sir. They're pointing a cannon at us," Coby warned. "Why are they pointing a cannon at us?" "I got this," Luffy announced as the cannon fired. He stretched his arms out to grab the mast and the figurehead. Gum gum slingshot. The cannonball slammed into him, stretching out his arms and legs. Much to the shock of the bounty hunters and the Marines watching, Coby noticed a change in Luffy's expression, leading him to see his captain's fingers slipping on the figurehead. With a cry, the Rossett charged toward the bow, grabbing Luffy's hand and planting his feet as Luffy lost his grip. Luffy snapped back to his normal size, the cannonball smashing into the mast of the Marine ship. Sailors screamed as the whole thing tipped, driving a hole through their deck and into the hull below as it fell. She, Luffy laughed as Johnny and Yosaku stared at him. "That was fun, thanks, Coby." "And no problem, Captain," Coby answered, only now realizing the scale of what he'd just done. Across the water, the Marines scrambled to keep their ship from capsizing. "Maybe we should move the Mary so they don't try to shoot us again?" "Good idea. Everyone, let's move to the other side." Under Luffy's minimal guidance, the ship sailed to the opposite end of the restaurant and docked between two larger ships before the crew and passengers disembarked. The Marines were still in a panic as the pirates and bounty hunters entered the establishment. The inside was the same color as the outside, the soft blue of the walls casting a calming aura that meshed well with the smooth jazz that flowed from hidden speakers. Circular tables were set around the room, each covered with a white tablecloth. Coby waited for a host to seat them, but Luffy and Zoro simply walked to an empty table and sat down. No one stopped them, causing Coby, Usopp, and Nami to join them. Yosaku and Johnny took a separate table. "Good afternoon," a young man with blonde hair and a nice suit said, walking over to their table. He had a curly eyebrow over his visible right eye, the left one covered by his hair, and a lit cigarette in his mouth. He seemed distracted. "My name is Sanji and I'm the sous chef, but we're short-staffed at the moment. Can I take your order?" "Meat," Luffy shouted, predictably, without even consulting the menu. The rest of the crew followed suit until the man reached Nami, the woman having consulted the menu more thoroughly. "My darling goddess," the chef cried, falling to one knee and pulling out a red rose from God knows where. "For a beauty like yourself, I would displace the heavens. What request may I answer for you this day?" "Well," Nami began, unaware of Luffy's gaze leveled on her and Sanji. "I'm considering the poulet mandarin, but it's just so expensive, you know? Can you do anything about that, Sanji-kun?" The chef looked like someone shot him in the heart, equal parts scandalized that the menu dared to concern the woman before him and delighted that he could be of service. "Of course, mademoiselle. No gentleman like myself would even consider charging you. Everything here is free for you, compliments of my undying love." "Suck up," Zoro snickered, earning a kick to the back of the head. Sanji retreated before the swordsman could retaliate, moving on to another table on the other side of the room. "I don't like him," Zoro grumbled. "He's just our waiter," Usopp pointed out. "Sous chef," Coby corrected. "Whatever. Point is, it's not like he's the one that's going to join us." "Don't fuck with me." The yell came from across the room, T now standing. He had a fist held in front of Sanji's face. A bowl of soup shattered at their feet. The Marine punched his table, shattering it as well. "You think you can get away with embarrassing Marine Lieutenant, Iron Fist, full body, you damn no-name waiter?" "That soup took all night to make," Sanji muttered, falling to one knee to lament the wasted food. "What was that?" Sanji didn't answer verbally. He shot to his feet, one leg coming up into a split to kick the Marine in the chin. His date gasped and backed away as Sanji proceeded to turn full Bobby into a bloody mess, grabbing the man by the neck and lifting him into the air. "Sanji, you asshole!" A cook with giant arms raged. "That man is a Marine lieutenant. He disrespected the food and he disrespected me," Sanji spat, as if that explained why he had used the Marine as a punching bag. He dropped the man who landed in a crumpled and moaning heap. "And for the last time, I'm the sous chef, not a damn waiter." "That's not the point here, Sanji, jerk or not, he's a paying customer." "Shut up, Patty. He's an asshole who's not worthy of his beautiful date." Blonde who had come with full body blushed. As Sanji began arguing with the other chefs, full body started to crawl away, trying to leave them behind. He left a trail of blood along the wood floor, nearly reaching the door before it was thrown open by a Marine grunt. He was leaning on the doorframe, his shoulder covered in blood from a bullet hole. "Lieutenant Full Body," he cried, scanning the restaurant before finding his officer on the ground. He seemed confused, but there were more pressing matters than why Full Body was on his hands and knees and bleeding. "Lieutenant, the prisoner has escaped. He's killed 7 of us already." "Impossible," Full Body yelled, pushing himself to his knees. "He was on the verge of starvation when we caught him 3 days ago and we haven't fed him since. He shouldn't have the energy to move. How did this happen?" "The mast," the Marine began, only for a thin arm to wrap around his neck. Terrified, the grunt was dragged out of the door before a gunshot sounded, followed closely by the wet thump of a body hitting the ground. Replacing the presumably dead Marine in the doorway was a man with a smoking flintlock dressed in gray pants, a green shirt under a gray jacket with red sea serpent designs, and a blue and gray striped headband. The man himself was tan and railed thin with scruffy black hair and a scraggly beard from not shaving while in captivity. He also had bags under his eyes and 2 large bead earrings on each ear. The murderer limped into the establishment, ignoring the sniffling lieutenant, and fell into a seat while throwing one leg onto the table to try to hide his misery. The chef who'd yelled at Sanji walked over with a big and obviously fake smile. "Welcome to the Baratier, ya damn crook. My name's Patty. What can I get you?" "I don't care," the man growled over the sounds of his empty stomach. "I haven't eaten in a week. Just bring me food." "May I ask how you're going to pay for this meal?" Jin pulled out the gun he'd used to kill the Marine and pointed it at the chef. "Do ya take lead?" Patty wasn't fazed by the obviously loaded weapon, but he did seem to get a mixture of excitement and disappointment from the answer. "So you don't have any money?" The chef brought his 2 huge fists up and slammed them down on the pirate, breaking the chair the man was sitting in. What followed was almost a recreation of Sanji beating up Full Body, the murderer receiving the horrible treatment this time around. Unknown to either of the fighting men, Sanji had made an exit to the kitchen. Finally, after kicking him while he was down for a good 5 minutes, Patty threw the man over his shoulder and carried him out behind the restaurant. "And stay out," Patty's voice called, leading to many of the patrons cheering. "I've got a good feeling," Luffy smirked, downing the rest of his meal in a second and standing. "Captain, wait," Coby cried, abandoning his food to chance after the rubber man. "You don't know who that is." Luffy didn't listen, Coby following him up the stairs to the second floor and out onto the deck. Down below, the pirate from before moaned hungrily as Patty walked back inside. "That's not nice," Luffy muttered, preparing to jump over the rail. "Captain, are you crazy?" Coby yelled, grabbing Luffy by the arm. "That's Man Demon, Jin of the Krieg Pirates. He's one of the deadliest men of the East Blue, wanted for 12 million barras." "So?" Luffy grinned, grabbing Koby's face and turning it toward the criminal down below. Sanji had walked out of the kitchen with a plate of fried rice and a glass of water and now stood before the emaciated Jin. "You look like shit," Sanji said, setting the plate and glass before the starving pirate. "Here, eat." "I don't want our charity," Jin spat, turning away from the food he so obviously wanted. The pirate's stomach protested his choice. "The sea is crazy, isn't it?" Sanji sighed, sitting down next to the dangerous man and lighting a cigarette. "It can mean absolute death if you run out of food. I know what it's like to starve because of the sea and I can't stand seeing anyone go through that, so eat. Survive today so you can defend your honor tomorrow." Jin's resolve crumbled and he dove for the food, scarfing it down like he hadn't eaten in days, which he hadn't. "It's so good," he cried happily, tears streaming down his face as he shoveled more and more food into his mouth. "But I can't help you," he cleared his throat. "I can't help but think you're going to get fired because of me." "Don't worry about it," Sanji replied as Jin finished his food. "This isn't the first time I've done this. What's your name?" "I'm Sanji." "Jin." "Thank you, Sanji. I like you," Luffy stated before Coby could stop him, making their presence known. Sanji and Jin jumped at the interruption. "I'm Monkey D. Luffy, and I'm looking for a cook for my pirate crew and I've decided I want you. Join my crew, Sanji." "I'm sorry," Sanji blinked, "but I can't leave. I owe the old man too much." "So you refuse?" "Yes. I refuse your refusal," Luffy responded, crossing his arms. "That's not how it works," Coby, Sanji, and Jin yelled, sending the latter into a coughing fit. Luffy remained unfazed. "Well, I'm not gonna leave until I have you on my crew," the teenage pirate captain declared. "You're a pirate, right?" Jin asked as he got his coughing under control, getting a nod from the rubber man. "Obviously you're just starting if you're looking for a cook. Let me give you some advice. Stay away from the Grand Line. That sea defies logic and is only a death sentence." "Well, thanks," Luffy smiled, "but I'm going to the Grand Line no matter what you say. I'm after the One Piece and that's where it is." "I can't stop you," Jin sighed, "it's your death." "Here, Jin," Sanji interrupted, untying a small boat. "You can take this to leave." "Thank you. Eggplant, get back to work." A large man yelled from somewhere over them. He was a tall, rotund man with a braided blonde mustache, a small beard, and short hair. He was dressed in a regular chef outfit with the exception of his pants being shorts, revealing that his right leg was missing from the knee down and was replaced with a peg leg. His chef hat was so tall that it would have brushed the ceiling if they were inside. "I'm sorry, Sanji," Jin apologized. "You'll probably get yelled at because of me." In response, the chef picked up the empty dishes and threw them into the ocean. "There. No evidence, no problem." Jin balked before falling to the deck. Thank you so much, I'll never forget your kindness." Accepting Sanji's charity, Jin climbed into the boat and set a course southeastwardly. As he sailed off into the distance, Sanji, Luffy, and Coby went back inside, the former to work and the latter two to join their crew at their table. "I found us a cook," Luffy announced as he reached the table, everyone else now finished with their food. "It's that not wait a real nice guy who won't let any of us go hungry." "Great," Zoro grumbled into his beer. "All the cooks on this boat, and you pick him?" "You don't like him?" Nami asked. "I think he's pretty nice." "That's 'cause he gave you free food," Usopp interjected. "Captain," Sanji said he doesn't want to join, Coby reminded. "He refused." "And I refused his refusal," Luffy nodded. "We aren't leaving until Sanji agrees to join us." "Damn it," Zoro growled. "Maybe I should go beat him into submission so he can just leave." "You stupid eggplant," the voice of the head chef shouted as Sanji shot out of the doors to the kitchen, landing on his back hard. Zeph stepped out of doors as they tried to close. "Get the hell out of my restaurant, I don't need a shitty chef like you ruining our reputation." "Shut up, you old fart," Sanji shouted back. "I'm staying here until you drop dead. And my food is just as good as yours, bastard, I can do everything you can." "Fat chance, runt. I've still got 100 years before I give out and I haven't taught you everything." Sanji pushed himself to his feet and shoved past Zeph, stomping back into the kitchen. The older blonde glanced at the pirates. Luffy's grin widened. "We're gonna be here a while," Usopp sighed. The Straw Hats stayed docked at the Baratier for 6 more days, Luffy pestering Sanji to join his crew the whole time. Zoro and Coby used that time to train, The older man would push the younger far past the breaking point each day, but it had noticeable results. By their third day on the barradier, Coby was able to lift 2 bakken at once and he could use them decently on the fourth. He'd also taken to wearing them strapped across his back in an X shape so there was one handle over each shoulder. Nice weather became prominent in the area, so Zoro had them training outside on the decks. The customers, most of them anyway, enjoyed watching the boy run laps to increase his speed and stamina in the mornings. In the afternoons, Zeph would raise the ship's extra platform from below the sea so Coby and Zoro could spar and give the customers a show, the former with both wooden swords and the latter with only a sheathed wado ichimonji, sometimes in his mouth, sometimes in his offhand. After dinner, they would go into the dojo on the going merry and lift weights until Coby couldn't move. Zoro would then take him to the men's quarters before going back to training. By the 6th day, Coby had lost most of his extra weight and would probably be able to hold his own in a fight. Zoro smirked at his student through his sword on the afternoon of the 7th day, the young Rosette scowling as he tried in vain to overpower the man's block with his own double overhead swing. With little effort, Zoro pushed up and dislodged Coby, causing the boy to stumble backwards and lose his balance as well as his weapons. Almost casually, Zoro strode forward and tapped his sheathed weapon on the boy's neck. Dead. For the 5th time, Coby grumbled, reaching over to grab his bakken. Hey, look at it this way, Zoro offered, taking his sword out of his mouth. It took me almost 2 minutes to overpower you that time. It's still not enough, Coby whined, securing his wooden weapons on his back. I won't be of any use to Captain Luffy until I'm strong enough to beat anyone who threatens our crew. I can't be a hero until I can stop any asshole who does wrong. At this level, I'm nothing but a reliability. I wouldn't say that, Zoro replied as they stepped into the restaurant. I bet you would be able to take down any of those pirates from Usopp's island one-on-one at your level, except for the captain. Really? Zoro only smirked in response as they reached what had become their table with the rest of their crew. Sanji danced away with a dopey grin on his face, leaving a giant sundae in front of their only female crew member. Nami shook her head, taking only a single bite from the ice cream before pushing it toward Luffy and Usopp, the former of who swallowed the rest in one gulp. I'm going to go change, Nami announced, standing. Okay. Luffy answered as Zoro and Coby sat down. Johnny and Yosaku are out there, Nami ignored him as she left. So what now? Usopp asked, somewhat sour at not getting any of the ice cream Luffy had snatched from under his long nose. It's getting really boring here. You could train with us, Zoro suggested with an evil smile, Usopp paling at the idea. I think I'll pass, the sniper swallowed. I'm getting close to breaking Sanji, Luffy said. I can feel it. What is that? One of the other customers asked. Her chair scraped against the floor as she stood and pointed out the window. It's Don Krieg, another patron yelled, standing so quickly that his chair toppled. Don Krieg is here, the customers panicked and fled. Looking out the window, a great shape grew closer, a ragged ship tapping the fins of the seafaring restaurant. The panic ended as quickly as it began, leaving the ship empty of everyone but the chefs and the straw hats. Luffy and his crew rose as the rhythmic, uneven thump-thump-thump of boots on wood announced the approach of unsteady people. A moment later, the front door flew open. At the entrance stood Jin once more, this time with a large man slung over his side. Please, the man begged, his voice raspy. Help, I am, please. Yeah right. Patty laughed. This is a golden chance. Someone call the Marines right now. No, Jin cried. Even it's money y'all want, we can pay this time. Just help, I am. Like we'd help a man like Don Krieg, Carne scoffed. The world would be better off without a man like him and all of his followers. I promise I won't attack the restaurant, the man, who Luffy suspected was Krieg, vowed, pushing off Jin's shoulder to get on his knees and bow. Just give me food. Don Krieg was an older man with short, gray hair, long sideburns, and a square face that was ragged and gaunt from hunger. His dress involved golden, fur-lined armor with his Jolly Roger on each shoulder covered by a floral t-shirt, the jacket he was using as a cape. Under his chest plate was a gray shirt and dark pants hung on his waist. Bandages were wrapped around his head and various parts of his body. Don, no, Jin cried. This is unbecoming, oh yeah. Patty laughed. Haha you RK. With a sudden jolt, the large chef was thrown to the side. Sanji walked through the space Patty had previously occupied, a plate of food coming to rest in front of the sickly villain. The older man forewent table manners and dug in with his hands, Jin thanking the chef profusely. What's so special about this guy? Luffy wondered aloud. You don't know, Coby all but yelled. Don't you know about anyone in the East Blue? Admiral Don Krieg is a man wanted for 17 million bears for unspeakable acts. He got his start as a pirate by enlisting in the Navy before killing his commander and stealing his ship. Since then, he's used every dirty trick in the book to win, including using marine flags to enter cities before killing everyone there. I thought you said his actions were unspeakable, Zoro commented. Oh, Luffy blinked, glaring at the man finishing his meal. He's one of those. Thank you, Krieg whispered, drawing Sanji in to take the empty plate away. When Sanji was close, however, Krieg surged upward, punching the blonde man in the gut. Sanji coughed as he was thrown backward into a table, shattering it. Jin could only watch as his captain struck the man who had saved them both. "Don Krieg," Jin shouted. "Why do you do that? He saved our lives. Only brought Ya here because Ya'd promised not to attack." "Yes," he'd responded. "The food was delicious. Now drop that damn accent like I've always told you to." Yes, Don." Jin could meet no one's eyes, only staring down at the floor in shame. His captain, however, did not have any problems with his own actions, the man eyeing the ship with a growing smirk. "This is a pretty nice ship. I think I'll take it." "Don Krieg," Jin whispered. "Please." Krieg ignored him, leading the tanned man to look ton the debris of a table. "Sanji, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. I have about 100 men on my ship," Krieg continued, ignoring his subordinate. "All are weak with hunger. Feed them and leave, and I'll leave you alive." Sanji shifted, standing and turning away from the attacking pirates. He began walking toward the kitchen, a dribble of blood running down the side of his face. "Sanji," Patty asked. "Where are you going?" "To the kitchen. I have 100 meals to make." "What?" Every one of the cooks gathered around Sanji, the one named Patty stepping forward and punching the sous chef into the ground without resistance. "I don't care who was right and wrong all those times you fed the scumbags I'd thrown out of here," Patty hissed, "but this time you're just wrong, Sanji." Confirming the other chefs wouldn't let Sanji into the kitchen, Patty walked over to one wall that he slid open to reveal a hidden compartment. Out of it, he pulled a lobster-shaped cannon. "I hope you saved room for dessert, Don Krieg. 'Cause here's the meatball of doom." He shot a cannonball at Krieg, who took the shot head-on, filling the surrounding air with smoke. As it started to clear, the first thing many noticed were the ripped and broken hinges on the doorframe. "Oops. Looks like I broke the doors." The smoke cleared as the cooks laughed, revealing Krieg without a scratch. "Was that supposed to hurt?" Krieg asked, shrugging off his ruined floral patterned shirt. Light glinted off his golden, wood steel armor. The gray-haired man shifted, activating his armor's weapons, twin Gatling guns appearing from his shoulders. "Get down," a chef known as Carne yelled, himself, Patty, and a half-dozen other chefs diving for cover. Those who didn't move in time were left exposed when Krieg's guns roared to life, bullets blowing holes through several unlucky chefs. Most of the injuries were non-life-threatening, but Coby squeaked as a body with a bullet hole through the face hit the floor beside him. Krieg smirked as his gun slowed to a stop, smoking. He was clearly proud of his work, surveying the damage and death until his eye was dragged to the door to the kitchen where a newcomer entered the scene. Zeph trod his way past his wounded and lost employees, a large sack over his shoulder like a one-legged Santa. He dropped it in front of the notorious pirate. "Here," he said. "That's about 100 meals." "Head Chef Zeph." The cooks cried, aghast at the actions of their boss. Krieg seemed to recognize the name because his eyes widened. "You're Redfoot, Zeph," he gasped in reverence. "The unrivaled captain who was also the ship's cook. They say you got your name because you only used your feet in battle and they were always covered in the blood of your enemies, so you were alive." "I am," Zeph nodded. "I lost a leg, but I can still cook." "Give me your logbook," Krieg demanded. "The Grand Line may have bested me once, but with your logbook, I would be unstoppable. I had the best men. The best equipment. I just lacked the needed information. With it, I'd become the king of the pirates." "No way," Luffy yelled, apparently that part of the encounter warranting his intervention. "I'm gonna be king of the pirates." "Shut up, Luffy," Usopp shouted in worry. "He'll kill you." "Brat," Krieg growled. "I don't have time to deal with you right now. After I feed my men, I'll finish you off." The admiral carried the food out of the broken doors and onto his flagship. Jin stayed behind, tears rolling down his cheeks. "I'm so sorry," he cried, his accent back with the absence of his captain. "I'm so sorry." "Don't apologize, Jin," Sanji told him. "Once they're fed, I have no obligation toward them. I'll kill any man who attacks this restaurant as long as they have food in their stomachs." "Please," Jin begged. "Please leave, Sanji. I don't want to see ya die." "I don't care," Sanji shot back, gesturing to the chefs around him. "We don't care. This restaurant is our livelihood and the old man's dream. We won't abandon it until we're dead." "Hey, Jin," Luffy interrupted before he could say more. "I thought you said you didn't know anything about the Grand Line." "I don't know anything anymore. Our entire fleet was wiped out in only 7 days, all by one man. I can still feel his murderous gaze like the cold hand o' death. His eyes were like a hawk's." Zoro and Coby tensed. "Wait, you mean," Coby trailed off. "Hawkeye, Mihawk," the older of the two muttered. "You know him, Zoro?" Luffy asked. "How could you not know him, Luffy?" Coby questioned. "He's the world's greatest swordsman and one of the 7 warlords of the sea. He's one of the strongest men in the world." "Huh. Neat. I'm sorry," Jin cried again as the remaining cooks prepared for war. "I'm so sorry." The baradier rocked violently, throwing Jin to the floor. At the same time, some force raced through the building. Jin shivered on the floor, his eye widening. "No," he whispered, pushing himself to his feet and racing for the door. "Not him, not again." The rest of the baradier's occupants followed him, just reaching the outside to see Jin dive into the water. Krieg's ship outside was in tatters, masts leaning, sails torn, and planks broken. It was a miracle that the ship had made it to the floating restaurant, but it wouldn't be going anywhere else. The flagship, a three-masted galleon, had been split into three separate pieces as if cut by a sword, the interior now taking on water at an unstoppable rate. Within the wreckage, Jin surfaced with two of his crewmates, depositing them on a larger piece of ship that could hold them before sucking in a breath and diving again. Others able to save themselves swam to the fins still up from Coby and Zoro's daily training. A little way to the side floated a small, coffin-shaped raft with giant candles burning green fire. The man aboard it was dressed in a red musketeer outfit complete with a white feather. On his back was a grand sword with a gold handle encrusted with various jewels. Around his neck was a plain gold cross. He had a small mustache and goatee and his eyes were yellow and cold. He was, slowly, returning the giant sword to its position on his back. "That's crazy," Usopp gasped. "Did he just cut that ship? I'm glad the Mary is on the other side of the restaurant." "Big bro Zoro," Johnny and Yosaku yelled, running around from the other side of the deck. "Big bro Luffy. Big bro Usopp. Little bro Coby." Big sis Nami took the ship and left. "What?" Usopp demanded. "You better be joking. We aren't, she stole the ship." They explained in overlapping voices that she'd pushed them off before saying that they would see each other again if it was meant to be. "We had to catch up to her," Luffy said. "Nami is the only navigator I'll accept on my crew." "Why does it have to be her?" Zoro questioned, turning to Luffy. "She stole our—" Zoro's eyes narrowed as he zeroed in on the swordsman. "That's him." "Why are you doing this?" The Krieg pirates shouted at the man on the raft. "Just killing time," he replied nonchalantly. Zoro broke away from his crew, pulling his bandana off his bicep and tying it around his head. He hopped from flotsam to flotsam until he reached the biggest intact piece of the ship. "You're Hawkeye Mahawk, are you not? My name is Roronoa Zoro and I challenge you to a duel." "Holy shit." A pirate cursed. "Three swords. Roronoa Zoro." Another gasped, the pirates backing away. "He's the demon butcher of the East Blue. Why are two monsters here at the same time?" Mahawk calmly made his way onto the ship before pulling off his necklace. He opened it to reveal a blade no bigger than a butter knife. "So you are well known around these parts," the swordsman observed. "Still, this is the most peaceful of the 6 seas and the weakest of the 4 blues. One shouldn't use a cannonball to kill a fly, but it still feels like I'm shooting a mouse. I'm sorry, I don't have anything smaller than this." The warlord said this without any mocking tone. Zoro was insulted anyway. Led his swords out and charged, but the man held him back with ease. Zoro pulled back and dove forward, attacking with everything he had. "Tell me," Mahawk said without emotion, countering effortlessly. "What drives you forward? Why do you fight?" Zoro stopped his assault to reply, backing away to put distance between the combatants. "I fight for my dream and my ambition," he answered. "I will be the world's greatest swordsman, and to do that I must defeat you." Tiger trap, Zoro attacked again, but his swords never connected. He continued to swig, his attacks becoming more frenzied as the time drug on. Mahawk's eyes stayed on the green-haired man as he began to sweat. Finally, Zoro overextended, the warlord's small knife stabbing Zoro just over his heart, piercing his left lung. "You aren't stepping back," Mahawk observed as blood dripped from the wound. "Why not?" "I don't know," the younger pirate coughed, "but I can't step back. If I retreat even a single step, I'd be turning my back on all the promises I've made." "I like your determination. State your name." "I am Roronoa Zoro." "I will remember your name, Roronoa Zoro," Mahawk stated, pulling his knife out of the pirate. Zoro almost sagged, but he caught himself. "You have a strong heart, so I'll fight you with the world's strongest black blade." "I'm honored." Zoro began spinning his swords. 3-sword style secret technique. 3,000 worlds. The two attacked, stopping behind each other. The 2 swords Zoro held in his hands shattered and blood spurted from a new wound in his chest. Disappointed but content, Zoro removed Wado Ichimonji from his mouth, sheathed it, and coughed red. He turned to face his adversary, raising his arms wide but without fear. "Why do you not run?" Mahawk asked, having never seen this sort of show from any of the beginners he'd outclassed over the years. "It is obvious you were beaten." "Scars on the back are a swordsman's shame," Zoro responded. "If I die with a scar on my back, I'll have tainted everything I ever stood for." "Very well." Hawkeye smirked, liking the phrase, and brought his sword down across the green-haired man's chest. Zoro fell into the ocean with another spurt of blood. "Big bro Zoro, Zoro-sensei, Zoro." The bounty hunters dove into the water after him, pulling him into the ship Johnny and Yosaku had arrived in. "You bastard," Luffy shouted, Usopp and Coby grabbing each of his arms as he struggled to reach the warlord. "He will not die," Mihawk stated. "It has been a long time since I have found a worthy opponent. My name is Dracul Mihawk, become stronger, roar Noah Zoro, and seek me out. We will have a proper duel then." Zoro raised his now only sword, his body trembling with emotion and pain. "Luffy," he wheezed for all to hear, his voice calming the still irate pirate captain. "I'm sorry. I failed you. From this moment on, I will never lose again. Not until I am the strongest. Is that alright, King of the Pirates?" "Yeah," Luffy smiled, turning to his crewmates. "Coby, Usopp, Johnny, Yosaku, take a boat and follow Nami. Sanji and I will follow after we've kicked Krieg's ass." "I'm not joining your crew," Sanji yelled. "With all due respect, Captain Luffy, I think I should stay," Coby offered, his knees shaking. Zoro's words about his improvement passed through his head, inflating his courage. "Zoro-sensei can't fight, so I should fight for him. Not only that, but Krieg used to be a Marine. You know how I feel about that." "You warlord bastard," Krieg yelled as Usopp and the bounty hunters departed with Zoro, the foul-play pirate firing 2 bombs and a dozen bullets at the world's greatest swordsman. The bomb exploded, leaving a cloud of smoke that dissipated to show nothing but sea. "He's gone. No matter, we'll track him down again on the Grand Line. Men, take that ship. Kill the geezer and take his logbook." The man's crew, their spirits lifted with the disappearance of the warlord, complied and attacked. The cooks didn't seem to be a match for the pirates, their tools shattering under the onslaught of the pirates' superior weapons. Sanji, on the other hand, was a beast on the battlefield. He fought with only his feet, spinning, jumping, and all around taking the pirates by surprise. "Krieg!" Luffy yelled, stretching his arm to grab one of the masts of the sinking ship. His move shocked everyone with the exception of Coby and Zeph. "I don't like you, so I'm gonna kick your ass." "What the hell is he?" Sanji asked as he watched the man who wanted him to become a pirate perform such an inhuman act. "Kid's obviously eating a devil fruit," Zeph answered with a grunt, using his peg leg to kick a pirate into the sea. "It's been a while since I've seen something like that." Krieg got over his shock quickly. "You've eaten a devil fruit, haven't you?" he growled. "Yup. I'm a rubber man. Either way, I'll still kill you, brat." Luffy and Krieg started fighting on the wrecked ship, Luffy jumping around like a monkey and Krieg trying to hit him. "Stay still, you damn monkey." "That is my family name," Luffy taunted. On the fins of the Baratier, many of Krieg's men were still confused at what had just happened. Coby, in a showing of just how much of Luffy's personality had rubbed off on him, was running around and knocking pirates unconscious with his bakken. He was at the edge of the platform when a pirate finally tried to fight back. "You little brat," the larger pirate questioned, a sadistic scowl revealing his missing teeth as Coby held back his sword with a cross block. "What do you think you can do with a couple of sticks against a real sword? You'd be surprised how durable wood can be," Coby responded. He pulled back, smacking the man in the arm for good measure. "You little shit." Coby cut him off by spinning both his bakken into reverse grips and bringing them up next to his head. Bull needle. Using one of the first moves he'd learned from Zoro, Coby ran forward and slammed his wooden swords into the man's chest, flinging him out into the ocean. Coby smirked at the shocked pirates. They were nothing compared to his teacher and still weakened from long-term hunger. Apparently, fighting against a far superior opponent is a fast track to getting stronger than the average mook. Who knew? Meanwhile, a new pirate had found his way onto the Baratier's fins. This man, with droopy black hair and an "I'm better than you" expression, was covered in pearl and steel armor. Complete with a matching hat, this was Pearl, the Invincible Wall. "Do you know who I am?" he asked as Sanji challenged him. "I am the Invincible Wall, Pearl of the Krieg Pirates. I have fought in 61 battles and never lost even an ounce of my blood. You can never beat me." He was cut off when Luffy, who had been hit with Krieg's spiked ball, fell onto his head, causing a nosebleed. Of course, Luffy being rubber, the younger pirate wasn't affected. "Ow," Luffy complained as he stood and wiped his hat off. "That actually kinda hurt, you bastard." My blood," Pearl whispered in horror, his crewmates trying to convince him that it wasn't a battle wound without success. "These people are nuts." He started banging his 2 giant shields together. "Danger! Danger! Danger! Fire Pearl!" His armor started burning blue and small pearls, also on fire, shot out and ignited the surrounding deck, pirates, and cooks indiscriminately. He shot 6 more pearls at the restaurant, but Zeph put them out with a single kick. Pearl was even more surprised when Sanji's leg met his face. But," he stammered, more blood dripping from his nose. "My fire scares away everyone. Why aren't you scared, you monster?" "If I was afraid of fire, I wouldn't be a cook." Just to add insult to injury, Sanji lit a cigarette with the fire around them. "Danger! Danger!" Pearl panicked. "Pearl, stop. You're going to burn down my new ship," Krieg yelled. Pearl didn't listen, his fire continuing to spread over the wooden deck. "Goddamn it." Lifting the spiked flail he had been using to try to crush Luffy, The ex-marine threw the ball as hard as he could, or knocked Pearl unconscious. Luffy, however, had a different plan. Gum Gum Bazooka! Luffy shouted, jumping into the weapon's path and blasting back from whence it came, forcing Krieg to dive out of the way with an unmanly scream. It crashed into the base of one of the masts, which fell like a cut tree. Coincidentally, it landed on Pearl, knocking him out. Small fires raged on. "Stop where you are or I'll kill Zeph!" Jin yelled, grabbing everyone's attention. He had finished rescuing his drowning crewmates but was still dripping water. He had snuck up behind the old chef through the restaurant and shoved him to the deck, now standing over him with a flintlock pressed to the old man's temple. They may have been notoriously inaccurate, but there was no way he could miss at that distance. "My captain wants this ship." "Do it," Krieg roared. "With Zeph dead, the cooks will give up." "But Don Krieg," Jin tried to protest, his sense of honor telling him to spare Zeph like Sanji had him. "We owe Zeph and Sanji our lives. When I give you an order, you do it without question, kill him." "No," Sanji argued, pulling Jin's attention to himself. "Point that gun at me. Leave the geezer out of this." Jin wrestled with himself again, but in the end, his hesitation took the decision from him. A blob of white and pink in the corner of his vision was all the warning the man-demon had before one Bakken slammed into his face and another knocked the gun out of his hand. "Sanji! Behind you!" The little swordsman shouted as Jin began to recover. Koby's warning came in time, allowing the chef to turn. See a now awake Pearl tried to attack, and counter by roundhouse kicking him in the face. Pearl flew toward Jin, who pulled out his weighted tonfa. His tonfa slammed into Pearl's circular armor in the center, shattering the so-called invisible wall, and redirecting the ballistic man. Pearl coughed up a glob of blood as he was knocked into the ocean, unconscious and down for the count. "You were in my way, Pearl," Jin commented emotionlessly as he started to spin his tonfa. Killing a defenseless Zeph was different than fighting an awake Sanji, and his duty to Krieg hardened. "Sanji, I'm sorry it has to be this way, but you will die by my hand." Now, he lunged, swinging at the chef who cartwheeled out of the way. While on his hands, Sanji twisted his body and kicked his foe in the head. Jin saw stars as he was hit with the unexpected attack, but was able to lash out with his right-hand weapon as he fell. The iron weight hit Sanji in the ribs, cracking two of them. Sanji stumbled away from Jin as the pirate fell onto his back, both clutching at whatever part of their body was struck. Both had blood dribbling from their mouths, but it seemed obvious that Sanji was worse off because of his labored breathing. "Please, Sanji," Jin begged, standing and righting himself. "I don't want to hurt you, if you just leave." "I will not leave until my debt to the old man is repaid," the chef growled. Jin swung his right tonfa again, but the Sanji was able to stop it with the sole of his left foot. There was a clang, evidence that Sanji's polished shoes were made of more than just leather. "Is that all you've got, Jin?" he questioned, slamming the weight into the fin and standing on it. The blonde brought his other leg up and kicked Jin in the chest, causing him to lose his hold on the weapon stuck in the wood. Jin stood from where he'd landed several feet away and shifted his only weapon from his left hand to his right, spinning it with the ease of several years' training. He charged and swung vertically, but overextended, which could be explained on the probable concussion the chef had dealt to him. Sanji responded by jumping up and locking both feet on either side of his foe's torso before spinning him so that Jin's head crushed the wood beneath them, which certainly didn't help the poor pirate. Jin tried to get up and shrug the blow off, but he was too disoriented to stand. "I'm sorry, Don Krieg," he slurred. "He's too much for me." "Too much?" Krieg roared. "Too much? Krieg pirates never have a too much. I have no need for a worthless pirate that faces too much. You're fired, Jin." "Bu, Don Krieg. You're fired. Kill yourself now." "Ah, yes sir." Jin crawled over to where his flintlock had fallen and raised it to his head, ready to pull the trigger, but before he could do so, Luffy's fist met his face. Jin fell unconscious and the gun tumbled from his relaxed grip. "Oh no you don't," Luffy chastised. "I like you, so you aren't gonna die on my watch." "That bastard couldn't even follow my last order," Krieg sighed. "Well, it doesn't matter. He'll die anyway. Men, get your masks." "No," shouted a pirate. "Not the MH5, Krieg didn't listen." He lifted up the shield from his left shoulder and pointed it at the baratier as the plates separated to point the barrel of the firing mechanism. Pirates scrambled to get gas masks from within their clothes and cooks dove into the sea. Luffy, worried for his crewmates, though Sanji wouldn't admit he was one, stretched his arms to a couple of pirates and ripped their masks off before tossing them to Coby and Sanji. The chef hurried to Jin's side, shuffled through the unconscious man's jacket, and placed his mask on his face. Krieg fired the poison bomb. Luffy was surprised when a gas mask was shoved onto his own face, but he was too concerned to question it at the moment. Krieg laughed as he watched the purple poison cloud cover the fish-shaped ship. He was certain that Jin, the cook, and Straw Hat were dying from the gas. Coby kept his eyes shut, his cheeks bulging as he tried to hold his breath. The toxic gas around him didn't hurt to touch, but actually was almost soft. To that end, however, it was still obvious the gas hung in the air as his lungs started to beg for oxygen. His hands came up to cover his mouth, but fighting your own body is something one can only do for so long. Without his consent, Coby sucked in. Then his lungs burned for a whole new reason. It felt like his insides were on fire, the young pirate falling to his hands and knees and curling in on himself. Every ragged breath, because he could not take only one, felt like the end of the road. He felt the wind blowing the purple cloud away, but the horrible fire inside him remained. The cloud cleared to show Luffy on the fins, a gas mask pressed to his face, with a certain pink-haired teen beside him. The boy was curled up on the ground, deathly pale with a sickly blue tint. Indeed, the mask that had saved Luffy had not come from nowhere. Zoro's student had dropped his wooden swords to catch the mask and had prioritized his captain's life over his own. "No," Luffy wailed, dropping his mask, and rolling Coby over. Bits of purple smoke were laced in every exhale of the poor boy. "Coby, come on, Coby," Luffy pleaded as Patty, Carne, and Zeph came back out of the restaurant where they'd been hiding from the gas. Luffy dropped to his knees next to his youngest crewmate. "Speak to me." "See, Captain," Coby wheezed. "Tell Zoro-sensei, I am sorry." Oh no, you are not dying here. Patty, Carne, get the kit," Sanji ordered. "But Sanji," Patty argued, "the kit's for food poisoning." "It's his best chance." Sanji ran over, stopping next to the two friendly pirates. "Give him to me." "Take care of him," Luffy ordered, Sanji picking up the poisoned Coby and carrying him to the doors where the other two chefs took him into the building. Luffy's eyes were shaded by his hat, a sign to anyone that knew him that someone had just pissed him off and royally screwed themselves over. "Krieg." Luffy's voice was low, danger-filled and murderous. "You have just signed your death warrant. No one tries to kill my nakama in front of me and lives." "Sanji, hold my hat." Luffy threw his straw hat back toward the cook and began taking slow, deliberate steps toward the older pirate. Krieg stayed where he was and formed his battle spear. When Luffy was on the fallen mast, Krieg attacked. He struck the end of the mast with his spej explosion. Luffy didn't even flinch. Using the momentum of his side of the mast being forced up like a giant pivot, he jumped into the air and put his feet together. Spear. He thrusted his feet forward, kicking the foul play admiral in the face. Luffy's voice had lost the airy tone it usually held when he called out his attacks. Krieg went down as the teen landed, but Luffy didn't let up. He leapt forward and grabbed Krieg's shoulders, flipping and spinning as he did so. When his feet touched down, Krieg was lifted into the air. Hammer. The wood splintered where Krieg landed and he coughed up blood. The wanted pirate pulled himself up and glared at the younger man. He pointed his right hand at the teen and unleashed his flamethrower, but Luffy only shifted out of the way. The teen's right arm shot out along the edge of the fire, blistering but not slowed. Pistol. The fist hit Krieg in the face, throwing the older pirate to the edge of the wreckage, but Luffy wasn't done. He reached over, grabbing the man's spear, and chucked it as the armored pirate was just getting up, not giving Krieg any chance to dodge. Krieg, however, had other tools up his sleeves. Or in this case, the inside of his cape. Said cape was lined with steel and spikes that absorbed the explosion the spear released, the force still pushing Krieg into the railing behind him. He smirked as the explosion cleared, shifting the cape so he could go on the attack again and saw Luffy charging. "You're getting on my nerves, boy," Krieg shouted, pulling spiked gloves from within his armor. Luffy approached, his shorter height causing Krieg to stare down at his opponent. The man raised fist, punching downward. "Die." Luffy didn't respond, his own fist meeting Krieg's gauntlet without flinching, even as the spikes tore into his knuckles. His other plowed into Krieg's armor-covered torso, the armor ringing like a bell as the ex-marine was thrown into the ocean. "Huh?" Krieg laughed when he surfaced. "Now you can't attack me. Those with the powers of the devil can't swim." "How heavy is that armor?" Luffy questioned. "What are you blabbering about now?" Krieg yelled back. "How heavy is your armor?" Luffy asked again. "You're pretty far out there and that armor must be heavy. How long can you tread water before you drown?" "We could be here all day," the other pirate shouted. "Then how about this?" Luffy's arm reached over to the Baratier's fins and grabbed Jin's discarded tonfa. The weapon ripped through the wood as the rubber man's arm snapped back. He threw his arm behind him before shooting it forward. Gum loaded pistol. The weight on the end of the tonfa slammed into Krieg's face, breaking his nose, giving him a concussion, and leaving him unconscious in the middle of the ocean in heavy wood steel armor. Luffy wasn't done, however, his free hand reaching out to grab Krieg by the face and drag him back. He didn't deal any more damage to the man, but threw his limp form onto the Baratier's fin. "He's some sort of big shot, right?" Luffy asked. "Take his bounty. Call it payment for Sanji." "You're trying to buy me now?" said Blonde demanded. The rest of the cooks threw up a cheer. Their restaurant was saved and Krieg was powerless. His opponent defeated. Luffy's worry about his youngest crew member's well-being came back to the forefront of his mind. "Coby." Luffy dropped Jin's weapon and dashed to the doors of the barradier, but he was stopped by Sanji and Zeph. "Let me through, I had to get to Coby." "He's fine," Zeph told him. The runt's sleeping off the poison still in his system. "We were lucky enough to get most of it out by using a gas mask to clear the air in his lungs, but he won't be able to move for at least 12 hours. Luffy calmed down. On the bright side, he'll have a slight immunity to some poisons and toxins from the amount of damage the MH5 gas did. "You really care for your crew, don't you?" Sanji asked, handing the pirate his hat. "Of course," Luffy answered as he placed his treasure back on his head. "They're my nakama, my family. I'd never turn my back on them." I've made a decision," Sanji said. "You don't have to buy me. I've decided to join you as your cook." "About damn time, you stupid eggplant." "Wonderful," Luffy cheered as Zeph mumbled. "What's your dream?" "What, your dream? Everyone on my crew has to have a dream to chase. Mine is to be the Pirate King. Zoro's is to be the world's greatest swordsman. That sort of thing. Well, my dream is to find the All Blue, a place where fish from all 4 blues swim together. It's only a legend, a rumor, but I'm going to find it." "Welcome to the crew, Sanji. How's Jin? He regained consciousness during your fight with Krieg," Zeph answered. "He's sitting inside rethinking his life choices." "I want to talk to him." "Why?" Sanji asked. "I want him on my crew. He's a good guy." Sanji smirked. "I can't disagree with you there, Captain." Luffy passed them by and entered the establishment. At the only table standing was Jin in a chair, his head in his hands. He made no motion as Luffy approached, but he did speak. "Leave me alone," the man-demon moaned. "I've no purpose anymore." "Then let me give you one, Jin." Jin's head snapped up. "What?" "You heard me," Luffy stated, crossing his arms. "Join my crew." Jin floundered for several seconds. "Y'all want me on our crew. But I disobeyed my captain. I'll talk back to him. I don't have underlings. I have friends. We're all equal on my crew. You can refuse to follow anything but a specific captain's order and I will never order you to kill someone. Especially someone as nice as the old man." Jin swallowed. "Do I know anyone? Are there any rules?" "Sanji joined as our cook, but I'd have one condition." "And what would that be?" Jin asked, the excitement that had appeared in his eyes slowly turning into fear. "You'd have to find a dream to follow. A big one. Something you'd risk your life for." Jin blinked in surprise. I was only there for a short time, and that week was terrifying, but I want to sail on the Grand Line again. Not only that, but I want to conquer it. I can't explain it, but I want to. Not just for me, but also for all the friends I lost there. I hired deckhands for Krieg, so a lot of them were there because of me. I need to do it for them. May I follow you, Don Luffy?" Luffy smiled. "Welcome to the crew of the Straw Hat Pirates, Jin." The surviving Krieg pirates were piled onto the Baradier's errand boat and sent off to sea. Jin had been able to say his goodbyes to them and they to him, each wishing luck on their paths. Most of them, as a matter of fact, had sworn off piracy in totality and a select number applied for jobs on the Baradier since they didn't have anywhere else to go. Yosaku had returned in the mouth of a pan shark, how is still a mystery, and had informed Luffy that he thought they'd figured out where Nami was going. Luffy, a still pale Coby, Sanji, Jin, and Yosaku prepared to depart as soon as they could on Sanji's personal ship, a small boat painted with green stripes. They were waiting for the chef at the moment since he needed to gather his things. "Are you sure you're okay, Coby?" Luffy asked for the 3rd time, his rubber body stretching in every angle to make sure none of Koby's body parts were going to fall off. "I'm fine, Captain," Coby insisted. "The chef said I just need a couple days rest and good food." "Good food is something we'll get with Sanji around," Jin commented as he stepped out of the bathroom and joined Luffy, Coby, and Yokasu by the boat. "I don't know if you have a great taste in crewmates or a horrible one, Don." "You can just call me Luffy, Jin," the captain offered, snapping back into shape. "You too, Coby. I'm no more important than you guys." "Sorry, Don, but it's a habit. It's a sign of respect for me." "Same here, Captain. That's why Johnny and I call you all Big Bro." "Well, alright, as long as you aren't forcing yourselves to call me that, then I guess it doesn't matter. Say, talking the way you did before?" "What do you mean, Don?" "Yeah, like that. Earlier, you would have said." Luffy's face contorted until he looked like Jin. "What do you mean?" His face returned to its normal shape. "You're talking, I don't know, standard." "That's, Jin shifted. I don't know what you're talking about, Don. It must have been the hunger or the concussion." Jin tried to stop fidgeting as Luffy's stare continued to bore a hole into him. "Well, it's not my business," Luffy finally shrugged. "If you want to talk different, that's up to you." Thanks. Oh, there's Sanji," Coby pointed out, hoping to break the awkward tension that Luffy had created. As Coby had said, Sanji stepped out of the front doors with a simple rucksack, trying not to look back. The chefs that stood by were stoic and tense. "Come on," Sanji said as he got closer. "Let's, oi, eggplant," the voice of Zeph grunted from the 2nd floor, causing Sanji to stiffen. "Be safe out there." Chef Zeph, Sanji yelled, dropping his things to bow to the man who had essentially raised him. I can never repay you for all the kindness you've shown me, but I'll do it. I'll do what you didn't. I'll find the all blue, no matter what, so thank you. Stupid eggplant, Zeph muttered, and Coby could have sworn he was holding back a few tears himself. Get going. That pretty girl needs your help, doesn't she? Right, Luffy interrupted. Let's go. We had to get to, where are we going? The Konami Isles, Yosaku answered. It's said to be the base of Arlong the Fistman. Luckily for Luffy, Coby, Jin, Yosaku, and Sanji had enough navigational knowledge between them to sail to their destination of the Konami Isles after leaving the Baratier. Yosaku projected the trip would take about 3 days and the rest of the crew should be about a day ahead of them. Nami only left a little bit before Usopp, Zoro, and Johnny, but navigating was her specialty, even with a bigger ship. She was likely ahead by a full day at that point. The days passed in something of a blur, for Coby more so than the other guys since he was still recovering from the MH5 poison. With Sanji as the dedicated chef, the food stores on the ship easily weathered Luffy's gluttony like Luffy's rubbery head weathered Sanji's steel-toed shoes. Outside of those hourly scuffles, nothing really happened during their trip until the 3rd day. Do you think they've found Nami yet? Luffy asked, leaning against the tiny cabin on the boat and staring up at the clouds. Sanji was inside, cooking a meal of rice, meat, and bean sprouts for them away from Luffy's thieving arms. It's possible, Coby replied, mostly cured of the poison thanks to the quick action of the chefs during the battle. I don't know much about the Konami Isles, but I remember hearing that it didn't have much marine presence. Even so, Alvida still avoided them because of rumors about Sawtooth, Arlong. Is he another guy like Krieg? Not even Krieg would want to fight Arlong, Jin commented. You're strong, Don Luffy, but Arlong is supposed to be a literal monster. I've been called a monster before, Luffy shrugged. That's not what he means, big bro, Yosaku put in. Arlong is a fish man from the Grand Line. He's not human. Johnny usually carries the bounty posters, but he's got a face you can't forget, blue skin, cold eyes, and a serrated nose sharp enough to pierce bone. Yosaku shivered. He's just a little over mine and Johnny's class for now. Jin shivered from the mere mention of the Grand Line, but his eyes hardened. Perhaps these fishmen would be the first step to obtaining his goal. I saw Nami take Arlong's bounty poster when we ran into full body, Coby offered. I'm afraid she's mixed up with him somehow if that's where she's headed. Do you think she's faked us out? I'm worried about her, Luffy admitted, though there was no change in his disposition. I know Nami and she wouldn't take the Mary without a really good reason. Is there something going on between you and big sis Nami? Yosaku asked. I don't think I've ever seen you this concerned about anything. Nami's Nakama, the team shrugged. She's part of my crew and I won't accept anything less than that. I'm gonna be the king of the pirates, which means I need to have the best of the best on my crew, and something tells me Nami is gonna be the best navigator in the world one day. The best of the best, Coby whispered. If that's what you want, Captain, then why am I? Coby's self-doubt was cut off by a quick punch to the cranium. To his credit, Coby didn't cry out in pain like he had when they first met, even if the hit still hurt. You're gonna be strong, Coby, Luffy said before Coby could ask why. I got this feeling about you. Not just you, but everyone on our crew. I just know we'll all do what we set out to do. I'm gonna be the king, Zoro's gonna beat Mihawk, you're gonna be a hero, Usopp's gonna be brave like his dad, Sanji's gonna find the all blue, and Jin's gonna be there with us when we conquer the Grand Line. If I didn't think you could do it, I would have left you back at that base. But didn't you try to do that? Yeah, but you'd said you wanted to be a Marine. You changed your mind, so I did too. Anyway, you said Arlong is from the Grand Line, right? I bet he's strong, then. He's got the highest bounty of any pirate in the area, Yosaku nodded. He's worth 20 million, but I'm honestly not sure how that compares to some in the Grand Line. He once sailed with a warlord, though. A warlord? Coby asked. One of the 7 warlords of the sea? The pirates sanctioned by the world government to fight for them? Why would anyone become a warlord? Luffy blinked. Being a pirate means being free from all those rules. I'm sure they each have their own reasons, Jin commented. Mihawk is one of them and you saw how strong he is. He took down Zoro without even trying. There are a few others that have been in the paper, Coby continued. I've heard about Boa Hancock, the one who's called the most beautiful woman in the world. And there's Gecko Moria. He used to be a rival of one of the 4 Yonko, supposedly. The last one I know about is Jinbei, a fishman. Jinbei is the one who sailed with Arlong, Yosaku nodded. The rumor is part of his agreement to become a warlord was freedom for Arlong and some of his former crew from the marine prison impelled down. That was almost a decade ago and Arlong has been lying low here in East Blue since. Scary, Jin whistled. I'm guessing Arlong isn't a good person like Don Luffy. Who cares? Luffy asked, turning all attention on him. If he's a jerk, I'll kick his ass. If he's hurting Nami, I'll kick his ass. If I feel like it, I'll kick his ass. That's all there is to it. I don't know if that was incredibly profound or incredibly stupid, but I'm all for helping Nami Swan. Sanji stepped out of the small cabin, a pair of steaming dishes in his hands. After all, it's a gentleman's job to save the damsel in distress. Food? Luffy questioned, all previous thoughts already replaced with the deep-rooted, instinctual desire to stuff his face. Food? Chill out, you rubbery moron. Sanji yelled with a kick to Luffy's face, the first time of many to come. This food is for all of you, so don't go hogging it all for yourself. Moo? What was that? Jin asked, jumping to his feet and pulling out his tonfa. A cow? Yosaku wondered. Why would a cow be way out here in the ocean? Koby asked. Almost as if the universe was answering Koby's question, the ship rocked, a swell of water growing upward from the port side. The bulge was stripped away by gravity, leaving a large, white cow with green splotches and a golden nose ring to stare down at them. The hell is that? Jin screamed, fumbling for his weapons. Sea monster, Koby yelled, pressing himself into the wall. Sea king, Yosaku cried, they're monsters from the Grand Line. Moo? I think it might be hungry, Luffy frowned, knowing instructively that the creature was eyeing their food. Then who am I to deny a starving creature? Sanji commented, taking slow, deliberate steps toward the Sea King. Its head lowered, sniffing the food Sanji was offering, only to open a mouth full of sharp teeth in an attempt to snap up more than just the plate. Sanji reacted quickly, jumping back to avoid the monster while still balancing his dishes. His leg snapped out, kicking the beast in the side of the face. That's my cook, bastard, Luffy shouted, his extended arm punching the reeling Sea King. It flopped backwards into the water, sending a deluge of pseudo-rain over the ship. Luckily, Sanji kept the food dry with his own body. Wow, Yosaku, Koby, and Jin muttered together. Anyway, food's up, Sanji announced, as if he and Luffy had not just subjugated a giant sea monster in seconds. Said monster was now floating next to the boat with a lump on its head, watching them eat with tears in its eyes. Hey, Luffy commented, his mouth filled with half the meat Sanji had prepared. Can we eat that cow? Moo? I think it's too smart for that, Koby replied. I mean, we could, but I feel bad about it since I think it's sentient. Sen what? Can you eat that? No, Captain. It knows it's alive and can. Koby trailed off at Luffy's blank stare. Jin, help? Oi, Don, Jin said, catching the pirate captain's attention. If it could talk, it could do math. Wow. Luffy blinked. That's a smart cow. Would we get to Big Sis Nami faster if we made that cow drag us? Yosaku thought aloud through his bean sprouts. Great idea. Luffy turned toy pulling out a rope. Alright, cow, if you don't want us to eat you, pull us that way. He pointed in a random direction off to starboard. Wrong way. The rest of the ship's inhabitants roared. Using the Sea King to propel their ship through the water was the best decision the partial crew had made, but that was countered by how many times Luffy punched the creature in an attempt to make it go faster. The compounding damage started taking its toll on the poor cow as the Konami Isles came into sight, the Sea King veering off course. Everyone barely had time to scream before they crashed, their ship being slingshotted into the air over land. The ship seemed to sail through the foliage of several trees before meeting a road with a lone traveler, said traveler screaming as the ship ran him over and continued its path through a rice field and into a cliff. Suddenly meeting more than air resistance, the boat shattered, leaving everyone under and in the wreckage. We're here, Luffy called, popping out of the ruined ship. What the hell? The traveler shouted, pushing rubble off of himself to reveal Zoro. What the actual hell, Luffy? Zoro-sensei, Koby greeted. Are you okay? We didn't kill you, did we? Back off, shrimp. I'm fine. It's Usopp who's in trouble. Oh Goda. Luffy, Arlong has Usopp. We need to save him, now, before he gets killed. Arlong's actually here, Jin asked. What about Big Sis Nami? Yosaku fretted. She's mixed up with him, Zoro answered. I'm pretty sure she's a member of his crew. And she's a murderer, a new voice added, turning attention to Johnny by the road. Johnny, Yosaku greeted, running to him. Are you okay? What was that about Big CC Nami? She murdered Big Bro Usopp. What? Everyone yelled. No way. Luffy denied. Nami, why? Koby wailed. It's true, Johnny cried. She's a traitor, and she's a member of Arlong's crew. Shut up, Luffy ordered. Nami would never do that. I would never do what? Nami approached, a look of contempt on her face. She had changed her top, now wearing a light green shirt with dark green spots. Her left hand was covered in a glove and she had her bow out. She had no sleeves on, revealing the tattoo on her left bicep. Arlong's mark. I don't know what the hell you morons are doing here, but get lost. You aren't welcome here. Nami Swan, Sanji called with hearts in his eyes, his broken ship forgotten. Do you remember me? You bitch, Johnny yelled at her. You killed him, you killed Big Bro Usopp. The bounty hunter duo pulled out their swords and tried to rush forward, but Luffy was faster, wrapping his arms around them and holding them in place. Where's Usopp? Zoro demanded, prepping his single blade. Next to him, Coby lifted his bakken with tears in his eyes. Sleeping with the fishes, Nami answered without a shred of emotion. Why you? Zoro and his student ran at her, but the former was blocked by Sanji, claiming that a man should never hit a woman under any circumstances. The latter was able to duck around and attack, but the female blocked with her bow. She flinched when the force of the blow hit her gloved hand and pulled away quickly, kicking Coby in the side. The boy stumbled. Arlong is looking for Zoro and his crew, Nami told them, trying to hide the pain from her hand, so I'd suggest you leave now while you have the chance. She turned to leave. Nami, Luffy said, stepping ahead of the rest of the group. The young woman turned slightly, just enough to look the beheaded teen in the eye. This isn't you. I know it's not. Whatever's wrong, let us help you. You think I want your help? Nami hissed. Are you more stupid than I thought you were? I tricked you and that's all there is to it. You were swindled and I stole all the money you had. Leave with your lives, since that's all you have left. Get the hell out of here. Nami, she didn't listen, walking away without looking back. Damn it, Zoro growled, sitting under a tree. What do we do now? I will accept no one but Nami as our navigator, Luffy stated, still staring at the point in the distance where she had disappeared. I'm staying. Are you crazy, big bro Luffy? Yosaku questioned. She killed big bro Usopp, Johnny added. I don't believe it. Luffy shook his head. Nami's our friend. She'd never do something like that. Well I, for one, am leaving, Yosaku stated. Johnny, big bro Zoro, let's go. I'm staying, Zoro told him without moving. I'm not the captain, I don't decide the crew members. If Luffy wants Nami as the navigator, then we'll convince her to join one way or another. Hell, maybe we'll kidnap her. We will not, Sanji protested. Fine. Good luck, guys. The bounty hunters walked away, leaving the crew in the road. With some momentary peace and quiet, Zoro was able to collect his thoughts and look at the people around him. Wait, you're that guy from Krieg's crew, aren't you? I am, Jin answered. Krieg fired me for disobedience when I refused to kill Redfoot, Zeph. Don Luffy saved my life and offered me a place on his crew. I am known as Mandemon, Jin and have a bounty of 12 million beris. I fight with dual-weighted tonfa and am good at making tattoos. It's nice to meet you, pirate hunter, Roronoa Zoro. I know of you, Jin, and you obviously know me. Good. Hey, Shrimp, how was the fight? He was poisoned by Krieg, Luffy said before Coby could answer, some of his dislike for the pirate brought up by the mention of his action, so I kicked his ass. And I see you got the perverted cook to join us, Zoro observed. You want to say that again, Mosshead? I'll say it as many times as I want to, Blondie. Come at me, you third-rate swordsman. Sure thing, swirly-eyed bastard. The two would have started fighting if Jin had not grabbed Sanji from behind and Coby tried to hold his mentor back. All attention was diverted from the growing aggression, however, when a figure in a cloak ran through, stopped, slowly turned around, and yelled in surprise. What are you looking at? Zoro growled. Guys, you're here. Why Usopp? Coby blinked. The figure pulling his hood off to reveal the long-nosed sniper. You aren't dead. Nami saved me, Usopp responded, gesturing to the slight red discoloration on the front of his overalls. Arlong had me prisoner because I went to save Zoro and was going to kill me, but that's when Nami got back. She said she was gonna kill me and faked it, stabbing her own hand while telling me to run away. I fell in the water and managed to swim out of Arlong Park, but I was just about to go back to save Zoro. See? Luffy smiled. I told you Nami was good and that she wouldn't kill Usopp. Well, yeah, Zoro admitted. You were right there, but she's still a member of Arlong's crew. If we're going to help her, we're going to need to know what's going on and why she's working for him. I think I can help with that, Usopp said. Or, I know someone who can. Follow me. The long-nosed teen led them into Kokoyashi village before directing them to an out-of-the-way house with a tangerine orchard. He explained that he'd met this person when they'd saved him from capture when he first got to the island, after he shot Arlong in the face, which the crew wasn't sure was true or not. Inside the orchard was a small, wooden house with a porch, which Usopp approached without pause and knocked on the door. The one who answered was a woman with short, blue hair and several tattoos around her right arm and collarbone. She was dressed in a blue crop top that matched her hair and showed off her figure, and a pair of jeans. She also had dark blue eyes and a red bandana. Sanji instantly swooned over her. Oh my darling, your beauty knows no bounds, not even a horde of fishmen could keep me from helping a woman such as yourself. Thanks, she answered, turning to Usopp with something of a worried look. Nijiko, this is my crew, not yours. This is Luffy, Usopp continued, ignoring his captain, Zoro, Coby, Sanji, and Jin, right? Wait, what are you just noticed? Coby and Jin demanded. Ahem, the liar coughed. Guys, this is Nijiko, Nami's sister. Nijiko, a beautiful name befitting such an attractive woman. Oi, pervy cook, shut up, you want to make me, Marimo? Not now, Jin sighed. hitting the swordsman and chef over the head with one of his tonfa each. Caught off guard, both men dropped to their knees. Zoro-sensei, Coby fretted as Luffy laughed at the two nursing their head wounds. Well, you sure are a lively bunch, Nezuko giggled, causing Sanji to swoon again and turn noodle. Why? I can see why Nami enjoyed her time with you. Can you tell us why Nami left? Coby asked. Well, it all started when we were younger. 8 years ago, to be exact, Nezuko began, but Luffy stopped her. I don't want to hear this from someone who isn't Nami, he stated. Pasts are a personal thing, and if Nami wants me to know, then I'll hear it from her. I'm going to go for a walk, he left. While confused by the younger man's action, Nezuko talked about their adoptive mother Bellamere, Nami's dream to draw a map of the world, the arrival of Arlong, Bellamere's death, and Nami's deal with the fishmen to buy back her village. By the end of the story, Coby, Usopp, and Sanji were crying, with the latter rambling about how Nami was just as brave as she was beautiful. Zoro and Jin were silent, the former because that's just who he was and the latter because he'd seen and heard worse. That didn't mean he didn't sympathize, but shit happened. We had to help her, Coby reaffirmed now that he knew the whole story. Those fishmen. He was cut off by a crash from outside, Nezuko jumping to her feet and hurrying to the door. Stay here, she ordered, exiting and closing the door behind her, but the 5 in the building could still hear her voice. What are you doing here? She demanded. Chi-chi-chi, another rat-like voice laughed. First a Marine Captain Nezumi of Marine Branch 16. Coby tensed. More corrupt Marines here to crush his old dream further into the dust? That'd make 3. If one counted full body, in the 2 weeks he'd been a pirate. Am I correct in assuming this is the home of the pirate thief Nami? She grew up here, but this is no longer her home. We were adopted by the woman who lived here. I'm her sister, Nezuko. Can I help you? I think you can. You see, we've received word that she has a large stash of stolen treasure somewhere here on this property. Since she's only stolen from pirates, no charges will be pressed, but stolen is stolen, no matter who from. From this point forward, all that money will be the sole property of the Marines. Could you lead us to it? So this is what the Marines have fallen to? Coby whispered angrily. Stealing from petty thieves instead of arresting pirates holding an entire island hostage? Nezuko was more composed outside. I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't spoken to my sister in nearly 8 years. If she's got a stash of berries, she hasn't shared it with me. It's not here. Fine, Nezumi grunted. If you can't lead us to it, we'll just have to find it ourselves. Men, search the orchard. No, Nezuko screamed. Those bastards, Sanji growled, Usopp and Jin grabbing him under the arms and dragging him away from the door. The chef's legs flailed as he tried to break their hold and defend the blue net outside. Coby was barely holding himself back from attacking the Marine, though just barely. Don't touch Bellamere's tangerines. If you won't comply, girl, then I'll have to shoot you for disrupting an investigation. And I'd have to shoot you for disrupting my livelihood without due cause, you rat. Hey, don't pull up the trees. There was a scuffle. Let me go. Come on, men. Nezumi yelled. How hard can it be to find 100 million berries? Nezuko sucked in a hard breath. How did you know that number? She hissed. What? Oh, let's just say I had a hunch. Chi-chi-chi. That laugh was just too much for Coby to hold back anymore. The boy running out of the house and drawing his bakken. Nezumi was a seedy-looking man with a whisker-like mustache and a small goatee. The hair swishing as the man's lower face twitched like a rodent. His marine uniform had an added hood pulled up to show the extra mouse ears on top. With the group was another man who was dressed in an old maroon army uniform. He had scars crisscrossing over his face and arms and a black mustache on his shocked face. A pinwheel spun in the wind from its spot on his hat. He was pinned to the ground by 3 nameless Marines, so he couldn't help. Off to the side, Nezuko was held down by another 2, one of which had a lewd grin on his face, and he reached for the defenseless woman's rear. Luckily, Coby's entrance had distracted him and the rest of the Marines. You corrupt bastard, the pink-haired boy yelled angrily, pointing his right bakken at the rat. You're working with Arlong, aren't you? Where did you come from, little boy? Nezumi drew a gun, taking aim for the boy. Corrupt Marines like you sicken me, you should all go to hell. No, Coby. Nezuko's yell came too late to stop the teen. Nezumi fired. The man may have been a Marine captain, but Coby refused to let himself be intimidated. He spun, the bullet just missing him to plow into the porch of the house. The rat's eyes widened as Coby charged with a battle cry, both of his wooden swords slamming into Nezumi's dominant arm. He gave a cry punctuated by a sharp crunch, and Coby was sure that meant something had given way. He was sure it wasn't his swords. Get him, you morons, Nezumi yelled as he dropped his pistol, backing away from the enraged Rosset while cradling his arm. A pair of grunts drew swords and advanced on the young pirate, Coby widening his stance, allowing them to approach him. You're under arrest for attacking a Marine officer, the grunt on the left said. Sorry, kid, the grunt on the right grunted. Orders are orders, you know. Yeah? Coby growled. all of his anger turning to adrenaline and fearlessness. "You bastards can bite my ass? You asked for it." Both of the Marines raised their swords, bringing them down on the pirate. Koby's reflexes, however, were far better than either of the seaman recruits could have thought possible. Koby pushed into a roll between them, spinning into an incomplete dragon twister to sweep their legs out from under them. With them down, Koby quickly knocked them out with 2 overhead strikes to their heads. Satisfied, Koby turned back to the commander, only to see Nezumi with 6 Marines lined up behind him, each with a rifle aimed at him. "Good show, boy," Nezumi chuckled, "but you brought swords to a gunfight, and not even real ones. Any last words?" "Yeah. Go to hell, rat. Fire." The young student crossed his bakken as a meager form of protection, and it saved his life. Zoro had chosen training tools strong enough to not only survive swords, but also stop a bullet from any basic rifle. That being said, stopping a bullet is different than surviving. Both bakken shattered under the onslaught as they, by some divine miracle, blocked a total of 3 bullets that would have otherwise pierced Koby's vitals. Unfortunately, they did nothing for the 2 bullets that sunk into his shoulders and the one that ripped through his side. Koby staggered backwards as the bullets sank into his body with a splash of blood, both the teen and his blood falling to the ground. The boy grit his teeth so his cry of pain wouldn't reach the Marine's ears. His teacher wouldn't cry out, why should he? Koby tried to pull himself up, his wounded shoulders screaming in protest and the blood loss making him dizzy. "Sir," one of Nezumi's men shouted, redirecting the man's attention from the shop boy to the Marine. "We found it." The 2 holding Nijiko and the 3 holding the other man released them, running over to see their prize. "Damn corrupt Marines," Nijiko bit out, falling beside Koby with the older man on his other side. She could do nothing as the government dogs stole all of her sister's hard-earned treasure. "We need a doctor," Pinwheel Guy said. He picked up Koby and shot the Marines a dirty look. "Take him into town, Genzo," Nijiko told the man. "Some of his friends are inside. I'll get them." Pinwheel Guy headed toward the village with Koby in his arms while the woman went into her home. "Koby's been shot. Follow me." The 4 men complied. They wanted to beat the fuck out of all of the government personnel in the Tangerine Grove, but they wanted to be there for Koby more. The Marines didn't see them leave. They were too focused on the money. "Doctor, help." Genzo ran into the village as fast as he could while carrying the wounded boy. His shouting attracted a large crowd that met him in the center of town. On the outskirts, just within hearing range, was Nami behind a building and Luffy under a tree on the other side. "Genzo," the town doctor asked. "What's wrong? What happened to this kid?" Luffy shot up at the sight of pink hair. "Those damn Marines shot him after stealing Nami's money," Genzo answered. "Koby," Luffy yelled, pushing his way to the boy. "Koby, what happened?" "Captain Luffy," Koby muttered, the blood loss turning him slightly delirious. "I need to stop getting into these situations. It'll turn into a bad habit." "Shut up," Luffy told him firmly. "What happened? Who shot you?" They took it all. They were working with Arlong. The Marines. Arlong. He never meant to keep his side of the bargain. The boy passed out, the blood loss from the bullet wounds being too much for his young body. The young pirate captain didn't know what bargain his friend was talking about, but it wasn't long before the rest of his crew came running and following Nami's older sister. They, in broken and overlapping explanations, explained that Nami had agreed to buy back her village for 100 million beras, but that Arlong had hired a corrupt Marine to steal it all when she was close. Nami couldn't take it. All that hard work, stolen? It just couldn't be true. She ran off to confront Arlong. Meanwhile, the crew gathered in the doctor's office. He was clearly skilled, already working on bandaging the worst wound in the boy's side where the bullet had left an exit wound. "Will he be okay?" Luffy demanded. "I'd say no if he was any weaker," the doctor answered. "As it stands, though, he'll pull through. Something has made his blood thinner than the average person, so that probably saved his life." "What will we do, Don Luffy?" Jin asked in his normal, calm manner. "Nothing," Luffy answered, his eyes shadowed by his hat. "But Luffy," Usopp tried to argue. "We won't do anything," Luffy cut him off. "Not until Nami asks for help. Until then, we wait. It's not our business, yet." "But the Marines," Usopp began. "We'll get what's coming to them," Luffy finished, "but they were hired by this Arlong and he's Nami's problem. When she wants help, we'll give it to her. One way or another, we'll deal with them." And so they waited. Koby woke up an hour later for a short period, but he was in no condition to move. The townspeople weren't as calm. They were arming themselves with anything they could find to attack Arlong Park, ready to march to their deaths as storm clouds rolled in from the east. They were all in the center of town, about to leave, when Nami returned, hysterical. Luffy and the rest of the crew watched from the office. "Stop," Nami yelled, pulling out a knife. "Please, stop, don't do this. I can get the money again, it's no problem. I have experience, now." "No, Nami," Genzo told her gently, taking her knife by the blade and dropping it on the ground. He ignored the blood seeping from his fingers. "This is it. We've been cheering for you for these last 8 years, but now we know that Arlong won't let you reach your goal. But if you fight, the fishmen will kill you. We know, Genzo muttered quietly, much to Nami's horror. He reached forward, wrapping the girl in a tight hug that she was too shocked to return. You've grown into a fine young woman, Nami. Live your life and keep growing. With this gone, you'll be free to follow your dream. Forget about us. We know we're going to lose, but you know what? We'll give him hell. Yeah, the village cheered. Nami turned as the rest of the village's inhabitants passed her by, her hands uselessly snatching at arms and clothing but never holding anything for more than a second. Her voice would not work as she tried desperately to make them stop. It began to rain, the water coming down and washing over the girl. When they were gone, Nami stood there for a second longer before falling to her knees, the dirt turning to mud around her. She clutched the tattoo on her bicep, tears falling from her eyes and mixing with the rain. The glint of the knife caught her eye and rage filled her. Arlong, she whispered in a mixture of anger, desperation, despair, and hate. Arlong. She lifted the small blade and plunged it into her arm, straight through the tattoo. Wincing, she pulled the knife out, hoping that the rain and the blood and the pain would wash away her torment before she plunged it back in over and over, crying all the while. Arlong. 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 She primed the knife to stab her arm once more, but someone grabbed her wrist. She tilted her head just enough to see who it was, tears streaming from her bloodshot eyes. Luffy. What? What are you doing here? Why the fuck are you here? Why, I told you to leave. 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 Her voice had gone from confusion to rage to utter despair. Luffy, she finally pleaded. Please, help me. The teen smiled and removed his hat before placing it on her head, the girl letting out a small gasp at the gesture. With pleasure. He snapped his fingers and the other men walked out of the doctor's office. Coby was still inside since he was injured, but they'd all agreed that he'd done enough in the fights with Krieg and Nezumi. Usopp, you know the way. Take us to Arlong Park. Aye, Captain. Johnny and Yosaku, beaten and bloody, were sitting in front of Arlong Park when the villagers arrived. The sound of the laughter of the Arlong pirates flowed from inside the gate. The bounty hunter's clothes were ragged and Johnny's sunglasses had lost their glass, and they did not move as the men and women of Kokoyashi approached. Move out of the way, Genzo ordered as they drew closer. We have business with Arlong. If you go in there, you'll die, Johnny told them. We know that, but we would rather die fighting than live under Arlong and his crew any longer. Wouldn't you rather live free? Yosaku questioned. Well, of course, Genzo faltered. Then just wait for a few more minutes, Johnny finished. There's going to be a certain group of men that will come and they will free this island from Arlong's control. Who? The Marines, Genzo scoffed. They're being paid off to do nothing and worse. Far from it. Here they come. The armed villagers turned to see 5 men through the haze of the noonday heat, all of their eyes shaded. Each of them walked with an air of malice, their faces shaded by the sun behind them. Several citizens shuddered at the presence these 5 produced as they approached, parting for them as they arrived at the gate. The man in red at the head of the group moved to the gate while his companions formed a semicircle around him. He punched the gate, leaving a fist-sized dent in the metal, much to the crowd's shock. All sound from within the stronghold stopped, one voice calling out to ask the others what that noise had been. The man punched the wall again, leaving another dent. He punched it a third time, ripping the gate from its hinges and flooding the surrounding air with dust that dropped visibility to 0. The dust cleared after a minute to show the fishmen, all of whom were standing with the exception one, surprised expressions on their faces. Which of you is Arlong? The kid who had punched the gate demanded, stepping through the now ruined entrance. That would be me, replied the light blue fishman sitting in the chair. He had a nose like teeth to match. A dorsal fin stuck out of his long, curly, black hair and red sun tattoo was half hidden by his Hawaiian shirt. The mark of his crew was branded in his left forearm. Green shorts and sandals completed his ensemble. May I ask who you are? I'm Luffy, and I'm here to kick your fishy, blue ass. Shahahaha. Arlong laughed, his crew joining in. This pathetic human thinks he can take me on? Shahahaha. Arlong and his crew were too busy laughing at Luffy's, through their eyes, stupidity that they didn't see him approach Arlong's chair. Luffy cocked his fist back and punched Arlong in the face as hard as he could. The fishman went flying, shocking everyone of both species. He smashed into the wall at the other end of Arlong Park, the concrete caving in on either side over the unmoving captain. What? Hatchin the octopus fishman yelled. Nayu, no human from the East Blue should be able to do that. Hatchin had pink skin and 6 arms. Instead of hair, 5 spikes grew out on his head and his mouth stuck out from his face. On his forehead was a sun tattoo similar to Arlong's. He also wore a red shirt with 3 armholes on each side and yellow shorts. You, Koby growled. What are you? Koby was a large, muscular fishman whose skin was a darker blue than his captain's and had long black hair in a stupid hairstyle with some hair sticking up in 2 small, forward-pointing, pointed buns. The majority of his hair was pulled back into a ponytail that fell down to his knees, and his sun tattoo was nearly completely hidden from sight on one pictorial. He was clothed in a navy blue gi held together by a black belt. 2 fins grew from his elbows and looked like they would hurt. "Me?" Luffy questioned, cracking his knuckles. "I'm a pirate." "You bastard," yelled Arlong's unnamed underlings. They ran at Luffy while waving their weapons, but were tossed back from whence they had come in a matter of sconce, scattering their unconscious forms around the area. "Damn it, Luffy," the blonde muttered through a cigarette. "Don't rush ahead. Save some for the rest of us." "He's right, Don," the other man commented, his now stopped weapons revealed to be tonfa with large iron balls on the ends. "It would be disappointing to have come all this way for nothing. We want to show off, too." The other 2 men came up to join them in the center of Arlong Park, silent. "Huh," Chu grunted. "Looks like we'll have to fight after all." Chu had light blue skin and light brown hair that framed his face. His mouth was elongated much like Hachin's, but was thinner than his crewmates, and he was dressed in a darker blue shirt and brown shorts. He had an Arlong tattoo on his right arm and what looked like blush on his cheeks. "Don't worry," Hachin said. He cupped his mouth and blew a noise like a trumpet for 15 seconds. "Momu, come here, Momu." There was silence for a second before a lump in the water started getting bigger until it reached land and broke the surface. It was the sea cow. Momu's gaze swept over the battlefield until it fell on Luffy, Sanji, and Jin. Memories of their last meeting flashed through his head before coming to the conclusion that dealing with them was not worth it. With tears from the memories of the pain caused by those monsters, the sea beast turned and started swimming away. "Wait, Momu," Hachin called, but the sea cow did not stop. "It's fine, Momu," Arlong said with an underlying threat, causing the large creature to freeze. "You can leave if you want, if you're gonna deal with the consequences." His fear of the humans being overridden by his fear of Arlong, Momu turned back and attacked. Expectedly, he was thrown from the island by the combined force of Luffy, Sanji, and Jin. "Alright," Luffy stated, cracking his knuckles as the creature's moo of pain faded into the distance. "There's 4 of them and 5 of us. Who wants who?" "I'll take the octopus," Zoro smirked. "I need to thank him for helping with my escape." "The big one's mine," Sanji answered, dumping ashes from his cigarette. "I'll turn him into sushi. A lot of sushi." "I guess that leaves me with the ugly one," Jin commented. "Unless you want to fight him, Usopp?" "Nope." The sniper responded a little too quickly. "He's all yours." "Stay back, Captain," Koby grunted, falling into a fighting stance. "We'll take care of these pests." Jin seemed to have a similar idea. "Don Luffy, please stand back. You'll need all your energy to fight Arlong. Let us handle his underlings. Usopp, could you please provide cover fire?" Yeah," the long-nosed teen answered. "No problem." The battle began. "You," Hachin shouted, pointing at Zoro with 3 of his arms. "Nayu, you tricked me. You'll pay for that." He cupped his mouth. Hachi ink jet. A stream of black ink shot from the octopus fishman's mouth, arching through the air to hit Zoro. The swordsman was too quick, however, and was able to sidestep the attack. The ink continued on its path, dousing the villagers of Kokoyashi village in black. "Is that the best you can do?" Zoro questioned, running forward as fast as his injured body would allow. His opponent fired several more ink shots, but Zoro was able to easily avoid them. The human reached his foe and slashed at his face. In response, Hachin ducked under the strike. Unfortunately for him, he didn't duck fast enough to save all of him. "My hair!" Hachin yelled, feeling his spikes where Zoro's lone blade had cut through the top 3 of his 5 spikes at a diagonal angle. "Nayu, you'll pay for that. Wait here." "I'm not just gonna wait here," Zoro replied. He swiped at the fishman, but Koby unintentionally got in the way, having been kicked by Sanji. Zoro's sword bounced off of his arm fins as he went flying by with the cook following close behind. "You got in my way, cook," Zoro shouted at the blonde. "I don't have time to deal with you, mosshead," Sanji shouted back as his own foe stood back up. "We'll settle it later." Sanji ran off as Hachin emerged from his room on the 2nd floor of Arlong Park. "Ha," Hachin laughed from the 2nd floor balcony, 1 sword in each of his 6 hands. "Now you face my 6 sword style." He jumped down with his swords pointed forward so all the tips touched, his body spinning with the intent of shredding the pirate hunter upon impact. Zoro stepped out of the way, leaving the fishman to crash. The concrete cracked below him, the octopus groaning. "Ow," Hachin whined, his face supporting the rest of his body. "Nayu, that was a dirty trick. I just moved out of the way." "Damn you," Hachin jumped up and seemed to flail his arms at Zoro. Streaming wolf swords. The swordsman appeared to turn into paper, barely dodging each sword as it came by. At one point, Sanji flew by, but Zoro was too focused on dodging to notice. His focus was rewarded, however, by the smallest opening in Hachin's guard, allowing the human to meet his cheek with a pommel strike. As Hachin stumbled back, Zoro called out to the ragged men on the sidelines. "Johnny, Yosaku?" I need your swords." "Sure thing, big bro," Johnny yelled back. The bounty hunters threw their swords toward the swordsman, who managed to jump into the air and catch the weapons with a surprising amount of ease. His own sword now firmly in his mouth, Zoro came down on Hatchin like a hunter out for blood. The fishman was on the defensive, all 6 of his swords being needed to fend off his opponent's 3. He didn't know how it was possible. This man was only a human, a wounded human if the bloody bandages were anything to go by, so how was it that he was not only keeping up with him, but beating him with half as many swords? Hatchin leapt back to put space between them and prepared an attack to rip his human foe apart. "Nayu, I'm done with you," the pink fishman yelled as he touched all of his swords tips together in front of him. Octopus pot stance. New Year's explosions. Hatchin rushed forward, but his swords were all stopped when Zoro met their points with his own overlapping weapons. Hadn't it, however, as he just pulled his swords apart, the force throwing Zoro off balance. Taking his advantage, the octopus man shot forward to headbutt Zoro in the chest, right over his wound. Zoro let out a pained yell around Wado Ichimonji as the force partially reopened his injury from his fight with Mihawk. He stumbled back, one fist press against his chest to try to numb the pain. Through his cloudy eyes, he was just able to see his opponent coming in for an unannounced attack, but he had enough time to counter. Dragon Whirlwind. Zoro spun, his swords kicking up a dust cloud from the displaced air. The force of the wind was strong enough to lift Hatchin and all of his swords. The fishman went up and came back down, as gravity did, hitting the ground for the second time that fight. "Nayu, you got lucky," the 6-armed octopus man declared, jumping up from what must have been a painful landing. "I'll get you this time, forward 6 sword waltz." He started spinning his blades like a fan and began walking toward the human with slow, steady steps. The green-haired man lunged forward. Demon slash. Zoro ended in a crouch behind his shocked adversary, said adversary's weapons falling apart in his hands. Hatchin was still, a look of disbelief on his face as his 300 pounds. Swords fell to pieces, leaving only the handles in his hands. A second later, 3 slashes opened on his chest, blood falling from the relatively shallow but long wounds. Hatchin passed out, the shock combined with the sudden blood loss forcing his consciousness to shut down. Zoro sheathed Wado Ichimonji as the large fish man collapsed. Zoro followed soon after, not unconscious but weak from blood loss. "You have no chance of winning," Koby sneered at his cigarette-smoking opponent, falling into a fighting stance as he did so. His right arm was extended and his right leg was placed forward. "I am a 40th Dan in Fishman Karate. You are outmatched." "Your voice is getting on my nerves," Sanji replied, breathing out smoke. "I've got a lot of food I need to make for our celebration tonight, so if we could move this along, that would be great." "You overestimate yourself," Koby shouted, shooting forward. The chef's leg snapped up, slamming into his opponent's face with his steel-toed shoe before the fishman could react. Koby grunted as he was sent flying. "No," Sanji muttered. "You underestimate me." While in the air, Koby did not hear his opponent, nor did he feel something glance off of one of his fins since the small sensation was dwarfed by the pain the cook's kick had caused. Cracking his nose, Koby smashed into the wall as 2 of the invading crew yelled at each other. "You got in my way, cook," Zoro shouted at the blonde. "I don't have time to deal with you, mosshead," Sanji shouted back as his own foe stood back up. "We'll settle it later." Sanji ran forward, roundhouse kicking Koby in the side of the head before he could really get back on his feet. Yeah, it was a dirty tactic, but it was a fight between pirates. Pirates played dirty. Koby managed to snap himself out of the shock of how strong his foe was while in the air from the second kick, flipping and landing on his feet before skidding a few feet to slow himself. "You bastard," Koby growled, brushing dust off his GI. "I'm going to break those legs of yours. I'd like to see you try." Incised, Koby charged, prompting Sanji to jump into a spinning hook kick. Koby, however, now had a feel for the chef's fighting style and ducked under the kick. The fishman caught his leg and lifted the chef over his head before throwing the human into the concrete at his feet, the damage causing the human to cough up blood. Giving him no time to collect himself, the black belt picked Sanji up and smacked him with one of his fins, throwing him across Arlong Park. The human reached the far wall and smashed through it, leaving a hole and flopping onto the road. "Well, that's done," Koby growled. He glanced over to his crewmates' fights. Hatchin was attacking Roronoa with his swords and Chu was shooting water from the sea at the scruffy man with the tonfa and the long-nosed kid, both of whom were worse for wear. He moved to join Chu in his 2-on-1 battle, but an attack from the Battle of the Swordsman knocked Hachi back. He saw Hachi fall and thought it would be best to help the octopus man first. He never got to. On his way to their fight, a voice shouted something like nonsense before Koby was attacked. Exploding star. A fiery explosion covered the top half of Koby's body, lightly burning his GI in the process but otherwise doing no harm. Koby's eyes scanned the area, looking for the fool that dared to attack him. Finally, his gaze landed on the teen with the slingshot. "You're going to pay for that, long nose," Koby rushed the long-range fighter who paled and took off toward the crowd of villagers. The fishman followed. He stopped to glance at the armed mob at the gates, but when another, weaker explosion hit him, his focus was transferred back to the long-nosed pest. Koby charged after the sniper, nearing the body of the blonde he'd fought earlier, not noticing that he now had a new cigarette in his mouth. Sanji's hand shot out as he passed, grabbing his ankle. Koby tripped from the unexpected obstacle, face planting into the dirt road. The chef got in front of him and kicked him back into the compound with a cry of, "Vo shot." It was over with the next barrage of attacks. Collar. Sanji's right foot smashed into the spot between Koby's neck and shoulder. Flank. A kick to the side rolled him onto his front. Lower back. The cook's heel dug into the fishman's spine, forcing his head up. Chin. A rising kick picked the large pirate into the air. Ribs. The Ray fishman was launched into the building, smashing through several rooms on the ground floor. He came out the back wall, his limp form draped over the wreckage that had been part of the last wall. Sanji lit another cigarette, his third of the battle, as blood flowed freely from a wound on his head. He blew smoke. Now it's done. He won't be coming back. He puffed his cancer stick. They're all just seafood anyway. A fish couldn't fight a cook. I don't know what he was thinking. It was you that called me, the ugly one, wasn't it? Chew. Chew growled, dropping into his starting position. I'll make you regret that, Chew. Yeah? You think you can deal with me? My bounty is 12 million, while yours is, what, 0? Bounties mean nothing. Fishmen are the superior race, and there is no amount of numbers will change that, Chew. That verbal tick of yours is really annoying, Jin shot back, cracking his neck with his eyes closed. Chew opened his mouth to retort, but his words died as Jin's eyes snapped open, a crazed smile stretching over his face. Jin laughed, shooting forward with Tonfa spinning into an overhead swing with his right weapon. The first attack forced Chew to block with both forearms, allowing the human pirate to bring his weapon's twin in from the left, smashing the weight on the end into the fishman's ribs. Chew grunted in pain, but was otherwise unaffected. He smirked. You're tough, Jin admitted, the gleam in his eye brightening. That means I can beat you more. That's more fun for me. Chew's smirk fizzled at the look, having never seen the sort of evil grin this pirate was directing at him. A lead ball nailed Chew in the forehead, disorienting the fishman. Jin's tonfa spun into his face, throwing him away. Jin stepped back, shaking his head as if he had been in a daze. Chew grumbled in annoyance. He rolled away when he heard a cry of, "Flame Star." A small pellet hit the concrete where he had been only a second ago, bursting into a flame that died the second afterward but left a scorch mark on the ground. Wait a second. I know you. His eyes locked onto Usopp. You're the one that was shooting at our captain, Chew. Yeah, I was, the sniper declared, brimming with courage brought about by being behind a fighter like Jin, who's Sanji. What's it to you? Chew jumped away, a weighted tonfa crushing the ground he'd been on. Damn it, let me talk, Chew. Why? Jin growled. So you can keep saying, Chew, no thanks. Jin spun, giving his weapons more force as he struck at his foe. Chew rolled away from the iron, dodging Usopp's attacks all the while. He ran to the water before diving in to avoid a lead star. Damn, Usopp cursed. What now? Get ready to move, Jin advised. He's a fishman. We don't know what he can do in the water, but we are not going to follow. Squirt gun. Jin didn't finish, a pressurized stream of water slamming into his chest and blowing him into and through the first wall of Arlong Park's building. Jin, Usopp yelled. You're next, long nose. Chew shouted, 1,000 shot squirt gun. Crap. The long-nosed teen dove to the right, just avoiding the ball of water that punched through the wall behind him like a bullet. Chew didn't stop at one, Usopp having to dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge until he managed to jump behind enough rubble to hold off the barrage. Fireball. He yelled as he popped up over the wall for only a moment, trying to get in a counterattack. The coming ball of fire was too big for any small drop to stop it, forcing Chew to cut off his attack and duck below the surface. The attack hit the surface of the water, the heat causing the surface to steam. Usopp took his opportunity and ran to Jin's side where he lay in the rubble of the wall inside the building. The side of his face was covered in his own blood and there was a piece of shrapnel in his left arm. Come on, Jin, he begged. Get up, you're stronger than me. URG, Jin moaned, rolling onto his side and coughing up a glob of blood. What am I to you, a human shield? Now's not the time for that. Usopp panicked as Chew resurfaced, cheeks full of water. Stop him, Jin called out. Exploding star. Despite the stress, Usopp's aim was true, plugging Chew's mouth with a pellet that exploded. Unfortunately, due to half of the projectile getting wet, it only blew up with half of the usual force. Chew! The fishman yelled in pain, his arms coming up to his face. Soot streaked his face and arms, and his hair was stuff blown back. Getting his bearings quickly, he bent over and started sucking up water once more. Jin, do something, I I'm a close-range fighter and the gunpowder in my flintlock is wet. You do something. Chu started swelling, the water intake causing his body to expand. What do you want me to do? I don't know, do you have any poisons, something to interrupt his insides? No, why would I? Wait, Usopp rummaged around in his bag. Got it, smoke and pepper star combo. At first, it seemed like he had fallen short of the fishman, but the 2 capsules broke in the water, coloring the sea a dark gray. Too absorbed in his preparations to stop before it reached him, Chu sucked up the smoky water. His eyes bugged out comically as the spices and chemicals were pulled into his insides. He sneezed, all of the water throwing both Jin and Usopp back into the rubble in one big wave. Chu couldn't see them from the water now through the pain, but he didn't want to take chances. He filled himself with uncontaminated seawater before climbing out of the ocean, his opponents likewise pulling themselves out of the rubble of the front of Arlong Park. Jin saw him first, shoving the remains of Arlong's chair off of himself. Ah shit. 1,000-shot squirt gun. More watery bullets shot from Chu's mouth, forcing Usopp and Jin to dodge behind the same rubble Usopp had used earlier, the latter trying to block some shots with his tonfa. A yell attracted Jin's attention to Sanji's body ragdolling into and through the park's border wall. Usopp, Jin whispered as high-velocity water whizzed over their heads. Sanji was just hit. I think can take this one now that he's on land. Distract the big guy. Got it. Exploding star. You're going to pay for that, long nose, Sanji's opponent shouted. Run. Usopp took Jin's suggestion, sprinting away at top speed with Koby in hot pursuit. Jin turned back to his fight, that dark smirk from earlier returning at full force. He swung at a large piece of wall, breaking it and throwing the pieces toward the thin fishman. Chu deflected the ballistic rubble with 1 shot of water each, but the distraction was enough to let Jin close the distance. His right weight slammed into Chu's stomach, doubling him over and making him spit up the rest of the water inside him with a hard cough, before the other smashed into the side of his face, throwing Chu to the right. Jin followed, raising both tonfa up before bringing them down on top of his foe's back. The former Krieg pirate did not let up, hitting him as hard as he could. Finally, Jin struck the back of the fishman's head, driving Chu's face into the concrete hard enough to leave an imprint. Chu didn't move. Jin stood over his bloodied opponent, not a hint of pity in his eye. Hachi. Koby. Chu. Arlong muttered in a mixture of disappointment and disbelief from where he was sitting on a piece of debris where Luffy had first punched him into the far wall. His eyes moved over each of his most trusted friends. To think you 3 would be beaten by mere humans. Don, Jin told Luffy in his ever-respectful manner, stepping over to his captain and giving a small bow. Arlong is alone. Would you like us to fight him? No, Luffy responded, his eyes never leaving Arlong. He's mine. The human team stepped forward as his male crewmates went to stand between the pirate captains and the people of Kokoyashi village. Despite his protests, Zoro ended up getting help from Jin as to not reopen his wounds. Usopp had taken up residence in the hole Sanji's body had made in the wall around the park. Nami Swan, Sanji yelled, his body seeming to turn into noodles at the sight of the orange-haired girl wearing Luffy's hat, said girl now standing between Genzo and Nijiko. She had her bow staff out, but Zoro and Jin doubted that she would be able to use it with her bandaged shoulder, the town's doctor still fussing over her injury. Did you see what I did? Are you impressed with me? Do you love me yet? Shut up, Arrow Cook, Zoro growled, pushing himself off Jin's shoulder to stand with his own power. The fight's not over yet. Luffy, Nami whispered, eyes locked on the pre-battle banter. She didn't respond to Sanji, or anyone else for that matter. Do you know the biggest difference between you and me? Arlong asked, standing so that he towered over the rubber team. He still did not know of this human's power since Luffy had not fought yet, but Arlong knew that he should not underestimate this boy if he had the respect of the infamous Roronoa Zoro or the other humans powerful enough to overcome his 3 lieutenants. The nose? Luffy answered honestly, cracking his knuckles. The jaw? Luffy seemed to come to a revelation and pointed to his hand, webbing. Species. Arlong roared. He swiped at Luffy before throwing his head forward to bite at the other pirate. Luffy danced away as quickly as he could, jumping back from the fishman's attack. Arlong continued his assault, trying to take the teen's head off with his teeth. Gum pistol. Luffy's arm stretched, surprising the fishman who was thrown into the far wall, again. He rose from the wreckage, pissed but undamaged. So you ate a devil fruit. This just got more interesting. Arlong shot forward, his webbed fist striking Luffy's face. The blow did no damage, but the force threw Luffy back, making him land on his neck in a way that would have killed him had he not eaten the gum fruit. Though the attack itself wasn't dangerous to his rubber body, the trench carved into the concrete as Luffy slowed was enough of a testament to the power behind it. Even with Luffy knocked away, Arlong suspected that would not be enough to keep the tenacious human down, so he took the time to prepare for a new attack. He reached into his mouth and yanked out Higgum's exposed. Due to his shark heritage, they completely grew back a second later. He repeated the process with the other hand, so he had one set of teeth in each hand and one in his mouth. Tooth attack, Arlong shouted, shooting forward. Luffy scrambled out of the way. Where Arlong's teeth hit the concrete, it cracked and splintered to leave tooth-shaped potholes. The fishman gave that no mind and attacked again and again. Crap! Luffy yelled, narrowly avoiding a swipe to his face. Unfortunately, Arlong was faster than he appeared. One pair of teeth grabbing Luffy as he tried to jump away. The teen screamed as the improvised weapons pierced his calf, dragging him down into the ground. Luffy! Nami voice yelled from the crowd, the worry clear in her tone. Well, Arlong smirked, stomping on Luffy's stomach so he couldn't roll away. If it isn't the prize of this fight. Shahahaha. Get a good look, Nami. This is the future. Fishmen forever above humans. Shahahaha. Luffy countered Arlong's boasts with an unannounced gum pistol. The fishman lost his hold on the teeth he was holding and the ones in his mouth broke. Luffy jumped to his feet, letting only a grimace show how much the holes in his leg hurt. Gum whip. Luffy's uninjured leg shot out, blindsiding Arlong and smashing him into the building, his broken teeth falling from his mouth. There was no movement. Is it over? Luffy questioned, disappointed. Have we won? Genzo asked into the silence. We woe? Arlong burst from the building with a cry of rage, a crazed look in his eyes and a weapon in his hand. It was about 4 feet long with 6 triangular blades coming out of one side. It's the saw blade, Nami gasped. Neither Luffy nor Arlong heard her as they were too focused on each other. The fishman swung the blade horizontally. Luffy jumped over it and the fishman, but Arlong expected something like that. He let Luffy land before he spun, lunging toward the human and delivering an uppercut to his jaw that rocketed Luffy to the upper level of Arlong Park. He cashed through the far left window of the highest level, the map room. Luffy found himself surrounded by paper maps. Crashes outside indicated that Arlong was coming and he wasn't taking the stairs. That didn't give Luffy much time to take in his surroundings and devise any sort of strategy. There were 2 bookcases on his right side and a desk against the wall opposite the new hole. A small basket of rolled-up papers sat beside the desk, but what caught his attention and made his blood boil was the feather pen resting on the desk, said feather stained a dark red. The fishman smashed the wall beneath the broken window and stepped through the new hole to see Luffy holding a feather pen stained with old blood. Arlong aimed the saw blade at the unmoving pirate, placing his head between 2 of the triangular blades. There's nowhere else to run, human, Arlong sneered. It's just you and me, here, in the highest level of Arlong Park. We will finish this now. What is this place? Luffy asked, undaunted by the large weapon by his throat. His hair shadowed his eyes, not meeting those of his foe. This is the room where I forced Nami to draw all of her sea charts for me, Arlong answered. He saw no reason to deny the other pirate an answer and said pirate would be dead soon. Her talents are too good for human scum like you and yours. She belongs to me and I will use her to bring about the mighty Arlong Empire. I don't care what you say, Luffy retorted, because Nami is my navigator. You want her to navigate for your piece of shit pirate crew? What a monumental waste of her potential. She will continue to draw sea charts for me. Luffy reached up and grabbed the blade before him as his other hand set the pen down. Arlong tried to move his weapon, but for some reason it wouldn't budge. Luffy squeezed, shattering the sharpened triangle in his grip. No, Arlong yelled in disbelief. That weapon he'd been with him even back in his days with Fisher Tiger and the Sun Pirates. How could a mere human child break it with only his bare hands? Use her? Luffy growled. Use her? You bastard, what do you take her for? Arlong tried to play off his nervous laugh as confidence. She's an inferior creature, but she has risen far above her peers. If you are all sewer rats, she's a feisty little kitten. After all, she is adorable. Luffy couldn't help but to agree, but no one needed to know that, so he kept quiet. She has her place, and it's next to me, so Nami will forever be my tool? Shahaha, shahahaha. A desk flew by Arlong's head, smashing through what was left of the outer wall and scattering its contents to the wind. Both bookcases, one broken in half, followed. What do you think you're doing? The fishman shouted. Luffy didn't respond as he kicked the desk's bench where Nami had spent many hours drawing, forcing Arlong to duck and sending it out of the hole as well. The falling furniture outside brought memories back to the navigator in question, but that did not impact the fight. Stop it now, Arlong yelled, swinging at the teen with the remainder of his weapon. Luffy hopped out of the way, leaving a stack of sea charts to be cleaved in half by the broken blade. My charts, much to Arlong's shock, Luffy kicked the cut charts, making them float away in the wind. Arlong grabbed the neck of the younger pirate as he bounced past to wreck more of the room, slamming his head into the wall. Luffy tried to gasp through the hold, his hands clutching at Arlong's webbed fingers around his neck. Damn you, you human boy, Arlong cursed, his pupils shrinking in rage. That was 8 years of work, 8 years of planning and preparation, wasted. Luffy flailed his legs, breaking more of the room as they randomly stretched. To stop him, Arlong went to bite down on his neck and sever his jugular, but Luffy knew that a bite to the neck would kill him. He reached forward and grabbed Arlong's nose. The serrated sides bit into his fingers, but Luffy didn't care for his own pain. With a sharp twist, the proud nose of Arlong broke. "I get it now," Luffy muttered as the fishman cried out in pain, backing away to clutch at his twisted nose. "This isn't Nami's room. It's her jail cell, and the only way for her to be free is to destroy it." Luffy threw his right leg through the ceiling and brought it down before Arlong could react. Gum Gum Battle Axe. Luffy's voice echoed over the island as his sandaled foot came down on the tyrannical fishman, driving him into and through the floor. Every floor below the Sharkman was crushed by the force. At the bottom lay Arlong, beaten and broken. The structural damage was too much for the building. Cracks formed and widened. Walls came apart. A massive dust cloud grew from the falling rubble as the building fell in on itself. Arlong Park had fallen. The people celebrated. Men kissed their wives, children played, voices sang. "Luffy?" Nami asked, worry lacing her voice as the rubber pirate did not emerge from the wreckage. She shuffled forward a few steps. "Luffy? Luffy?" Nami was the first one to move, the rest of the crew following her as she ran to the destroyed building. Being the first to arrive, Nami grabbed the first stone she could lift and threw it behind her, hitting Usopp in the face. She didn't care, of course. All of her thoughts were focused on finding Luffy and making sure he was okay. "Luffy, Don," the guys of the crew fanned out, the rest of the village's populace joining the pirates in their excavation efforts. The minute they searched felt like hours, the terror of never finding their savior mounting, until Nami finally managed to shift a large chunk of roof to reveal the red cardigan Luffy wore. "Luffy," Nami grabbed the shirt and pulled, ignoring the pain from her bandaged arm. As Luffy's body usually did, his limbs stretched from where they were still trapped under the rubble. Usopp reached Nami's side in a moment, also grabbing a part of their captain. Jin came next, followed by Zoro, Sanji, Genzo, and Nijiko. But Luffy came out easily. "Oh hey," he smiled, looking up at his crew. "I'm alive, that's nice." "You idiot," Nami cried, wrapping Luffy in a hug. Tears rolled down her cheeks and soaked into the rubberman's shoulder. The navigator squeezing him for all he was worth as 8 years of pain and suffering were released in moments. "I was so worried, I thought you were gone. I don't know." "I'm fine, Nami," Luffy interrupted, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You asked me to help you, and that's what I did. Arlong said you were his tool, but he was wrong. You're my friend, and I'll do anything for my friends." "Thank you." Before Nami knew what she was doing, on her knees holding the blooded form of the pirate who had saved her village, she kissed him. Behind her, Sanji grasped his heart, his skin rapidly paling. If one listened really closely, they could hear the sound of shattering glass. Nami backed off after several seconds, a scarlet blush over her cheeks. She handed Luffy's hat back to him, unable to look him in the eye. Luffy didn't know why. Dayton had never really explained, but he'd felt really happy when their lips had touched. He leaned in and captured her lips once more. Nami's eyes widened. Is this what she wanted? Her thoughts seemed to make the world slow down and shrink until it was just her and Luffy, his lips on hers. She'd never done anything like this before, and was Luffy, one of the biggest morons she'd ever met, really the one she wanted in any way? Well, he did save her village, and her, and Usopp's village, and the Baratier, and Luffy was going to be the king of the pirates. With that thought, Nami melted into the kiss and wrapped her arms around him. Luffy was going to become the king, which would make him both royalty and very, very wealthy. Nami supposed she could get used to that, even if it took a while to get there. Knowing Luffy, she'll probably fall hard for him along the way. Harder than she might have already. "You straw hat bastard. Get your rubbery hands off of my gnaw." Jin sighed and whacked Sanji in the back of the head with a tonfa, knocking the chef unconscious and putting out the fire in his visible eye. "Hold it right there," a new voice yelled. The moment was shattered. From the road came Marine Captain Nezumi and his contingent of lackeys, his right arm in a sling. What a lucky day for me. I saw everything, and I must say, I'm very surprised. I never thought Arlong would be beaten by a bunch of upstarts, but it doesn't matter. All of the credit will go to Captain Nezumi of Marine Branch 16, Chi. Rubble crunched under Zoro's boot, the swordsman, silently approaching the Marine. "You're the one that shot my apprentice," he growled, cracking his knuckles. "You're gonna pay for that." A moment later, Nezumi and his men laid on the ground, bleeding and covered in bruises. I'll get you," he mumbled through his cracked teeth and busted lip. "Luffy's Capine, rig, dis'll have serious consequences." "We'll take our chances," Zoro told him. Nami unwrapped herself from Luffy's arms and walked up to the injured rat. "This is for taking my money and destroying Bellemere's tangerines," she shouted, bringing her bow down on the beaten man. "And give me back my money." I promise. The girl kicked him into the water where he swam away. "Usopp," she ordered, "Scruffy. Find their ship. I don't want them leaving without giving us that money." We'll need it for supplies after we set out. Right. The two took off, Jin complaining about being called scruffy. The entire island partied for several hours, Usopp and Sanji making fools of themselves and Luffy stuffing his face the entire time. Jin had already won 2 drinking competitions and was in a third. Zoro, Johnny, Yosaku, and Koby were in the doctor's office, recovering. Zoro was getting his stitches fixed when Luffy popped in, sticking his head through the window. "Hey, have you guys seen Nami anywhere?" he asked, a piece of meat on the bone in his hand. "Why?" Zoro smirked through the pain. "You looking for your new girlfriend?" "Girlfriend?" Koby yelled in surprise. "Yeah," Luffy answered without pause. "Well," Genzo started, "if she's not in the village, there's only one place she could be. I wouldn't disturb her." "Well, alright. Thanks." "What girlfriend?" Koby shouted. "What did I miss?" It was the 3rd straight day of partying. All of the swordsmen had been released the previous day and were out enjoying themselves with everyone else. Luffy had wandered out of the village in search of a raw ham melon. An entire watermelon covered in swaths of ham and entirely wrapped in bacon. He'd ended up on a hill overlooking the ocean. Before him sat Genzo, a cross placed in the ground before him. Luffy was silent. Now that he was dating Nami, Sanji and, surprising, Koby had pounded at least some proper etiquette into him through the partying. He'd learned that Genzo was the closest thing Nami had had to a father figure. He turned to leave, not wanting to disturb the man at the grave. "Wait there a second," Genzo ordered. He stood and turned, facing the pirate. "You know Nami has decided to join you on your adventure, correct?" "Yeah." "Then listen well. If I hear that anyone on your ship, you in particular, make Nami cry, I will track you down and kill you myself. Is that understood?" "Absolutely." Luffy gave him one of his wide grins. "Nami's my navigator, my nakama, my girlfriend. I'd rather die than make her cry." "Well, you better not. She'd cry if you went and died on her." "Trust me. I can't die until I've become the Pirate King with Nami as my queen." Luffy didn't wait for a response. He turned and headed back to the village. Genzo smiled slightly as the pirate wandered away. Luffy had this fire inside him. He just knew that the boy wouldn't go anywhere without his friends and that they would help him reach his dream. The Mary had been stocked with everything the group would need until they reached the Grand Line. Arlong Park had been pillaged by the people and everything of value taken to help rebuild the towns of the island. Zoro had gone back and stolen 4 swords. 2 as temporary replacements for himself and 2 for Koby in case they were unable to get anything better. To remember her adopted mother, Nami had asked Luffy if she could take some tangerine trees with them. He had readily given her what she wanted, him, Sanji, and a slightly forced Jin doing most of the heavy lifting. Zoro had taken Koby into the forest to do some light training to make sure both of them were good as new, even if Zoro now had a scar from Hawkeye's last attack and Koby 3 scars from Nezumi's men shooting him. Now, every resident of Kokoyashi village but one was on the docks to wave goodbye to the Straw Hat Pirates. The villagers were getting annoyed, however. Where was Nami? "Set sail." They heard the woman of their thoughts yell. She was standing 200 feet away, proudly displaying her new tattoo that had replaced Arlong's mark. A tangerine on a pinwheel. "You heard her," Luffy called. "Let's go, she's gonna leave without letting us thank her." One villager realized. They tried to stop her, but it was too late. She rushed through the crowd, passing by each person once. When she reached the end of the dock, the thief leapt off as hard as she could. Luffy's arms stretched, wrapping around her waist and pulling her in. She pecked him on the lips before pulling back. The girl then lifted the hem of her shirt, allowing all of the wallets and purses that she's just stolen to tumble to the deck. "What? My wallet's gone. She took my purse. You damn thief, we'll miss you." Nami didn't turn around, or cry, or say goodbye. They sailed away, the voices of the townspeople echoing in the wind. "Thank you."